Sword of Coming Chapter 965. Baiyujing Biyun Tower, Jianghu Palace Xianxia Cave. There was a young monk with a thin body, a withered face and sunken cheeks. At this time, his expression was solemn and thoughtful. Sitting cross-legged on the top of the mountain, he looked down at a long clay tablet, which seemed to use iron nails to write a word of truth. He has 10 fingers, blood and blood. It's a veritable one. Because I just got a very weird hexagram, the sign is even more unpredictable. 300 years of Taoist funeral is to win this monarch. It's a pity that he has worked hard to deduct it several times, and the word this cannot be replaced with a certain surname. So who is this person? What's your last name? Who is the predecessor? Which Dao vein will it belong to? When will it come out again? Is it the kind of monster at the beginning of the troubled times, or the strange person at the beginning of the founding of the country? Could it be that the Qingming world, which has been in peace for a long time, is about to usher in a change that has not been seen in 10,000 years, and it is doomed to be chaotic, and then this person will be born in 500 years? Or is it just because of the appearance of this person that there has been a turbulent world for 500 years? Is it a disciple of the Taoist ancestor with that name Shanqing? So it belongs to Lu Qin to take precautions and has a countermeasure already? Or is it that the great head teacher will return to Baiyujing 500 years later to settle the chaos in the Qingming world? Or is it Su Jun, the ghost repairer of Dachao sect? Or is it the remnants of the line of the rice thief in Yongzhou, and is very hopeful to become the master of this line of mixed Taoism, the younger Wang Yuanlu who has risen to fame? He looked up to the sky, but unfortunately he couldn't get out. It's not right. If you go out, it will only be a momentary disorder, and I am afraid that everything will be inaccurate and it will become more confusing. He exhaled a long breath, pulled out the iron nails one by one, and put them in a cotton bag tied around his waist. There were 10 fingers, bones visible, but his face was not different. If you are outside here, this kind of injury is really nothing, but the problem is that this is the Xianxia cave of Jianghu Palace. Regardless of what kind of person you were before, there is nothing wrong with Taoism and Taoism. You can't be a food for cultivation. Eat, but the meat hurts, but it will definitely hurt. If you get a stick, you will definitely have to jump your feet. Someone was stabbed not long ago, and his intestines slid to the ground. That person died when he said he was dead, as if he was still a proficient talisman before entering the Xianxia cave of Jianghu Palace. Very. And this person who could monopolize several hills was named Zhang Fenghai, and he was once the next city lord of Yushu City? Indeed. His 2 senior brothers, Guijie and Shao Xiang, regarded this as a matter of course, and Zhang Fenghai himself thought so. In fact, the whole of Baiyujing and Qingming in the early years was the same. 90-year-old ascendant. According to some gossip, this was still the old city lord of Yushu City, deliberately helping the closed disciples to falsely report their age. In fact, Zhang Fenghai was only 81 when he broke the bottleneck of the fairyland. The key is Zhang Fenghai, a well-deserved cultivator of all-round talent. He is proficient in everything such as talisman, alchemy, formations, arithmetic, etc. On the 12th floor of the 5th city of Baiyujing, Zhang Fenghai is extremely outstanding. In addition, if Zhang Fenghai hadn't been secretly instructed by the master, he would have been deliberately delaying the speed of breaking the boundary. Maybe 40 years old, at most 50 years old, he would be an ascendant cultivator. It seems that apart from not being a pure sword repairman, Zhang Haifeng's monastic career is flawless. It's a pity that I met Zhang Fenghai, the second head teacher Yudo, who threatened to leave Baiyujing, but he failed to get out of Baiyujing with his skills. He was imprisoned in the Xianxia cave of Jianghu Palace, which was specially used to imprison great monks. This ban is almost 800 years old. This is a Maxing cave that is famous all over the world. Similar to the Confucian temple Gongda-lin in the world, the living buried nunnery of a certain vein in the Western Buddhist kingdom. Zhang Fenghai has been here for nearly 800 years. Since he can't practice, he can barely be called the right thing. There is only one thing. Since Tao is not Tao, then I must first determine what is not Tao. The Tao is getting closer. In addition, with the technique of visualization and the way of deduction, a nihilistic body is created out of nothing, tempering the physique, creating a large talisman, refining, cutting the 3 corpses and then merging and cutting. These are all trivial things. To say that this is Yudo's intentions, deliberately sharpening Zhang Fenghai's edge so that this little head teacher can devote himself to cultivating the Tao, and with this he can enter the 14th realm, and then the day when the two meet again, abandon the previous suspicions and meet each other with a smile. That would be too small to underestimate that truly invincible Dao Xian. Yudo disdains it at all. And Zhang Fenghai is also sincerely grateful to Yudo for not doing so, not like this. Zhang Fenghai raised his eyes and looked at him, twitching the corners of his mouth. Fortunately, he stopped drinking. It seems that it is easy to quit drinking, just drink without alcohol. In addition to him, the Taoist official of Yushu City, who was once known as the Little Master of Baiyujing, who died here quietly, there are also the two vice hosts on the 12th floor of Baiyujing. They used to be a pair of Taoist companion. It was also because of violating Baiyujing's golden rules and regulations that he was led into this place by the head of the Huangjia and thought behind closed doors. I heard that among the 3,000 Taoists who rushed to the colorful world, there was a monk from Qingxi Palace who was born in one of the ancestors of the Fulu school, Yuanjing, named Nanshan. The relationship with the Harvest Mountain, the two top sects, is just like the early Liangjingshan and Daqiazong, the female cultivator named Yuran, and Nanshan, the pair of young earth immortals born in the same year and the same month. Even the time is exactly the same. Not bad at all. In the dark, it is simply a heaven-made match made of heaven and beauty. That's right. In Yinzhou, Chaoga can be a Taoist couple with Su Jun. Why don't they do it in this life? In this haze cave, everyone is suppressed by the Great Road, and the monks who migrated and imprisoned here, no matter what cultivation level or high realm they are outside, all become literally boundless people, without the slightest aura of heaven and earth. Naturally, it is impossible to practice qi cultivation, and all the monks have been beaten back to their original form. The tough bodies and souls that have been tempered by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth on the path of cultivation are here again no different from ordinary people, weak, but the only the exception to this is that it does not hurt the original destined xianxia. In short, it is the speed of the long river of time which is completely different from the outside world. The human body will still slowly decay, but the speed will slow down. It must be Tao Zu's handwriting. Zhang Fenghai stood up and stayed here for nearly 800 years. Zhang Fenghai guarded his 1-acre 3-point land. For example, looking from the top of the mountain, the water chestnuts were green and endless. There is an old man who has been helping to look after the water wheel by the river over the years, saying that he is helping, but in fact he is attached to Zhang Fenghai and has a backing so that he will not be having fun every day, such as kicking on the ground and peeing on his head. The old man, who has forgotten how many years he has been here, would have frostbite on his hands every winter, blood-drenched and miserable. Not long ago he plowed the farmland and he dug out a broken sword tip and gave it to Zhang Fenghai, a bit like renting out. It is a pity that Zhang Fenghai went to search, but could not find the rest of the broken sword. This kind of thing depends on fate. Zhang Fenghai heard people say afterwards that when the old man found the tip of the sword, his nails were covered with dry hands, and he stubbornly grasped the old thing that I don't know belonged to, and finally sat on the ridge, startled at first. Lost, whispered, and chanted an ancient 5-character poem repeatedly. The reason for repeating it is that he often reads halfway and forgets the following. The old man will free his hand and beat his head vigorously until he remembers one sentence. I did it again, maybe because I didn't remember the whole poem or because I remembered the whole poem. The old man, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly pulled off his hoarse voice and howled hard, as if it was better than being taken by someone. The rope tied around his neck for a dog walk made the old man sad. Probably because the old man was once a sword repairman. As for the 5-character ancient poem, Zhang Fenghai did not ask the reporter about the name. No need. www. Novel. Com. Zhang Fenghai, who is extremely complicated, can guess it. A woman with a dark complexion and a slender figure walked to the top of the mountain. She was the one who accompanied the old man to climb the mountain to find Zhang Fenghai. She stretched her hand around the top of her head and expelled a few annoying butterflies. She was silent for a long time and finally spoke. Asked, "What do you think?" Although she is a wooden hairpin with sackcloth and straw sandals, she is extremely shabby, but the colorful butterflies flutter around the wooden hairpin. If you are not working all year round and your skin is rough due to the sun, you would be a great beauty. It was a woman who voluntarily asked to enter the Xianxia cave of Jianghu Palace. At first, Baiyujing didn't pay attention to it. Later she committed a prohibition and was thrown here. This woman's crown, named Xuanhuan, is named Xiyun. She used to be the ancestor of the immortal rod sect, and she seemed to be looking for someone here. She had fulfilled her wish, but she had not fulfilled her wish, because the person she was looking for was already a dead bone. After she personally buried the corpse, there was no regret medicine to take anyway. Just as she had come, she was at ease. It is not easy to come here anyway, let alone go out. She had no intention of leaving alive, so she settled down here, but in order to protect herself and not be insulted, she found Zhang Fenghai, who was similar to a maid in these years. In this place, old people, women to be precise, the weak will end up miserably. If you want to live, especially if you want to live decently, you have to live undecently at all. Xuanhuan looked dull and turned a deaf ear. The teacher changed the subject, pointed his finger at the wheat field and said with a smile, "It seems that this year's harvest is better than previous years by at least 30%. Xuanhuan followed and laughed. The two great monks who were once distinguished, smiled sincerely for the harvest of the wheat fields. This is something that is unimaginable outside. Except for her, there are many strange people and strange things here. There was a short old man who was covered with ancient swords. He didn't know what method he used to hang himself and he was able to survive. Year after year, he has survived many late entry juniors. He is often scolded as an old beast, probably from a monster clan. The reason why no one insulted him seems to be because the old man was able to fight and fight. He once drew out an ancient sword from his body and chopped a green and strong man into mashed flesh. The bamboo poles are dried in the sun and chewed as dried meat. There is also a young man who seems to be one of the ancestors of the rice thief. For so many years I only like to make porcelain and then people will often break into the hut, beat it up and then cry with grievances and continue to burn the porcelain. Some people are proficient in water and occupy a large section of the river. They make a living by fishing and fishing all year round. They form gangs. At first, more than a dozen men and women gathered together, began to pass on the family and spread the branches and leaves. Now there are nearly 100 people. It is said that I plan to build a family ancestral hall in the near future. There is that fox beautiful woman who was thrown into the xianxia cave only a few years ago. She was once a martial artist in the end of Zhuzhou. In the world of Qingming, a woman martial artist with a level of endurance is not very brilliant, at most it is one. The land of the state was trembling with power and prestige. As a result, when she got here she walked on thin ice from the beginning, and then waited for her to kill the man who came to her door, which made her ecstatic, although her physique was like a secular woman, and she can't gather the slightest pure innocence. But because she is proficient in the art of murder, she is no longer in the martial arts realm, and her body is no longer there, but some memory is still there, which allows her to protect herself and find a few more a weapon that was discarded casually. She can kill at will, but she has never meant to accept a disciple. These years she likes to raise the face and has been coveting Xuanhuan, and of course she also teaches. There is a sloppy man with white hair and beard entangled in a ball. He was once the Yitzi master, who likes to make waves. He is also known as the word thief. He is good at tampering with the secret collections of the Shinfu Taoist temple without knowing it. Scripture. If a Taoist official is careless, he will go astray. There is a monk on the mountain who speaks no name in life, and there is a monk who breaks the precepts, and is called a famous monk. There is also a burly man who likes to be naked all day long, dangling around with a bunch of dog legs with weapons on his shoulders, and he is full of fists when he sees who is not pleasing to his eyes. Except for a few forces he didn't dare to provoke him. The rest, in his words, it's just a bunch of trash, not the enemy of the three tricks. If you know his hometown, he is just a half bucket of jade. Jing, the first thought I was thrown in, turned out to feel that I belonged to the xianxia cave of Jianghu Palace. The only thing I could say was that I had chased and killed someone in Zhu, but the problem was that I had won the world's #1. 11-person Zhu. What is there to brag about? A person from Ruzhou Zhu has never won a fight on the mountain. After all, here all the old Dao names, hilltop magic veins, realm magic weapons, and magical powers are all imaginary. There are also people who like to collect those immortal family treasures that are left on the ground. They are often not low in rank. They start with magic weapons and there are more than a dozen semi-celestial soldiers. It's just that it's meaningless except when it's a display. Take it out? Here, if there is a quarrel with others or if you can't avoid trouble but still get trouble, it can only be a fight or a weapon fight. There are often many people in power. Big, whoever is more ruthless, will order the army style that was too lazy to look at before, and whoever can take advantage of it. It's not that no one tries to learn the art of fighting and fighting, wants to rely on day and night walking and work hard, trying to develop a supernatural power of flying over the wall. In fact, many people have similar skills. Tried but almost no results, it is even more hopeful to want immediate results. It was not that there were no monks who did not deal with Bai Yujing who came to Zhang Fengai's troubles, and as a result, all those who dared to go up the mountain to find this little head teacher died. Even the Foxmei woman who has been coveting Zhang Fengai's beauty, has only dared to wander at the foot of the mountain several times. She, a master who can jump like flying, still gives up the idea of climbing again and again. Xuanhuan sat on a rock and asked with a smile, "I always think you are the only one who has the hope of leaving here alive." Zhang Fengai doesn't like to talk very much. She became accustomed to it and said to herself, "It's not because of your identity but because of your Dao Xen. It may be the most suitable for Tian Xen." Zhang Fenghai finally opened his mouth and said, "If I didn't know how to use martial arts, I might have pain in my eyes every day." Teacher Xingyuan had no weird expressions when he heard this vulgar language, and he was used to it a long time ago. The men around him either do not speak but occasionally speak and are very direct. She intertwined her hands and 10 fingers, went around the top of her head to behind her, her knuckles creaked and asked casually, "If one day I can go out, what do I want to do most, fight with you, Do?" Zhang Fenghai endured it but let it go. Didn't he call her an idiot? She turned her head and smiled, "Talk about it." Zhang Fenghai thought for a while and said, "Take a bath and put on clean clothes. When you go out, it's best to be outside in a big winter. Find a secluded place to dig the bamboo shoots, because the taste of winter bamboo shoots is thicker than spring bamboo shoots. The heavy snow seals the mountains. Let's cook bamboo shoots in an enclosed stove, boil big pieces of winter bamboo shoots, boil big pieces of bacon, drink the local brewed red bayberry shochu in a big bowl, drink enough rice and drink, get drunk, sleep loudly, snoring like thunder. No one can care about Lao Tzu." She swallowed and wiped her mouth. "I knew I would not ask." Zhang Fenghai spontaneously said something coldly. "I heard the old man say, 'You are greedy for my body, it's not a day or two, it's true or false.'" The teacher gave a blank look. "When I turned around and went down the mountain, I tore the old thing's stinky mouth." Zhang Fenghai said, "He is not afraid of this. Before you came here, he had been fed feces and urine, sprayed out of his nose, and his face was full." The teacher's course hesitated to speak but stopped. Zhang Fenghai's expression was indifferent. Teacher Xingyuan said, "Zhang Fenghai, why don't you make rules for everyone?" Zhang Fenghai said, "What then?" The teacher walked silently. More monks arrived here just like trapped beasts in a cage. Over time, many were tortured to death, many but more still completely lost heart. Because in this Maxian cave, the most terrifying thing is that all suicides are in vain, and they will often come back to life on their own the next day and beg to die. Therefore, in history there have been many people who tried their best to kill people with the help of a knife, deliberately seek death, find someone to kill themselves, but they still have no success. They will live again just as if there is a in the sky, discussing the heart. I really want to die, and those who want to live may not be able to live. This is the Maxian cave, which seems to completely wipe out all the dignity of a person, the so-called Dao Xian. There are countless dead bones and corpses, all of whom were great monks of the famous movement during his lifetime. There are both the senior officials of Baiyujing and the banned monks from the 15 states in the world. There are about 378 living people in the land of 1,000 miles, and most of them are born and raised here. For the monk, it was a piece of tofu in the land of Slap, a matter of a few steps. But now everyone can only walk on foot and the site is not too small. There are less than 400 people scattered around, and it is not easy to meet each other. It's also fortunate that it's not easy to meet each other because of the distance. Otherwise it is difficult to say whether there will be 100 people left in Xianxia cave. Shi Xingyuan raised his head and looked at the sky, bent down to pick up a stone, and then threw it off the cliff, saying, "I am not old enough, but I heard a few words from the senior on the mountain, saying that the battle was Yudo's true fame. In the first battle it's just not recorded in any history books. Have you ever read the secret files of related content in Yushu City before?" "I haven't seen the relevant books. I have read all the books in Yushu City before I am 30 years old." Zhang Fenghai shook his head, paused for a moment, took the soil and smeared his wounds on his hands and slowly said, "But I have seen it with my own eyes. It is a kind of long-distance travel similar to wandering. It has long been lost. It was the doorway I figured out by myself, and then I watched the whole process of that battle. The earliest Qingming under heaven was neither the 14 states in name nor the 19 states commonly known as under the mountain. It used to be 15 states. Yudo led all the Taoist officials of Baiyujing, and then summoned the Taoist officials of the world to rush to the battlefield of that state. The scale, the far-reaching influence, the tragic war, and the unwinding of Yongzhou in later generations are far from comparable. On the border of a state, above the sea of clouds layered upon layers, just surround the land of a state, countless Taoists wore blue robes. Such as the blue crane. Green cranes are in groups. The final result is the real illusion of a state, creating the huge lake today. According to legend, there was a certain adage that had spread long ago, and there was Lu Shen in a state of mourning. Later it was equivalent to less than going to the Qingming world in the territory of a state, and there really came a foreign Taoist named Lu Qin, who was personally brought into Baiyujing by the head teacher Ko Ming, and eventually became a disciple of the Taoist ancestor and served as the teacher of the third head. After that, Lu Xun built another South China city. Having roughly talked about the battlefield picture with the woman next to him, Zhang Fenghai explained, "The reason why the fight was so tragic is because there is one person in a state. To be precise, it is the one who is said to be regarded as the 15th realm. The demon somehow successfully fled from the outer sky to the blue underworld, the creatures of a state, together with the roots and veins of the mountains, all the dead things in the territory are it." Teacher Xuanhuan was shocked to hear and suddenly frowned. "Where is Tao ancestor?" Zhang Fenghai said, "It seems that he has gone to heaven, and Taoist ancestors are asking for the truth on the road." Teacher Xingyuan looked weird and said, "So I'm so good." Zhang Fenghai stood up and hit a Daemenji, respectfully welcomed Daozu. A young Taoist priest appeared out of thin air, smiled and nodded, and turned his head to look at the teacher, and soon there was a monk, with a vague face and a vague figure floating out. Daozu smiled and said, "Zhang Fenghai, you go to participate in this three religions debate. If you win, you will be allowed to leave the Baiyujing Daoist status. If you lose, you will eat your winter bamboo shoot stew and drink." Zhang Fenghai inspected the leader again. "I will abide by the decree of the law." Shi Xingyuan looked at the young Taoist priest. His lips trembled and he couldn't say a word. Tao ancestor smiled and said, "Okay Lu Bixia, don't hide, you leave here with Zhang Fenghai and the teacher's line, and you will be free again immediately." Teacher Xingyuan only felt that his headache was splitting apart. After a while, his eyes sparkled and he asked, "What's the price?" Daozu said, "Who are you talking to?" The next moment, Sanxian Lu Bixia, one of the alternates of the Qingming world, borrowed from the Ascendant Peak monk who lived in the soul of Teacher Xingyuan, and somehow fell out of the Xianxia cave of Jianghu Palace and fell on the boundary line of Baiyujing, lying down. In the dust of the road, it was a long time unable to get up. In an instant, Zhang Fenghai and Shi Xingyuan stood beside Lu Bixia. At the top of the mountain, the outer transformation demon sighed, "You are better." Daozu squatted down and gently turned over the clay board. Without the nails, there were still nail marks. Daozu stood up, the clay tablet turned into a ball of dust. "It's a pity it's too late." The Huawei Tianma glanced and sneered, "Last time it was me. This time I was deceived by the embroidered tiger. After that, I have to make a good deduction to see how I did it. It's not that you won this monarch after 300 years of mourning. It's that Qinjun is worthy of 500 years of Taoism. After all, Zhang Fenghai is still young and he is not good enough, but it is not easy. After all, he can figure out 7 things. Daozu said calmly, "Is it funny?" The Huawei Tianma immediately trembled, then suddenly laughed wildly, then returned to calm and finally sighed, "How difficult is it to ask for the truth on the road? You are planning to violate the contract of the 3 of you and make another shot when the matter comes, or just leave it alone, completely ignore it? The world is up." Daozu smiled and said, "It's not that Yudo has never seen a big scene." The Huawei Tianma nodded, "Indeed. What about being an enemy of the world, such as when the chess game is guessed first? Yudo sits in front of the chessboard and only picks up a black chess. Ruzhou is a small border country and a remote county in Yingchuan County. There is an old Taoist temple called Lingjing. In the past few years, there was a heavy snowfall of goose feathers, which was rarely encountered in a century, and it collapsed several houses. The abbot of the Taoist temple begged Grandpa to tell Grandma. After raising money apart from rebuilding the house, I found that I still had some money on hand, so I repaired all the inside and outside of the Taoist temple, and then put gold leaf on the 2 patriarchs and the clay statues of the Taoist temple worshipped inside. Going to the foot of the mountain, looking at the whole view of Taoist temple from a distance, I only feel that it is a magnificent dojo, with ancient trees, new temples and temples with ancient seals, and old locust trees on both sides of the trail. There is nothing surprising about this spiritual conception. It is very difficult to find an old Taoist who is climbing relatives by going through the local county annals. Taoism is so small that only this abbot of Taoism named Hong Miao is the only official Taoist official who possesses Taoist priests in Taoist temples, and Hong Laoguan is still a foreigner. In fact, he has pushed up 300 years of Taoist temples. The abbots are all foreign Taoist priests. As long as the term of office is over, they will leave this place without hesitation. In the future, I will be an errand and sit on a cold bench as a daunting way. It is really this place. The aura of heaven and earth is too thin, so it is not suitable. A place for spiritual practice. Want to become a Taoist official and how to get promoted when you become a Taoist official? It's simple to say. 1 depends on the realm, becoming a Qi trainer, 2 depends on knowledge and being able to teach urns, and 3 depends on family background. As long as you are willing to spend money, there will be a way after all. Walkable. So a Taoist temple is a similar situation, so the Taoist temples in each county are often larger and larger, and the incense is prosperous. The backer is the backer, but in this plain boundary, the poor Taoist temple can climb to the top just on a lonely hill, dozens of steps on the mountain road. The next ranked imperial examinations were of the same age, not to mention xianxia masters. In the past 200 to 300 years, there hasn't even been a jurin. As for whether it is 200 years or 300 years, who is going to remember this? Anyway, it is not something to show off. I don't know whether it is a Taoist official or an imperial examination. When will the famine be broken? In fact, Hong Miao, the current master of the spiritual realm view, is quite old. Although he can't look at Jiazi's age, he is almost 100 years old, but he is only an alternate Taoist official. It's just this kind of thing. The abbot Taoist, commonly known as Guanju, is present in every Taoist temple no matter how big or small. But the abbot is not a permanent position, and some abbots will concurrently hold several Taoist temples. They must all be the masters in a country, the kind of master who can see the emperor's majesty. According to an old saying of Taoism elders, we have Taoism, temples, but not temples. In addition, the abbot of Taoism is in common with the Western Buddhist countries, just like the jungles of the 10 directions and the jungles of descendants. The two sayings are similar, and the monk Taoism has similar rules. Of course, as soon as the abbot said, it is still more popular among monks, but what does it matter? Don't we also fight for the title of Taoist? But it should be said that there is a young man in the view asking the bottom line, Taoist? Aren't we the Taoist priests from the beginning? Then you will definitely get an angry sentence. What do you know the inside story of these secrets? And you will naturally know it when your family's ancestors' grave is smoked and when you become a Taoist master. The so-called old people of spiritual view are actually two people. Of course, both of them have no Taoism. One is a part-time temple blessing. It is said that because the ancestors gave a few acres of fertile land to the Taoist temple, they came here to receive a salary. After all, mosquito meat is also meat. In addition, a pianist Taoist is also an acquaintance of the guests. As for Hong Lao Guanju, it is more difficult for those who are able to work. The counties, large and small Taoist temples in a country are almost all officially built and can be compared. In fact, there are three things: whether imperial jian, only the emperor's imperial gift, the word imperial jian is on the plaque of the mountain gate. Then there are the number of Taoist officials and their support, that is, the incense is not prosperous, there are not many big pilgrims and there are not many good men and believers. In the world of Qingming, the jungle temple is much larger and has many Taoist officials, because it is nominally shared by all Taoists in the world and has no private property. In a sense, it can be understood that all belong to Baiyujing. Early this morning, Lord Hongguan went for a walk down the mountain again. The snow was heavy outside the mountain, and the scenery was good. The old Taoist priest crouched with his hands behind his hands, climbing slowly, his face full of sadness and long sighs. It's harder to have a stern Taoist official in a remote country than to climb to the sky. The Taoist temple is so small that as long as you open the door, you can see the main hall. Except for the bell tower and drum tower, there is not even a two-story building. It is really poor. The rich have thousands of good ways to live, and the poor have only one hard way. Xuanhuan County has 5 counties under its jurisdiction, and there are 3 Taoist temples built by the government. It stands to reason that no matter how bad the spiritual view is, there shouldn't be just such a bit of incense. The problem is that people are more popular than others, and goods are lost if you compare goods. Just talk about the next door. The Taoist temple in the county has good luck, and the ancestors have passed by. It is said that the collection is dedicated to a Taoist book published by the imperial court. Therefore, the pilgrims of this county would rather go there to burn incense. In recent years, Master Hong Lao Guan has been thinking about the day he can help Lingjing Guan build a temple of wealth. So the young people in Taoist temples, when they heard that the old masters were sleeping and talking in their dreams, they were all worried about such a thing. Including the Master Hong Miao, there are only 6 resident Taoists in total because Lu Fang, who nominally bears the identity of a temple blessing, does not live on the mountain. Hong Miao walked into the Taoist temple and found that only Chang Gung, the pianist who was in charge of the kitchen room, was the only one who was in charge of the kitchen. At the morning clock, I guess I have nothing to do when I am idle. Guanyi charcoal has a quota. I swept the floor there. I saw the old Guanzhua, embraced the broom, said hello, stomped lightly, bowed his head and rubbed his hands. The only advantage of a small Taoist temple is that there are many official titles, so you want to pick whatever you want. When Chang Gung was young, he was one of the few great pilgrims in the spiritual realm. After looking through his account books, he gave almost 300 taels of silver to the Taoist temple. He also gifted many books on the Taoist temple. Of course, Changgung insisted that he lent it to the Taoist temple at least. It was worth 7 or 80 taels of silver. It was just such a mess left by the former master that Changgung, who later fell into his family, was able to bring a poor relative to come here to have a meal, otherwise he would make a profit. It is not a simple matter to be a resident Taoist, who can receive a monthly salary. Within a county, there are not a few people who want to enter the spiritual realm view through trust. Hong Miao and Changgung nodded their heads, went to the main hall and walked around, then stepped out of the threshold, went to the gate of Taoist temple and stood for a while and returned to the courtyard. Changgung's wrinkled face forced a smile out of it. Asked, "Master Hongguan, are you waiting for someone?" Hong Miao smiled and shook his head and started walking in the courtyard. Changgung dragged his broom and stood aside. One after another from one room, 3 young people walked out, with their hands in the cotton cloth gowns and their shoulders shrunk. Shivering, exhaling the fog, watching the master wandering around there, watching too much, really not interested, so I went on his own. Several non-adjacent vegetable gardens have been opened up on the mountain. As for the private property of Taoism, there are more than 10 acres. Most of them are allocated by the county government. After all, it is a single seedling in the jurisdiction. The incense was broken. The last one to walk out of the house was a sleepy-eyed teenager. His appearance could only be regarded as upright. He bowed his head and bowed his waist with his hands in his sleeves. In the winter the snow was very cold and the snow melted colder. The so-called Taoist robes they wore, "If you don't keep out the cold, let's make do with it." The young man called Changgung to Changgung first. The old man smiled and nodded in greeting. In fact, there were 2 errands for Taoist temple sweeping, morning bells and evening drums, which were supposed to be errands for young people, so the old man helped to do it, but several young people took turns. If you make the toilet, you can avoid it. Your kid is not a golden man and the rich man do it yourself. When Hong Miao finished fighting, the young man named Chin Tsong called out Hong Guanju. Hong Miao just nodded. He usually doesn't have a good face to the old and the young. They can't talk about being lazy, but the 2 of them are generally virtuous with the others. They can be lazy and never take the initiative to take the initiative. It really makes Hong Miao, like it or not, stand up. After that was the boring morning class. Except for the teenagers who were barely serious, there were 2 who shook their heads and pecking at rice by the way. Except for Chin Tsong, the 3 young people were named Ma Zhong, Tu Gao and Lin Su. Among them, Ma Zhong and Miaozhu Lu Fang are relatives. His mother's is another one who came in, because privately Lu Fang promised that in a few years, he was willing to give a spiritual view of 2 acres of land. As for how many years will be in the end, Hong Miao didn't bother to ask. Anyway, before leaving his post, if Lu Fang still didn't hand over the land deed with Taoist temple, he would roll up the betting together. Ma Zhong, this guy, had already figured out his own road number. "I went to school when I was young, like reading books and sloppy schoolwork. I always liked to sneak up at the temple fair next door, just to read the miscellaneous books on the roadside stalls of those temple fairs, comic strips, legends of legends, koan novels, smoked ghosts, etc. Willing to spend money. About Mo is reading a book to show his brain stupid. Ma Zhong has always been carrying a delusion of a certain idiot and dreaming, and from time to time he asks the master Hong Miao, "Is your old man, is it the kind of outsider in the book?" In fact, Hong Miao did know how to fly through the clouds and mists in a few handwritten books. But I was really impatient with being entangled, so I just said a few words perfunctorily. Yeah, it'll pass on some of your magic tricks later, wait patiently, go and pour the dung on the vegetable garden first. As for Lin Su, just by looking at his name, you know that your family has a bit of capital. Generally, poor people don't use such a rare word in the name. Because the word is too uncommon, it is often misunderstood by outsiders and is habitually called it. Lin Lu, the Taoist temple followed. Lin Shi was too lazy to care, a bunch of buns with a fart. Lin Weiss family has opened several shops in the county town. It is a well-established family because his parents think he always likes to make troubles and fights with others, so he has to fight with the county grandfather. After deciding the relationship, I left it here and handed it over to the old Hong to help, strictly control and persuade to be good. Every time Lin Wei went down the mountain to go home, and then returned to Taoist temple, he would boast that the brand new clothes he was wearing was a few taels of silver. Only the soil anointing was tested into the spiritual realm view by relying on true ability. Tuyao has a strange surname, a rare name. I have always believed that I have a lot of history, in fact I am a rural villager. Ma Zhong always has some strange opinions. When we look at the subject, we all look like a practicing family, knowing a lot about martial arts. I heard that the old Guanju who just came here likes to drop his book bags, and now that more than 10 years have passed, he has long been too lazy to play the piano with outsiders. Hong Miao taught a Taoist martial art of breathing and breathing, which was described as mysterious by the old master, and later exposed the truth to Lin Su. It turns out that any official Taoist temple can be a resident Taoist and teach this so-called xiang family guidance technique. Afterwards, Lin Wei spent the entire month working in the vegetable garden and kitchen, but he gave out some coins and Tu Gao and Qin Song did it for them. Ma Zhong always lives in his own world. Lin Wei seems to be laughing and joking every day, enthusiastic and cheerful, as if he likes to be brothers and brothers with everyone. Of course he often likes to turn his face. Afterwards he is like a okay person. Tuya likes to show Qin Song the most, and Qin Song is also a bad man. Yes, I don't suffer every time. Even if I lose here, I can always find it to make up for it elsewhere. A few of them, the ones who really fought, were actually Ma Zhong and Lin Fu. They were in the house, their eyes wandering, and no one dared to offend them. Qin Song just lied on the Kong by the window. A copper coin was flipped in his hand. 15 years of being a monk or entering Taoism is an extremely important watershed. It is not a small threshold. If you have crossed or passed this threshold, even if you still can't get the Taoist priest, or you can't find a Taoist official to serve as your own, the master is a teacher. There is no way to have a formal orthodoxy. You can go to the county government to get an errand. For example, you can work as an accumulating point in the household that is in charge of the fish scale register. The status are better than the average. The subordinates are a lot taller. Even officials like the county grandfather and the county lieutenant, when they meet at the county government, they are likely to be willing to stop and chat for a few words. In fact, both Ma Zhong and Lin Wei were waiting for this. After spending at least 15 years on the Taoist temple, you will have the opportunity to work in the government office, which is also considered an iron job. In the subordinates there are also 3 or 6 classes. Those who have been gilded in Taoist temples can always get some good errands that are both leisurely and oily, and cannot be scolded by neighbors in the neighborhood. At least he is more like a master official than some subordinates. For example, is it an official position, handed down from generation to generation? Is it a good job? Of course not. Although it is an indispensable position and a more iron job, it will always make ordinary people feel uncomfortable. By the end of the morning class, the classic guest Changgung was also busy in the kitchen, and he was ready to eat. When the old master took the chopsticks and another chopstick dish, he began to wildly, and the chopsticks flew like flying, and waited until Hong Miao again. Stretch out the pair of chopsticks and just wait. After half an hour of rest there was another class waiting. Sitting on the futon in the main hall, Hong Miao wasted her saliva, and the rest were just like spending time with an old Taoist priest. Only Tuyao, I can occasionally go to Hong Miao's house to look through the books that have been collected by the old master for many years. However, Tuyao found that many of the so-called private collections of the old masters all have the same book seal printed on them. I anointed my and thought, I knew that it was the old book collected by Changgung, the pianist. Many times I wanted to help the old master to tear off the pages of the stamped book. Doesn't it mean that I was stolen, but I didn't dare to start after all. The wind is rustling, day by day, just hitting the bell in the morning and the drum in the evening. After finishing schoolwork and eating, it's another day after sleeping and waking up. Time passed by. There was another heavy snow last night. The world was like a man wearing a fox fur. It was about 2 miles away from the Taoist temple. There was a river and a wooden bridge. Qin Song often went down the mountain alone to wander around. The ice under the bridge is freezing today, and there are no pedestrians on the road. The cotton-clothed boy put on a pair of old leather boots, walked on the wooden bridge and jumped vigorously. The snow on the bridge was like silver scattered on the ice. The teenager has a very good memory, never forgets, and can remember half-faced people after many years. Moreover, Qin Song had only read through the few books in the spiritual realm view, and he had many insights of his own. This made Qin Song feel weird, puzzled, mysterious, just like, I have read these books in my last life. Moreover, Qin Song found himself always feeling a bit sad or joyful inexplicably. In the end, the boy finally came to a conclusion that made sense. Damn it, I wouldn't be the kind of monastic genius mentioned in the book. Qin Song grinned, squatted down, grabbed a handful of snow and patted it on his face, calm and restraint. Not long ago, I heard that there was a strange incident in the palace. I heard that it was caused by a ghost that came from elsewhere. It had destroyed several lives. Soon a group of officials sent by the court came. After that, Hong Miao looked at him as if he was 10 years old again overnight. After that, I would often be at the entrance of the Taoist temple, as if waiting for someone. After that, there were two strange faces in the Taoist temple, a man and a woman, but none of them were wearing Taoist robes. A few of them squatted under the eaves and lined up to bask in the sun. The man, who seemed to have looked at the soil ointment a few more times, and the cold-faced young woman glanced at everyone, and finally looked at the thread lingered on mahjong for a while, but it wasn't too much. Shi and Hong Miao on the side shook their heads imperceptibly. The old Taoist sighed slightly, seemingly disappointed, but not too disappointed, probably already mentally prepared. It is really hard for clever women to cook without rice. These children are already the best Taoist embryos that old Taoist priests can find in a county in these years. Regardless of whether it was sent to the door on the initiative, it was the anointing in Hong Miao's own photograph. It seems that there is still no surprise. Otherwise Hong Miao is the abbot after all. The temple wish Lu Fong and the classic guest Changgung can really do it casually. Just bring people in? Now these children in fact still don't know anything about it. If they want to be the abbot of an official Taoist temple, unless they are the kind of highly educated scholars, their cultivation must start in the Dongfu realm. Hong Miao belongs to the latter. It's just that Hong Miao practiced well, but he was not very knowledgeable when he was studying, and many exams were not able to pass the exam, so he was stuck with the alternate Taoist official. But Hong Miao, the reason why the spiritual realm view can still be filled is by relying on the veteran Taoist Sevuing realm cultivation base. Of course, this has nothing to do with the spiritual realm view and fatness at all, and it has a lot to do with it. In this matter, Ma Zhong's view is not really wrong. The child was wrong by mistake. In order to stop the fierce ghost that crossed the border, the old Taoist priest was actually seriously injured. Although he fell, he had merit. It would be recorded by the government office. If there is no accident, he will be given a lifesaver. The elixir of life extension is extremely rare, a good thing that can't be bought with money, but it can't be the master of this Taoist temple. To put it simply, you can go to a Qingshui Yamen in Fuqing to take care of it. For these children, Hong Miao has his own plans. Ma Zhong, in fact, had the best qualifications and was most expected by Hong Miao. Of course, compared with the Xiudao Toshihiko and those great views, there was still a big gap. Lin Wei was just a rich man who was in the middle of nowhere, so he stopped talking. Taoist incense depended largely on his family's money for relief. The wealth that Hong Miao finally saved by himself, the immortal money, was almost all used to refine the aura of the pitiful heaven and earth. As a result, in the Taoist temple, Hong Miao observed several times in secret. Those bastards, no dozing off is just ignorant, and none of them can detect the ripples of qi. In fact, this has already explained the problem. Together with mahjong, whether you can practice in the future, it is not easy to make a rash decision, but at least it is certain, know the kind of real genius who is suitable for cultivating in the sky. He has strong muscles and bones and is likely to practice martial arts. In addition, he is the one who is most hopeful of getting an alternate Taoist official by studying. As for Chen Song, he has a good memory and can barely be considered a seed for reading. Read some books on the Taoist temple, lay a good foundation, and then go to the imperial examination. Don't expect to be selected in the examination. In the future there will be a talent and fame. It is always not difficult to start a family. And these two strangers on the rivers and lakes are old friends from the city. One is Song Tua and the woman is Tan Tiao. Song Tua is a martial artist in the 5 realms, and he is in the second stage of qi refining anyway, and he is also the way to go to the inner family boxing. Then he will have a physique for more than 10 or 20 years, and he can be ranked in the 6 realms. I think as long as you rank among the 6 realms, you can earn a not-so-low official status in any city. What's more, Song Tua and the Crow Mountain of the Qijin dynasty, a certain 7-level master, are all friends. This golden-level martial artist is heard to be a redisciple of a certain direct disciple of the Master Lin. In this Ruzhou, whether there are one or several friends from the rivers and lakes of Yashan is a symbol of status. Takashi under the mountain, monks on the mountain, and Taoist officials are inevitable. And that young female Xiao Tanya was a gas trainer on the road of smuggling urns. She was extremely young in the Dongfu realm. After all, she was less than 40 years old and she was a fairy of the middle 5 realms. There are some things that can't be compared with those unattainable Taoist geniuses. It is too easy to make people feel frustrated. Moreover, Tanyao belongs to a deep family study, and there is that kind of private altar. Simply put, it is the county family who is qualified to do the private urn business. The government will not support it, but it will not be explicitly prohibited. It is said that her earliest name was, which has the same pronunciation and different characters as Yab. Later, somehow, it was probably because the word was really too uncommon, so it was changed to a relatively simple Yab. After entering the house and closing the door, Hong Miao smiled bitterly. Unfortunately, it is not spring, otherwise I dare not say to stop the Dragon Gate ghost. Stop it for a while, it is not a luxury. The old Taoist learned a little bit of thunder when he was young. According to the golden rules and jade rules established by the towering Bai Yujing, he is the only teacher to determine the Dao lineage of a Dao official in his life. It is extremely difficult to change, but Dao officials practice other skills. There is no restriction, there are almost no taboos, the more the better. Hong Miao has mastered the side-by-side method of thunder. It is the ability to press the box when he was young and learned from a strange man. According to the Taoist book, the vitality and smoke are gathered together, and one of the true spirits is completely disintegrated. It is a wild ghost, wandering soul. And the spring thunder between heaven and earth, to those filthy and filthy things, is like a drum for life. It's a pity that Hong Miao is limited by his own roots and is not good at learning. He can only refining and condense the threefold wind of blows at noon in the golden autumn season year after year, and then cooperate with the hand thunder method, but it is a pity to deal with it. A ghost in the Dragon Gate realm is not enough to see. Hong Miao took out a string of 9 emperor's money with a yellow spike from his sleeve, and laughed at himself. This fight really lost my grandma's house. This is a precious artifact given by the court as a rule after Hong Miao became the abbot of the spiritual realm. The imperial courts of Ruzhou have different rewards. There are many kinds of demon descending mirror, demon catching gourd, talisman and so on. Song Tua's face was solemn. Brother Hong, I can introduce you to Bai Yu Gang. I have always had a good relationship with the helper Lu Shi. Hong Miao waved his hand and said, which one of us is with you? Don't swell your face and make you fat. Bai Yu Gang, as the sect of Yashan, has a very high threshold. What's more, Yashan as a whole does not like to interact with officials of other countries. Lu Zongshi may be willing to give you Song Tua as a guest of the Bai Yu Gang, but it's hard to tell if you are a friend of a friend. If you change to a poor Dao, you probably won't nod your head. Why did you hurt your feelings with Lu Shi? If you are a little sophisticated, how can you still understand the poor way? Hong Miao sighed immediately. The Imperial Court's penal department, together with the offerings in the government office, it is estimated that someone will be sent here soon to investigate the detailed process of this matter. It is a cutscene. Then the poor road is about to fight. After returning home, I originally thought that I would do something here, whether it was a Taoist official or a jianxia, as long as I could help Yingchuan County to produce such a character, I could use this merit to break the bottleneck of the sea view. It turned out to be good and it's still a fall. Stealing chickens won't eclipse rice, but that's the case. Now I just ask the predecessors to plant trees so that a descendant can take advantage of the shade. Peace of mind. I just don't know if I can wait until this day comes before Pandao closes his eyes. This is the greatest selfishness of the old Taoist priest. Actively requesting to come here to serve as the abbot of the spiritual realm is just for this, just in case. In case a local Taoist official appeared here, the old Taoist priest had a lot of merit in his body. Of course, Hong Miao was not the only one who saw this. In fact, those who wanted to come here to try their luck, those former Taoist abbots, 9 out of 10 were all rushing towards this. As for the last one, it was not, of course it was a mess of officialdom. Unhappy, I was squeezed out by my boss or colleagues and sent me to sit on the bench. The reason why the monk fell into the realm has endless troubles. In addition to the sharp drop in his cultivation, it is difficult to use many magical powers at the bottom of the box, and the biggest problem is xianxia. Hong Miao is not worthy of relying on that pill alone. Even if he sells iron, he still has to go to those Xinjia Ferry or the familiar Mountain Fairy mansion to buy a few life-saving elixir. If you don't have money, you still care about it. Song Tua held back for a long time, but he could only suffocate a comforting word. If you are kind enough to get a good report, you still have to believe it. Hong Miao smiled and nodded. That's right. The old Taoist looked out the window, a little melancholy and a little dazed. Hong Miao also had lofty ambitions. With that knowledge of the law, he became a man who was praised by the Taoist book as the abbot of the human heart, the abbot of the heaven and the heart, and the high truth of the person without distracting thoughts. The 3 altars of the heavenly immortals were taught by a real lawyer, in the imperial court's imperial palace, or in a jungle palace that is second to none in Ruzhou. He held a throne ascension ceremony and served as the abbot. He even became a land immortal with a golden pill, resident on land, and became the most worthy of the name of the immortal master. The biggest extravagant hope is something that an old Taoist doesn't dare to think about often. Of course, it is the sleepwalking on the 12th floor of the 5th city of Baiyujing. Tan Qiao said, Chief Hong Dao, if you don't feel condescended, you can go to my house to serve as a clean guest. and I have been missing a western seat. Even if Hong Miao fell, he was still a cultivator of the Dongfu realm, not to mention the veteran Taoist incense connections, and his knowledge was still there. It's not a cost-effective business, but the family can generally guarantee no loss. After all, in addition to salary, 1 or 2 life-prolonging pills will definitely be given. The old Taoist smiled and waved his hand and said, "Why do you have to do business where both parties do not make a profit? Those with big eyes and small eyes will be poor and have a bad temper. They will have to be unhappy with you sooner or later. When the time comes, each will have complaints, so why bother?" Tan Yaban just wanted to talk, but he quickly swallowed the words that came to his mouth. Hong Miao turned his head and looked out the window. "I finally came." On the side of the corridor, under the eaves, there were a few squatting side by side. Among them, Qin Song only slightly raised his eyelids and continued to yawn with his hands. As for the horse weight, he has touched the corner of the wall and eavesdropped on the conversation between the three, but he didn't seem to be able to hear anything. With 3 figures, she dropped her figure at the foot of the Lingjingwen mountain and chose to hike up the mountain. This was not worthy of this unknown little Taoist temple, but she didn't dare not take Bai Yujing's rules seriously. Ma Zhong was the first to turn his head and looked at the 3 outsiders who walked into the Taoist temple. He quickly stood up, not daring to breathe. He was a serious court official, really a god. Tu Gao hit Chen Song with his elbow, lifted his chin, and motioned to quickly look at the distinguished guests. Chen Song first turned his head to look at the soil ointment around him, then looked up blankly, stunned, and finally his eyes brightened, full of curiosity, envy, low self-esteem, and longing. I saw the 3 Taoist gods, a young monk carrying a copper coin sword, a pale golden gourd hunting gourd hanging from the waist of an old man, and a female crown that looked like a girl. In fact, the 3 of them were very puzzled as to why a ghost would suddenly appear in Yingchuan County, which has always been peaceful and safe, and the realm was not low. Therefore, from the imperial palace to the city, I dare not take it lightly, especially the latter, which is always tight with a heartstring. In fact, the so-called killing of a few lives is an exaggerated gossip. It's just that the 2 county government offices were all fooled by the brave ghosts. 2 of them had the status of Taoist officials. The demon was stunned and giggled. Before, the crotch had to be wet several times every day. He was so decent. There was also a Taoist who was not a gas trainer. He was not much better off the court. He was stripped of his clothes and threw naked on the street. This ghost is simply provoking a county or even the state officials. On the border side, a Taoist official has already launched a rigorous search, and the 3 of them are responsible for searching within hundreds of miles. They are worried about the cunning of the ghosts, and they hide near the spiritual realm. They come to the Taoist temple, except during the investigation, it was necessary to determine whether the ghost was hiding in the boundary around the hill. After the 3 entered the Taoist temple, they did not wait for Hong Miao's polite greeting. The young Taoist official carrying the ancient copper sword held a demon mirror in his hand. Rising, the light shining everywhere, the young Taoist slowly moved the bronze mirror in his hand, not even letting go of the bell tower and drum tower in the spiritual realm view, and finally fell back into the courtyard. Hong Miao, as the watcher, showed a vaguely angry face, but started from scratch. At the end there was no sound. In the old Taoist house, after some cross-examination, the 3 Taoist officials recorded the content in the book, then left and after walking down the mountain, sailed away in the wind. They also brought a copy of the official document of the palace and left it to Hong Miao. The old Taoist priests would no longer be the masters immediately. After returning to the palace, they would have another appointment. After that, the old Taoist called Chang Gung, the Dian guest, and handed the Taoist account books to the elderly. Hong Miao asked them to wait patiently for the next abbot to take office. They don't need to worry about the handover of property, account books, and books. There are only a few dozen taels of silver left on the side. The veteran Taoist also said that he posted talisman in several places in the Taoist temple. Don't take it off casually. It can drive away evil spirits and avoid ghosts. A few days after the result, everyone in the Taoist temple was in danger, and everyone was frightened. Fortunately, they did not see anything sneaky. When Lu Feng heard about this, he wanted to take advantage of the fact that the new master had not come. I went to Hong Miao's room and slept for a few nights. It was nothing but I became more determined to hide in the spiritual realm. As soon as I heard that Hong Miao posted a talisman in the Taoist temple, I was so scared that I turned around and left. I ran down the mountain and made up my mind within a few months, resolutely not to go up the mountain anyway. Whether there is a temple or not, Taoism is not bad. Behind the Taoist temple, next to a vegetable garden, there is a well that has been dry for many years. There is nothing but fallen leaves and snow. In his early years, Lin Wei used to frighten the others, deliberately saying that there was actually a female ghost who committed suicide in the well. As a result, Hong Miao overheard it inadvertently and scolded Lin Wei bloody. Tu Yao discovered that Ma Zhong had recently changed his personality. Originally, the division of labor was clear and no one was willing to do more. However, Ma Zhong took the initiative to take care of all the work in the vegetable garden, and he often wakes up at night. It often took a long time to return to the house. As time passed, even Lin Sun noticed something was wrong, but he was happy to see it happen, and stopped others from doing things diligently. After Qin Song was reminded by the soil cream, he also found it really strange. After thinking about it, he made an appointment with the soil cream. He didn't sleep at night and went to see what Ma Zhong was doing. As a result, Qin Song slept like a pig and the soil cream strongly supported him. He clearly heard the slight movement of the horse reopening the door and closing the door, but after all, the soil cream was timid and afraid of the cold. After thinking about it, he went to sleep. Inside the well, the inner wall is like a painting. She is a glamorous woman wearing a bright red dowry. She is truly beautiful and picturesque. This is also the reason why she was able to avoid the demon mirror before. At that time, the light flowed into the well, and it really made this ghost feel unbearable, so she had to grit her teeth and hold it back, otherwise she couldn't run out to kill. It's just weird. Recently, she always felt that there were such tiny traces in the small Taoist temple that were annoying. She took advantage of the time when the small Taoist temple had no Taoist officials, and with a unique secret technique, she carefully inspected every corner of the Taoist temple. It turned out that it was the little girl named Tan Tao. She moved her hands and feet, and her realm was not high, but she secretly left a family talisman, which was posted under the desk in Hong Miao's room. Killer? It can be considered as meticulous, lucky, and in a few decades or 100 or 200 years, maybe the old lady will still be a little bit jealous. Haha, now playing scheming with my old lady girl, you are still very tender. As for that Ma Zhong, she was indeed stunned by her, and she was confused, but in fact, she knew better that if it weren't for Ma Zhong to be unreliable, it would not go so smoothly. No matter what, she intends to practice for a long time here. In the capital of Nanha Kingdom, an old of the upper 5 realms, as a real person protecting the country, tonight the old real person is on the side of the Qin Tianjian, on the high platform watching the sky at night, and after taking back his sight, the old real person sitting on the futon is faint with a sigh. How dare he tell an outsider a guess in his heart? Even the emperor did not dare to say anything. A country's ritual system has established roads, prefectures, counties and counties. The prefectures are not permanent, but are often key places. For example, the Yingchuan County, where ghosts have recently been banned, has been fighting for the county was elevated to a mansion. The reason why he was on the side of His Majesty did not dare to mention a word. Now there is a small hidden landscape on the border of Nanha country. It is very likely that it is a trace of Taoism under a certain special situation of a certain great monk. For example, a Taoist person who lives in a secluded dojo in the mountains, and then cannot restrain the dispersion of his own Tao Qi on the way to retreat, he should start in the fairyland no matter what. In other words, a certain great cultivator's soldiers disbanded silently, and his Tao Qi was completely dispersed between the world and the earth. No matter what, the old man dared not confess the matter to Bai Yujing. In the final analysis, apart from this weird place, the origin is unknown, and there is a lot of uncertainty, but it is still a trivial matter to talk about influence and to break the sky, but it is just an extra Dragon Gate ghost. Once Bai Yujing is disturbed, it is no small matter. One carelessness will turn into a big thing. Not to mention him, even the emperor and the entire court can't bear the consequences. If Master Bai Yujing is still in charge or Master Lu is in charge of the affairs of the world, it will not be a big problem. Maybe you are lucky and you can also let the Master Lu, who likes to play the world, visit the capital of Nanha State. Thinking of this, the old Jinren sighed again. He has been practicing Tao for hundreds of years. He has never been to Bai Yujing. He just met a Bai Yujing Tianxian Taoist attending the ceremony. He was far away and he saw that he didn't dare go up and talk for a while. The problem is that now it is the Master Yu who is in charge of world affairs. Since it's not a big deal and it's just a golden core at best and it didn't cause any major troubles, then it's a trivial matter, just catch the female ghost. On the peak of Runyue Peak, he stopped to walk hard, his heart moved slightly, and he turned his head and looked in one direction subconsciously. It's just that during the recent period I have seen too many weirdness, so I won't go into it. Especially the appearance of the Lin Jiangxian, and then there will be Bixiao Cave Master. Before that there was the Yongzhou Dragon Master who vomited blood after inexplicable calculations. In the outskirts of the small county town of Yingchuan County, in the mountain spiritual view, Ma Zhong went to the well again late at night, jumped straight down and landed at the bottom of the well and saw the beauty mural. Lin Wei slept very securely, snoring like thunder. Tuyao tossed over and over, but still didn't have the courage to follow Ma Zhong. He was hesitant to tell the old master of the matter, but suddenly found that there was no address, how to find it. Young Chin Tsong, lying on the side closest to the window with his right hand pressed against his abdomen, his left hand clenched gently, and the back of his hand pressed against the palm of his right palm, holding a piece of porcelain as a decorative object. Maybe it was because of some beautiful dreams, the corners of his mouth were slightly tilted, and his face was smiling. As if sleeping but not sleeping, like awake but not awake, this dark-skinned, thoughtful young boy could only mutter words in his heart. It is virtue if the Tao is in me. One can't leave Li Wuming cave house in it. Now and in the future, all kinds of difficulties and unsatisfactory things will be eliminated, and the body and mind will be at ease and safe and auspicious. All good things are done, no evil is done. Set aside the snow for spring and burn the lights to continue the day. Sword of Coming Chapter 966. This time I crossed the sea and returned to the north. I roughly calculated the speed of the visitor from the Luapa mountain to the south, so I was not particularly in a hurry, so Qin Pingan practiced the swordsmanship along the way, turning his body into dozens of sword lights time and time again. Above the blue waves, with a kind of escape method that almost ignores the long river of time travels between visitors. To be precise, all the sword light can follow some of the subtle water veins of the long river of time, shaped like walking water, in the heaven and earth. Such as the borderless man enters the no man's border. After tens of thousands of repeated studies, Qin Pingan finally performed this escape technique with Ning Yao for the first time. It was almost the same temperature. Probably this is called the stupid bird to fly first, and diligence to make up for the clumsiness? Taking a break on an island in the sea near the land of Aquarius, Qin Pingan squatted on a tree branch, holding hands, using water techniques, palms of both hands gushing out like spring water, and then he took a handful of water and washed his face. Xiao Mo sat aside, placed the green bamboo stick horizontally on his knees, and said, "The son is very qualified." Qin Pingan angrily smiled and said, "Stop saying a few words of ignorance, it's useless for me to slap a horse." Xiao Mo looked serious and said, "Swordsmanship in the world, different postures displayed by swordsmanship, are different, it is common sense, the reason for this is nothing but limited to the current realm of swordsmanship, according to the predecessor who taught Xiaoma swordsmanship. Talking about it, the one who can learn the most true meaning of Taoism from different swordsmanship is a hidden genius, and practicing in this way is called breaking barriers." Qin Pingan thoughtfully wiped the water on his face, shook his hands and said, "A few more words." Xiao Mo continued, "The quality of swordsmanship cannot be determined by the speed of learning the sword in the initial stage. It is just a genius in the general sense and a difference between mediocrity, and the recognition is still too shallow. For example, Xiao Mo's skill in swordsmanship, naturally relaxed and comfortable, but in his own swordsmanship, there is no diligence, and it is not beneficial to the small world and the sun is not. This is another deep meaning of swordsmanship. Swordsmanship is dead after all, but the sword-bearer is a living person. For example, Xiaoma accompanies the sun to travel north. Using this swordsmanship is nothing more than using his own spiritual energy as a drink. It seems to be drinking for himself. It does not increase the slightest sword intent, but is a kind of consumption. The movement of spiritual energy, the young master, is to drink water from outside the world, to refine his body, increase the sword intent, and the stamina of sword repair comes from this. Yu Sun and the Zhongyuan of the Great Wall of Sword Qi, maybe they all belong to this kind of sword repair with full resilience and accumulation. As the years go by, the deeper the path becomes, the wider the path is without leakage. Qin Pingan nodded and smiled. This argument quenches thirst. It seems that Xiao Mo and Jiao Lao Xinxian seem to have different ways in chatting about free time, but they belong to the same way in different ways. Xiao Mo was silent for a moment, stretched out his hand to gently rub the green bamboo stick, and said with emotion, "Many so-called dominant monastic geniuses, the faster they learn, they will miss a lot of them. Perhaps more swordsmanship and magical powers can be used to make up for and cover up. But one day when standing outside the door, there is still a certain number of Taoism that every cultivator's human body can accommodate, so in the end, the bottleneck is the difficulty of climbing, and it will be hit everywhere. We'll suffer a lot." This is also Xiao Mo together with Bai Jing and Zhu Wei. Why was it so smooth to enter the Ascension realm in the first place, and why it was so difficult to break the bottleneck of the Ascension realm, because we walked too fast and too much on the way to ascend. Investigating the realm that is visible and tangible, and neglecting the vain and ethereal spirit of Taoism, and missing too many things that should be paid more attention to, because we don't believe this from the bottom of our bones, or that we only believe in swordsmanship and Taoism. Unwilling to believe in yourself. There are pros and cons, but the advantage is that the ascended realm monks in the wild world are among the most powerful in the world. The disadvantage is that the number of monster monks among the 14 realms is always at a disadvantage compared to the other 3 human monks in the world. Qin Pingan said, "The last sentence has a lot of meaning." Xiaomo said, "So whether we are performing swordsmanship or trembling with the magical powers, it is a kind of memory in retrospect, but the Sun and Xuanhuan are not like this. It is a down-to-earth view of every step, not only looking at higher places. The way forward seems to be the time." Of course, compared with Bai Jing and me, Zhu Wei and Yang Ji's cultivation qualifications are inferior. Qin Pingan said, "These things about your practice I will ask Cui Dongshan to tell them to Chai Wu and Sun Chun. I believe it will be very useful." Xiaomo smiled and said, "I have already talked to the children of Chai Wu and Fengyuan Ferry before, and they seem to have heard it. It's just that this kind of vague truth, I'm afraid it must be combined with their own practice. With a lot of personal experience and mutual verification of facts, we can truly chew and understand the truth." Qin Pingan nodded and said, "Nothing else. The old saying goes well, if you want to know the way up the mountain, you need to ask the person who descends the mountain. Damn it, really only geniuses can talk to geniuses." Qin Pingan seemed to laugh casually and said, "Maybe you will be able to reunite with Yang Ji's old friends soon, because you have done a big deal with me, and have been able to regain your freedom at the Confucian Temple, and you will participate in the Tongyishao Dadu excavation. One thing. Xiao Mo and Qing Tong are actually not old friends, they just met each other far away, but Xiao Mo and Yang Ji are old friends in the true sense." Hearing this, Xiao Mo turned his head and glanced at his son, but couldn't see any expression and Dao heart ripples. Xiao Mo suppressed his doubts. Qin Pingan suddenly moved his mind, and immediately took out a talisman from his sleeve, and his smile suddenly became bright. The breath of the whole person changed completely, like 2 people. This made Xiao Mo relieved. Qin Pingan holds this big amulet. The paper was obtained from the night ship Wuxialover. At that time, Wuxialover presented Cui Dongshan and Jiang Shangzhen with a total of 4 green urn of true trueness. Daomen, the special talisman used to please go to Bai Yujing to teach. The degree of rarity can be imagined. The method of drawing amulets is that Cui Dongshan takes the method from Fulu Yuxuan, called Xianfu, and only 2 people need to hold one. However, if the distance between the 2 parties is too far, for example once they cross a continent, it will be like a dry brush in light ink. The text content will become extremely vague. In addition, this kind of family letter, there is a lot of lag in sending and receiving letters. The text presented by Fulu is a kind of ghost painting talisman, originally created by Cui Dongshan. Only Qin Pingan has read the book now, so even if this talisman falls into the hands of others, it is a book of heaven. Qin Pingan put away the talisman, got up and smiled. "Xiao Mo, I have to go back to Shindu Mountain. I need to meet an elder. I'm in a hurry. If I want to use the Sanshan talisman, he'll just go back to Luapa Mountain and wait for me." Before leaving the Zanyala together, Qing Tong discovered the clue. Qin Pingan held the Sanshan Fuyuan to cross the mountains and rivers, but could not consume his own yin. It's the same as the auspicious words on the red envelope that the old scholar gave out. Qin Pingan had a rough estimate after returning to Shindu Mountain last time. If he doesn't cross continents, he can use it 8 times. If it is transcontinental, at most 3 times. However, Xiao Mo has learned the 3-mountain talisman, and it is not advisable to use it up 3 times early. So Qin Pingan planned to return to Qingping Jianzong alone. Xiao Mo looked hesitant and said, "Should I be with the sun?" Qin Pingan smiled and said, "The total amount of effort is not more than 3 sticks of incense. During the period, I picked 2 familiar hills, Taiping Mountain and Pushan. Don't worry about what can go wrong. After returning to Luapa Mountain, I will still use the 3-mountain talisman. It is estimated that I will arrive in Huaihuang County at about the same time as you. I am not worried about myself, I am worried about you, Xiao Mo." Xiao Mo thought for a while, nodded and said, "I will stop here and climb up to see the mountains near Tongyishao. If there is any accident, the sun only needs to sacrifice the flying sword, and I will be there immediately. After the 3-stick fragrant kung fu, I will continue on the road and return to Luapa Mountain as soon as possible. In fact, the sun doesn't have to hurry too quickly." With Mr. Zhu on the mountain, the sun will return later, so I think it's not a big problem. Qin Pingan nodded vigorously. It's definitely okay. Xiaomo asked curiously, which senior is the guest of Qingping Jianzong who deserves the sun to be so serious? Because whether it was the last celebration of the establishment of the sect of Luapa Mountain or the establishment of the next sect of Qingping Sword Sect, there are actually very few people who can really let the Mountain Lord Qin Pingan show up to serve guests in person, even if it's a surname outside Longhushan. Tianshi Liang Shuang, such an old on the mountain, or Pushunyi Yunyun, a master of martial arts in the middle of the continent. Qin Pingan did not deliberately behave so warmly, so Yao Jin, the old general of the Dequan dynasty, probably the only exception. Qin Pingan made a special trip to leave Xiandushan before and found the Dequan ferry that traveled north. As for Lu Jinglong, Zhong Kuei and Zhang Shanfeng, these have a very good relationship with Qin Pingan, and they are considered peers so they don't care about each other. Qin Pingan smiled and said, it's the senior song from Jingling Mountain Temple in Ao Pingzhou. Xiaomo suddenly realized that it was so. It's no wonder that the young man would be so energetic, even at the cost of directly consuming the 3 mountain talisman twice. Through Urbation Xiaomi Li, I learned that on his way to the Jianxi Great Wall for the first time, the son had met a senior who likes to eat hot pot and go out to look through the calendar. Above Fu Lu, the content of this letter from Chui Dongshan is very simple. Song Yuxiao from the country of Su Sui visited Qingping Jianzong. He heard that his husband was not on the mountain, so he left when he came and never reported his identity. The preaching of the gods on the mountain is immortal, and they can even rejuvenate themselves when they are in the fairyland, and choose the appearance that matches a certain age. But the aging of the old people in the rivers and lakes is irreversible. Even Tan Yingzhou had already left his master and chose to take the Tongyin ferry with Zheng Yuqian, and travel with Yi Yunyun and the others to Pushun. Qin Pingan walked to the top of the mountain and found that there was an extra white jade courtyard house. The second entry to the courtyard should be the immortal's handwriting. Sitting on the doorstep, Yunishin saw the blue shirt. He just smiled and held his fists. Qin Pingan held his fists in return. After crossing the threshold, he found that Huang Tingyi was really busy in the house. On an antique table, both it is Huang Ting's many files, and a copy of Zhu Shitang's landscape genealogy that Huang Ting took out from a nearby item. Huang Ting was almost forced to leave Tongyi's Hao by the Lord of Heaven and Taiping Mountain back then. Xianxia, returning to her hometown this time, requires her to re-clarify the boundaries of the Taiping Mountains. Some of the former mountain and water titles belong to the vassal hills of the Taiping Mountains, or they have established themselves in re-deeds with the local court that has restored Guizhou. Either the flowers will go to another home and replaced by a group of Xinfu sects that opened up the Shanli school and founded their own patriarch hall, and then Huang Ting needs to come in contact with them one by one. Qin Pingan was standing at the door, and Huang Ting raised his head and said with an aura, I am the chief guest officer of Qingping Sword Sect, and you will soon be our honor to be dedicated to Taiping Mountain. You are not an outsider. What a taboo. Qin Pingan then moved a chair to sit next to the immortal, and the two sides fell in love with each other without polite greetings and nodding their heads. Huang Ting leaned on the back of his chair, rubbing his temples with his hands, and said with a headache, if it weren't for the help, I would have to catch the blind. I don't know that the year of the monkey can really rebuild the patriarch hall. The guardian at our door is also a dry food. Yu Jishan didn't care too much, haha smiled and said, I am ashamed and ashamed. Huang Ting is so good looking with a frown and a smile, everything is romantic and everything she says is right. Qin Pingan smiled and said, those who can do more work. Senior Longmen sits here and strategizes. Taiping Mountain will renew the incense. It is just around the corner. Huang Ting smiled and looked at this young ancestor who was the next sect. He also made a named offering. Can't you say that, Lord Qinshan? Qin Pingan said with interest, I have written a booklet, but there are still many details. I need to ask Chui Dongshan to help me add it. I believe I can send it here in a few days. Huang Ting nodded. Only when things came to an end did they know their sorrows. There were a lot of clues, and she needed her to do it personally to know how difficult it is to be a competent mountain master. Qin Pingan picked up an account book on the table, flipped through it and asked casually, Huang Ting, I'm still the same as I said before. If you need fairy money, there are still a lot of ready-made Guyu money on the Luopashan account which you can borrow. They'll give you the money for interest, not for nothing. According to Jiang Shangsen's estimation, if Taiping Mountain wants to restore 30% of its peak weather in the past years, even if it is only 30%, To fill the hole in the aura of thousands of miles of mountains and rivers, it will need about 3 or 4,000 grains of rain money. The Luopishan financial treasury took out about 1,500 guyu qian in one go. The problem is not big. It helps the Taiping Shan tide over the immediate urgent need. Huang Ting shook his head, pointed to the nearby object on the table and said with a smile, "Just borrow the money is easy to pay and the debts are hard to pay. There are some treasures in this nearby object. You can open it and take a look." I searched everywhere from wuxia xianxia. There are all kinds of messy things. I am not proficient in the identification of treasures. Looking back, it's like walking away from 2 ancient secrets in vain. I blame myself for this. When you go down the mountain, you can simply take a handful of things and just look at it and sell it. Now the land of Tongye, Baoping and Fuyao, 3 continents, anyway it's all lacking. It's in short supply. Qin Shanzhu is a famous mountain friend. All the profits afterwards are 90% owned by me and 10% owned by you. How about, for example, 20%? Anyway, I don't care the pigs and find the wrongdoers. The higher the selling price, the more achievements Qin Shan will earn. Qin Pingan didn't have anything to be hypocritical and put the thing in his sleeve. Then it's guaranteed 10% will belong to me. Don't worry, I will help charge high prices. After the matter is completed, return this item and divide the account. Yu Jishan joked, "Is official Qin Yin planning to kill him?" Qin Pingan stood up, shook his sleeves, moved the armchair back to its original position and said with a smile, "I know Taoist negative mountain very well. You negative Shan, shut up immediately." Qin Pingan clasped his fists to bid farewell, and he stood up suddenly, "I want to chat with Mr. Qin." Huang Ting looked at the dossier on the table alone and sighed. He had to quickly find a suitable candidate for the suzerain. He was really not good at handling these matters. Qin Pingan pulled up Yuing for a walk. Qin Pingan said, "Friends of Mount Negative, the next excavation of Dadu in the middle of Tonggishao may require you to withdraw from your busy schedule and lead the diversions of many rivers and tributaries. As a reward, Taoists of Mount Negative will use the brand new Dadu in the future. Water is just right, there will be no objections." Although Xianxia is not well versed in general affairs, there is still no shortage of humanity and sophistication. He said, "I am not busy, don't you see the hermit? Taiping Shan is one of the initiators of the blasphemy. It is reasonable and reasonable. I want shirk a little bit. After that, I will leave Jianghu. For this huge incense, I can't help you calculate the price. It's a few gods or just a few. Don't be polite to me. For this kind of thing, you have a temper with Huang Ting. You can owe money but don't owe favors. The ugly thing is that I don't have any wealth on my body now. How much can I pay back? If you have the rest, please help me and make up in the future. Anyway, I personally owe you Qingping Jianzong, not on the top of the Taiping mountain." Qin Pingan smiled and nodded. Going out of the mountain to help excavate Dadu, Taoist negative mountain can also be regarded as a work-for-work debt. I will help figure out this account. In addition, Taoist negative mountain can be familiar with the landscape along the main river of Dadu in advance. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Yu Jishan asked, "Is this the hidden official calculated long ago?" Qin Pingan complained, "How can it be said that it is a calculation since it seems that I have a bad intention? The Taoist negative mountain is also suspected of being killed." Unexpectedly, negative mountain used a damage trick that killed 1,000 enemies and hurt 800, saying, "If I had a bright mind, how could I hide in a small place in order to take refuge these years, guarding a shop and eating and waiting to die?" It's not surprising that Qin Yin, who has been scheming, killed the second pig. Yu Jishan didn't give Qin Ping an opportunity to bury himself with strange words. After talking about the business, he hurriedly left. As the sun sets, it's like someone set a big fire on the horizon, making the clouds and seafood red. There is nothing in the lakes and mountains, life must be young. As expected, the immortal had a youthful appearance, with a peach runewood hairpin on his head, and he was wearing an ink-colored robe. Qin Pingan smiled and said, "Senior Longmen has worked so hard." Sure enough, he smiled and said, "It's just a little bit of effort, not worth mentioning. Mr. Chen's deep intentions and great thoughts on the reconstruction of Taiping Mountain are not comparable to me. For some reason, I always felt that Mr. Chen, who was said to have never climbed the Taiping Mountain back then, regarded himself as half of the Taiping Mountain monk." Qin Pingan joked, "We are dedicated to the predecessors of Longmen by name, so next time I visit Taishu Mountain, Shenzhou, I will definitely not have a closed door." Sure enough, he said, "I may stay here for a few more years, but I will write a letter with the senior sister, and then I will welcome you by sweeping the couch and I will be waiting for you." 1,000 miles away there is no one inhabited, here you can climb high and look into the distance, and your eyes are full of loneliness. Where there is a setting sun I am most afraid of climbing tall buildings. Sure enough, he said, something is busy, but for Huang Ting, it's a good thing and can be distracted. Therefore, I will deliberately let Huang Ting decide on many details that are not the key issue. It is not only that Huang Ting is the mountain lord, but he is simply worshipping. Intentionally, Huang Ting embarrassed him. Qin Pingan said softly, when I'm done, I will feel a little more relieved. Wu Shuangjiang Sui Chu Gong was called the Juvenile Cave by Qing Ming. Isn't this Victoria Peak? Qin Pingan planned to send out the authentic alchemy book as a ceremonial ceremony when the Tapingshan Patriarch Hall was built. According to Lu Chen's previous statement, the material of the book itself is superior. If more than 1,200 words are added, it will be refined. After that, it just happened to be able to support a Luotian Dajiao as a guardian formation for the Taiping Mountain. Just because this book was presented to him by Li Shixing, Qin Pingan certainly needed to ask Li Shixing, so he also asked Lu Chen to help him talk about it. By coincidence, Li Baoping took the initiative to mention the matter when he was a guest at Qingpingfeng this time, saying that his brother seemed like him. Knowing this, it's okay to say. Li Shixing also said that in the future, as long as the time is right, he will definitely come to Taiping Mountain. And this Li Shixing, who is still a student of Confucianism for the time being, is one of the three ancestors of Bai Yujing's master teacher, who happens to be the master teacher of the Tapingshan Taoist line. When Taiping Mountain was appointed as the Lord of Heaven, he burned incense and asked the gods to bring him down. As a result, he couldn't see the name of the master teacher visit the Patriarch Hall, which was regrettable. Qin Pingan said goodbye to Sure Enough, and then he will go to Pushun. Sure Enough, he clasped his fists and smiled and said, Mr. Qin is a real pure and mellow Confucian. He is justified by reason, but he has real knowledge and he is definitely not weird. Qin Pingan looked embarrassed and said, we really can't afford the praise of senior longmen. The Qianjin Wanshis High in Pushan's Henglutanrong is a highly prestigious study on the uphill and downhill of Tonggishao Mountain. Among the fairy stewards in the world, there are several small hills of their own. They are all familiar and destined old monks. They occasionally talk through a private mirror, chatting and chatting. In addition, they can communicate with each other. It is often just a few more ways to make money out of thin air. Previously, Tan Rong made an appointment with the steward of 2 transcontinental ferry boats from other towns, and helped a certain sect of Iazhao buy the 2 printed musical scores. Although it is certainly not extremely precious, the first edition of the first edition, which has now been fired at a high price, is also a supplement. The last one is short of regret. However, today's Tanzhong Law, taking the initiative to open Jinghua Shuiyu, has been silent about the matter. After sitting on a case table, on top of the empty case table, there is a brand new seal that the 2 parties have just succeeded. It is very eye-catching, but Tan Rong don't take the initiative to mention this, just wait for some sharp-eyed people to ask. After a long time of idleness, someone who knows the goods finally asked, Tan Rong, what is on the table is a newly engraved stamp. Pick it up and take a look at the seal. Let me see if your boy's seal control skills have increased now. Still retired. Tan Rong smiled and turned the direction of the seal, giving the side paragraph text and the name of the signature, and did not worry to show the bottom stamp. Jinghua Shuiyu fell into a long silence for a while. Because the inscriber is the Lao Pashan Qin Pinyin. As a result, someone took the lead to speak in a convincing tone, fake. Someone agreed, old Tan, why bother? Someone sighed and screamed, Tan Rong, in order to make a false name, I really don't need a little bit of skin. You can't make it. Everyone knows the bottom line. The swollen face is fattening. It's meaningless. This Tan Rong was furious, but Lao Zhanglu glanced at the doorway, and quickly stroked his beard and smiled, without a bit of depression, it's better to come here early than by coincidence. An old steward of the transcontinental ferry who had participated in the first meeting of the Downfall Mountain Spring Banner Studio, crushed a number of snowflakes and threw them into the mirror, and said in a deep voice, Tan Rong, don't do this kind of thing sincerely, it's a taboo. I also know your character and Pushun style, otherwise because of my extraordinary friendship with the new hermit, next time I see the new hermit, the wine table is set up, and a few glasses of wine are in the water. As things said, don't you think I know the handwriting of the new hermit? The lettering on the sides of the 2 seals is soft, weak, clear and feminine, and lacking in strength. Were you deceiving? I will take you to the city if I have a chance. Over there, take a good look at the words engraved by Master Hermit. Oh, Master Hermit. At the time, the old steward of the Yuanying realm had taken an extra small errand with a younger shipowner of the Golden Core sister, and was able to write down the content of the discussions between the two parties in Chunbanzhai. A young man in a blue shirt and long coat suddenly appeared in the mirror, standing beside Tan Rong, clasping his fists, shaking his hands and smiling. Listen to the voice, is it Lu Yu from the Fuzhong Ferry? Even after a beautiful mirror, the old steward still felt that his scalp was numb, his back was cold, and he did not dare to pretend to be deaf and dumb, so he trembled. It is exactly. Immediately, another female nun hurriedly smashed money into the mirror, and she said timidly, Lu Shun, the owner of the neon dress, has seen the hidden officer. Chen Pingan smiled and nodded with sleeves in both hands. Before Tan Rong ended this spectacle, Chen Pingan handed it over and smiled. Where to celebrate the old age with you, a good new year and a smooth wind, I wish you all a wealth of money in the new year. In the mirrored flowers and the moon, there was a lot of excitement, and dozens of voices sounded, and they returned salutes to the young hermit. Li Baoping and the others have left Pushun to continue their southward journey. They will follow the route given by Pushun to enter the sea along the Peijiang River, to the relics of a fairy house on a sea island, and then land. With Pei Qian, Zhong Kuei and Eugene in Tonggishao, even if they were against the Wan Yaozong who occupied the blessed land of the Three Mountains, they were not at all shocked. But now Pushan Zhu Shirtang has one more direct disciple, who is considered to be a guy who walks through the back door, named Cui Wanzhan, who is actually the body of Cui Dongshen's Yangshin, but Chen Pingyan is not suitable to meet with him for the time being. Before Qingping Jianzong's King Shandu, an old man in Qingshan came and traveled far alone. He heard that Qin Shanju was not in the mountains, so he stopped staying and continued to travel. Just like the elders in the family, most of them are like this. It's rare to speak and the words are always understated. If the younger generation is not paying attention, they will miss many of the meanings hidden in the plain expressions, eyes and words of the old people. Qin Pingan left Pushun and came to Mishue Peak. Cui Dongshan was very wronged and I can't tie senior song to not let go. Dare I? Just song you burned that stubborn temper. If Shindu Mountain had to keep guests, it would make the seniors unhappy at that time, and you must not throw fire on the students, sir. Qin Pingan asked, where did Song Senior travel? Cui Dongshan smiled and said, it seems that Senior Song did not plan to travel to Tonggishao at the beginning, so after leaving King Shandu, he went straight to the north. The city most likely is the place where Mr. and Zhong Kuei met. There is a ghost town along the way. There is nothing to see. There is an ancient hill that looks like the new city's god's temple. He is still busy over there. The temper of the predecessors is definitely willing to stop and take a few more glances. Qin Pingan nodded and said, go ahead and I will find Senior Song by myself. Cui Dongshan chuckled and said, sir, I'm happy to tell you that Chai Wu is already in the Yupu realm. The natal flying sword presented by Xiaoma has also been refined by Chai Wu, so we Qingping Jianzong, more there was a sword repairman in the Jade Pure realm. Qin Pingan was speechless for a while. Cui Dongshan said, I didn't deliberately hide anything, so after learning about this, King Sun Chun, Bai Xian and the others worked harder and became more serious in sword training. King Sun Chun is better and Bai Xian is the best. Poor, just like being struck by lightning, even saying that it's impossible or impossible. He squatted on the ground holding his head and almost didn't lie on the ground and rolled. He Guyu slanted back and felt relieved when he was so troubled by Bai Xian. But in general, no one is jealous of Chai Wu's one step ascent to the sky. In the end, he is a local swordsman of the Great Wall of Sword Qi. He has a broad vision, has seen the world and has a good sense of Tao. There will be no doubts, just like Bai Xian. The so-called impossibility is this uncle, wondering how can there be peers with better qualifications than me in the world, can't, shouldn't, how is it possible? Bai Xian has slowed down a bit in recent days, yes, but I will definitely continue to struggle with this matter for at least a few months. Qin Pingan said helplessly, what an uncle. It didn't take long to see each other and even tricked Jiui Feng Qiuji into the monogram of the hero score. It was indeed the only one. Qin Pingan suddenly asked two headless questions one after another, which caused Cui Dongshan's forehead to seep with sweat, and he stopped talking several times without being able to speak. Have you ever caught eel on the edge of the field? There is a saying in the Bai Xian chapter of Guanzi, which is so famous all over the world. Dongshan, what do you think? As soon as Cui Dongshan was about to speak, his husband had already turned into a dozen sword lights, and he had passed Shindu Mountain in an instant. Cui Dongshan was dull and speechless, murmured, Mr. really want to be an enemy of the Confucian temple rules? In this way the gentleman provokes him, but it is the saint of etiquette. Cui Dongshan didn't want to say that her husband was not half a sentence, so he jumped his feet and yelled at the auntie. For the first time, Cui Dongshan felt that his husband's realm was not high enough, which was a good thing. It's just that Cui Dongshan started to scold that Yangji is an idiot again. Isn't this jumping on the chopping board by yourself? Or is it that by relying on the rules of the Confucian temple and being away from the battlefield, he is sure that Mr. Dare will not make a move? Could it be said that the Saint of Rights is intentional? Is it a gamble with that Zhou Zi? Within the territory of the old Great Yuan dynasty, the ruins of the originally ghostly battlefields have now become clear and vigorous. In the twilight, an old man in a green shirt, wrapped in cotton cloth, walked slowly into the gate of the city. This place is the same city as the prefecture and county office. The old man's vision is still the same as where he went before. Lethargy. The old man looked at the ruins of the Xuanhuan temple. There was a slight surprise. Could it be that there is already a new Xuanhuan in the city? I plan to go there and have a look. The old man has been walking the rivers and lakes all his life, until the day that Jinpen washes his hands and exits the rivers and lakes. It seems that he didn't go too far. Not long ago, the old man found grandson Song Fengshan and grandson-in-law Lu Qian, and said that he wanted to visit Tonggishao in the south. Song Fengshan and Lu Qian could not persuade them, so the old man had to travel across continents alone. As for why the old man suddenly had this intention, the two younger generations knew well that they had to blame Wei Wei, the mountain goddess who was built in the watershed. The mountain goddess sent a secret letter to the Jingling Mountain Temple. Lu Qian, who thinks she is a close friend of her boudoir, took the initiative to talk about Qinjiangxian's Luopa Mountain, and she is about to choose Tonggishao as the next sect. Anyway, it is a trivial matter of Fijian's letter. Regardless of the favor, Lu Qian is now a colleague of the court's orthodox official and included in the landscape genealogy of the Ministry of Rights. In fact, the couple knew very well that what Grandpa really wanted to visit was the Beiju Luzhou in the north and the Luxiazu in the northwest that owns Yuzhou. The former wanted to go when he was young. At that time, the master of Shushui state martial arts always felt that the swordsmen of the rivers and lakes and the swordsmen on the mountain were no different. If there is a real difference, you will know when you go. The latter was because Song Yu wanted to go after he was old. Anyway, he wanted to go to both places, but he never went to them. Song Fengshan certainly didn't worry about his grandfather going to Tonggishao, the awe-inspiring 9 continents, which was the most ruined place by the monsters in the wild world in the past, but now the mountains are the least peaceful. Last time, Qin Pingon had already taken the Taoist companion Ning Yao to visit Jingling Mountain, and had a drink, but he was in a hurry to head to Tsai country, so he didn't stay. Song Yushao didn't have the face to keep young people, relying on old age to sell old people. Young people are willing to be busy with careers, busy with big things, and it's good, and it's not a good thing to be idle. As for the celebration of the Lower Mountain sect, Song Yushao didn't invite himself. There is nothing wrong with people, those mountain scenery, a quagmire takeover, there is nothing to mix up. Besides, that kid's next clan is not yet in Aquarius Island, the landscape is so varied, most of them think that he is old and can't walk. Can't eat spicy food and drink wine. Brat. Next time you meet, don't think I have a good face. Today there are more than a dozen living people in the city. The head is a brawny man with armor and a sword, and a 6-state martial artist named Hong Cho who pretends to be a 5-state. The man and the woman Wang Manmeng are a pair of dewy mandarin ducks. Wang Manmeng was born in Shanzai-Xiu. The woman was short, but she was charming and fair-skinned. A short nightgown with a tunic, a pair of embroidered shoes, to use a certain fat man's expression, it is a slender waist and a fat man. The dozens of wild Xiu and Jianghu Wufu originally wanted to come here to make some money. Horses have no night and grass and are not fat, and people are not rich without windfall. In fact, they almost made a lot of money. As a result, I didn't die. I met a scholar named Zhong with a fat squire around him. A group of guys who are used to making a living by making a living. In this ghost city, they are actually being forced to do good things. Become the carpenter, build wooden carts, carefully gather the corpses scattered in the city, and then be the great benevolent who pays and contributes to build the spiritual place of the Yizhuang, find the dragon and acupuncture points to find a good feng shui house, to open and build a cemetery, and to identify the identities of the bones. You have to go to the households of the 2 state and county government offices in the city to carefully check the archives and local chronicles. They have never read, turned books, and copied names so hard in their entire lives. Dare to love is to practice calligraphy. In addition, in the old city's temple every night, he would temporarily act as the kind of ghost messenger, and accompany Guqiu to audit the many lone souls and wild ghosts at night, carefully examining their lives and deeds. Among them, some of them were not the martial arts fighters. They are numb, they guess that they don't have to be afraid of ghosts in their lives at night. Recently, I started to joke about each other, not to mention how good our handwriting is. Compared with ordinary scholars, it is not much different. I wrote home letters to people on the street, the New Year's Guan Temple Fair, and a few Spring Festival couplets. Can you earn a few ounces of silver? Now in this ghost town, sleeping at night is a bit more secure. As a result, there are a few people who work diligently during the day. Most of the dreams in the middle of the night are there to report their names, disturbing the dream, and the awakened people are annoyed by hearing them, and they just slap their backhands. It's just that recently this group of people disagrees. In the early morning of Lichuan, Guqiu suddenly said that the city is already happening now. It's free for everyone to go. A large group of people who were supposed to disband were supposed to sit on the ground and divide the spoils. If they got the money according to the rules, they could go back to each house and go home. Except for those yellow and white things that were obtained from 3 feet of hard work, the antique calligraphy and paintings, rare books, and Guqia's help to estimate the price, were all converted into fairy money or real gold and silver, which was refreshing. But a group of people headed by Wang Manmeng felt that staying in the city following Guqia's fight might be a path of peace. Guangzhong Yaozu was all indeterminate, and it was not a dream to find an official status to worship. But her concubine Hong Cho felt that she was lying here and it was meaningless. It would be better to hug the group and find a place to open the mountain and establish a faction. When they have the capital, they will be recruited by the court for security and sold to the emperor's house. Better price. The two sides were arguing, and both felt that it was really better to get together, so they kept dragging them. They lived in 2 adjacent residences of senior officials in the former state city, each with a library called the 7,001 Library, and in the 8,000-volume library building, it seemed like a quarrel with 2 ants and ants. At this moment, a row of people squatted above the ruined city, as if they were basking in the setting sun. They really had nothing to do, vying to and fro, and they did not fight for a path that could be recognized by both parties. They saw an old man in a blue shirt and long gown, appeared on the street, looking at his footsteps and aura, like a practicing family. A thin monkey-like young man smiled and said, "Old gentleman, why do you come to such a place where birds don't shit? If you leave it aside, you will have to replace the title with the old thing." Seeing that the old man was not talking, the thin man deliberately said alarmistly, "The old gentleman must be careful, seeing the sky is about to enter the night. Here is a place full of fierce ghosts and ghosts." The martial arts felt that they could walk sideways and be careful of overturning the ship in the gutter. Those ghostly nightmare methods are very strange, and they cannot be dealt with by the people of the rivers and lakes. If you turn over and copy too many books, your speech will be gentle, isn't it? In fact, all the things that can be searched in the city have been scraped and cleaned by them, and there is no worry that someone will come here to hunt for treasures. There are only some leftovers that can make money, which is also a skill. They were so bored that they were basking in the sun here, and they have been chatting and farting for almost 2 hours. The old man smiled when he heard the words and nodded and said, "I am a foreigner who has traveled here. Tong, yes, his elegant words are very lame. You can only listen to the general meaning. Your kindness is appreciated." The skinny monkey man asked curiously, "Outside town? How come out town?" The old man said, "From Aquarius Island." The group of people groaned suddenly and only felt that the back was air-cooled. The old guy is a hard idea and he must have a hand. Nonsense, it's not that the road trips from the Aquarius Island to the south of the continent are bad. Don't mess with the people of Aquarius Island, now it is almost the consensus of Tongi's Mountain. No way, there are indeed talents over there. For example, the last hermit of the Great Wall of Sword Chi was born in Aquarius Island. The fat man named Gusu, before leaving the ghost town, had made a vow, saying that he and the young hermit were close friends who met irresistibly. He said that Xianxian was born 10 feet tall, big and round, with a hideous appearance based on his appearance alone. Honor can deter evil and sneaky people, and I also suggested that they are brothers from the rivers and lakes who are not trainers. They only need to call their young hermits by their names so they don't have to be afraid of walking at night in the future. Of course they don't believe it just because you, a fat man who drools at Wang Manmeng every day, can you be a brother to the hidden official who is far away in the sky and high above? It's just that if you don't believe me, you have to hold the other person in your mouth. Nothing. It's because you have suffered from the other's hands, either being hung up or tied to the beam to be a gentleman. It's nothing, mainly the gentleman on the beam who just took a nap. Suddenly he woke up and found that a woman with bleeding from 7 orifices was suddenly sitting next to her, combing her hair, and when she fainted, she woke up and found herself nestled in the arms of the female ghost. Passed out. Living like a year, this period of bleak experience in the city after going out, you can write this strange novel. Song Yuxiao went straight to the old city temple. Regarding the geomantic omen of the same place, the old people who are used to walking around the rivers and lakes can still see it in real terms. In fact, only to say that there is no bone corpse in this city, it can already explain the problem. Mostly there is a very good xuanhuan out of the local area. Guqiu, the real master of the ghost town, now sits in the Jiuzhou city god temple. There is a ghost girl named Xiaofang in the Golden Core realm. She has served as Guqiu's maidservant for many years and lives in a small peach blossom courtyard all the year round. Guqiu was born in a prestigious county in the old Great Yuan dynasty. His father was once the chief official of a country's weaving bureau and the confidant of the first emperor. Guqiu himself was also a real two-listed scholar. A county lieutenant in a large county under his jurisdiction has outstanding political achievements. Before Mr. Zhong left, he said that he could help Guqiu to introduce him to the new monarch of Great Yuan. Maybe he could get the official title of the imperial court and formally serve as the Yizhou city god. There is nothing hypocritical about promotion according to merit, but Guqiu is still a bit hesitant. It is really the former abbot of the Great Yuan general who held the Water and Land Law Society. Going to persuade, the result almost fell into a siege which completely chilled Guqiu. What's more, in Guqiu's view, that new emperor's improper position does not count as an inheritance of orthodoxy. In the end, he was ridiculed by the fat man. At a young age, there was an old literati habit. He didn't want to turn the tide. He always wanted to meet a brilliant Mingjun before he was willing to go out and display his ambitions. Gusu. Brother, if I were an emperor, I would not be rare to be a celebrity like you. Of course Guqiu knew that this was the Guixian who claimed to be Gusu who was using the radical method, but after thinking about it, there was some truth to it. Before Zhong Kuei once said that he could not sit firmly in a city temple, and he could not turn a book of merits, there was a reason. Think more about it. There are two things that have the intention to do good and the unintentional do evil. Inside the Qinghuang temple, Xiaofang and Guqiu reminded softly, an old man just came here, claiming to be from Aquarius Island, and he seems to be a martial artist from the Six Realms. Guqiu nodded and said, don't worry, just let the old man just walk around. As the host of this city, Guqiu, as a state city who was only one short of the court's title, had already seen that the other party was an old man who was walking straight ahead. Sure enough, the old gentleman didn't walk into the Qinghuang temple, but just clasped his fists outside the door and turned away. The old man originally wanted to meet again next time. He must make a show of something stinky to show the young man, but when the old man really saw the blue shirt on the street, he still couldn't hold his face and laughed. After Song Yuxiao held his hands, he hurried forward and asked with a smile, isn't it in the mountains? How did you find this place? Chen Pingan smiled brightly and said, I didn't go far down the mountain and got the student's flying sword to pass the letter, so I rushed over. Anyway, there are no steps. Song Yuxiao asked, find a place, the whole hot pot and have a drink? Chen Pingan smiled and said, senior is old after all. If you want to have a drink, I have to let it go. Hot pot is wine, I have it in the world. Song Yuxiao scolded with a smile, which pot is not opened or which pot is to be lifted? Guapi learned strange things from. The two walked side by side. The old man turned his head to look at the young man in Qingshan carrying the sword and nodded, it's not ugly. Chen Pingan thought for a while and said, if you have something you may have to ask seniors for advice. Song Yuxiao nodded and said, I'll talk about it when I get to the wine table. Before Chen Pingan appeared on the street, he had troubled Guqiu and girl Xiaofang to help find hot pot ingredients. As for the drinks, Chen Pingan had it himself. In a clean house, a hot copper pot has been placed on the table, with all kinds of cut meat and vegetarian materials, dishes, chopped pepper and sauce. Chen Pingan and the little boat girl gave a fist to thank. The girl smiled and waved her hand to say that the son needn't be so polite. She gave a blessing and walked away. Because Chen Pingan didn't invite the girl to eat hot pot with Guqiu because he wanted to have a drink with Song Senior. After crossing the threshold, the girl suddenly stopped and asked curiously, can you ask the son what is his last name? After all, it was Mr. Zhong's friend on the mountain, and the last time the opponent appeared in the city, it was extremely popular and it shocked everyone at once. Chen Pingan smiled and said, the surname is Chen and the name is Pingan. It's safe and peaceful. The girl was stunned, holding back a smile and said, what a coincidence. He had the same name and surname as the young hermit. Chen Pingan smiled and nodded, what a coincidence. The spectators on the other side of the wall burst into laughter and whistles, especially that Wang Manmeng, who was overwhelmed with joy. She was so handsome and bold. My sister likes this kind of bookish scholar. Xiaofeng glared at them fiercely and began to wave to drive people away. The name of Master Qin and the young hermit is wrong. Can Qin Pingan manage it? Qin Pingan took out 2 jugs of wine and 2 white bowls, and used wine glasses for drinking. That was what Lu Jiuxin and Wei Haoyang could do. Song Yushao glanced at the condiment plate beside Qin Pingan. The dried chili and freshly chopped chili were less than half of them. Qin Pingan noticed the old man's sight and had to pick up 2 more chopsticks. Song Yushao filled himself with a bowl of wine, but was not in a hurry to drink. The old man said, "Don't do things that are against your heart. Things that are from your heart, but things that are against the morals of the world, don't do it. Today can't be done. For the things that are expected to be done in the future, you must not use any means to achieve your goals and do not rush to do them." Qin Pingan was silent for a moment, raised the wine bowl and said with a smile, "The younger generation has no questions to ask." Song Yushao picked up the wine bowl, hesitated again, and finally couldn't help but asked softly, "What's wrong? Is it tempted by women other than Miss Ning?" Qin Pingan was dumbfounded. "What's the matter with you, senior? You would ask this kind of question? That is, you, senior, otherwise no one will say this." Qin Pingan raised his wine bowl and said dumbly, "Senior, don't talk nonsense, it's all done." Song Yu said angrily, "I really got it right, you're so good at it, now you don't have to worry at all. Drink a fart of wine and ask for scolding?" Qin Pingan said helplessly, "Senior, tell me, is this possible? Borrow my courage? When I was at the Great Wall of Jianghu, every time I went out for a drink, I had to shake up the alcohol before I dared to knock on the door. Of course, I wouldn't be locked out of the door for the night." Song Yushu's expression stretched and nodded. "That's true. I'm free with this bowl of wine, you did it?" Qin Pingan drank it all in one mouth, and the old man who said that he was casual in fact was not casual, and he drank a large bowl of wine directly. Qin Pingan regretted it a little when he saw this, and knew that he had taken out the big bowl from Jianghu Great Wall's own wine shop. Without persuading liquor on the table, Song Yushao drank soju and suddenly asked, "Why does your kid have gray hair?" "Not much, but since you can see it after a few glances, it means that young people have not too few white hair." Qin Pingan was stunned and smiled. "Maybe it's because of the downturn. It doesn't matter, it's a bit older, it's good. I have never paid attention to this matter. I think the people around me who have been paying attention have chosen not to speak out because of various reasons. Probably this kind of thing, only an old man and an elder who has long been gracious, can speak out." The old man didn't ask why he fell, just smiled and said, "It's okay to think that only a young man has gray hair and is old." Qin Pingan gave a hey. At the corner of the wall outside the house, a young man in white squatted before. After a group of people on the wall were driven away from the wall, the young man who was finally all right and light left with them. "Without disturbing my husband," with the old man who changed a big event in a few words, "drink a good drink to reminisce about the past." Wang Manming turned her head and looked at the handsome boy with 2 snow-white sleeves flying off. She was in a very good mood. The more she looked at it, the more she felt that the green shirt guest at the table in the house was not good-looking, very bad. The woman twisted her slender waist and smiled charmingly. "Which young man come here to play? It's dark. I'm afraid to walk at night. Just stay close to my sister. It's dark and stretch out your hand. It's common for people who don't see their fingers, bumps or touches them carelessly, and my sister won't blame it." Cui Dongshan was in a good mood at the moment and turned a deaf ear to her. He just looked up and found that it was snowing in the early spring. Seeing that handsome snow-white boy kept silent, the beautiful woman felt bored too, but she did not dare to reach out to pinch his cheek, not for fear of overturning the jealous jar, but just a ghost. "I think this beautiful boy is too beautiful." Boy Lang's eyebrow has a red mole, which looks like a plum tree on the side of a wild bridge in his country in the goose feather snow that he saw as a young girl. Cui Dongshan walked slowly down the street with sleeves in his hands. The snow was getting bigger. He recovered and smiled suddenly. "This sister, my name is Cui Dongshan, I am a student of Mr. Us. The hot pot on the table is in the snow outside the table, and the 3,000 worlds are in the snow." Sword of Coming Chapter 967. The snow and the moon are suitable and the youth is more clear. In addition, this guy who called himself Cui Dongshan, a total of 6 people, walked together to the tall mansion with a 6,000-volume library. A skinny monkey-like man walked in the forefront, sweeping the snow with his feet to make way for the embroidered shoes on the woman's feet to be soaked in snow. A woman named Wang Manming. She claims to be a Sevuing realm, but she doesn't like being called a fairy. The skinny man once slapped a horse's hoof with a flattery. Along the way, she and the handsome boy who claimed to be Cui Dongshan had a lot of idleness. Of course, the woman from Yeshio had a smile like a flower, with many delicate thoughts hidden, just like the road under the snow. Looking at Shui by Wu Xian, I really need to poke aside with my feet, it's muddy. Wang Manming found that the young man next to him was frivolous, not like a practicing man. A pair of boots was already covered with snow chips. The young man shivered from the cold. He gently patted the falling snow on his head and shoulders, asking again and again, "Is it there yet?" The main reason was that this woman and her concubine had a lot of disagreements. Wang Manming was unwilling to go to the fence. Seeing the face of the person, she hated the imperial government even more. She didn't even think about finding a hill to open the mountain. After all, Hongqiu was born in a river and a lake. Where did he know the doorway on the mountain? There was no need to see blood when killing people. Those who have had a conflict and really have a family business, it will be difficult to get out of it anymore. How can it be so easy to leave, and to say that they are inferior to the other party and seek perfection? What will happen then? Just wash Hongqiu's dignified face and sell her buttocks? Or just push her out of that friendship activity? You Hongqiu doesn't bother to wear a hat on your head, and my old lady also thinks it is too much trouble to pretend to be on the bed and be polite. So the two groups of people lived in the adjacent Gaomen mansion, quite a bit like the well water did not offend the river. The woman walked side by side with the white-clothed boy into the house and came to a lobby. The valuables had been emptied long ago, and she looked like she was on all sides. Only a Nanmu plaque was left, but it was not hung on the wall, but casually lying on the table against the wall. Under. The white-clothed boy crossed the threshold and entered the lobby. After scanning a few times, there was indeed nothing left. He ran to squat by the table, then poked his under the table and reached out to wipe the dust on the plaque. Tianlong life. Cui Dongshan took out the plaque and put it on the table first, planning to move back to Mi Xiefeng's study. There were 2 braziers in the house. They burned the charcoal by themselves. The thin man with his hands and feet was diligent and went to add some charcoal to the brazier. Finally, he did not forget to fiddle with some charcoal ashes to cover the red charcoal so that the charcoal would not burn too fast. At first glance, he is a diligent and thrifty housekeeper. Divided into 2 groups, each sitting around the brazier, snow was flying outside the door. It was because of an unfamiliar boy who did not speak much and the atmosphere was deserted. This person is of unknown origin and dared to enter the ghost city alone. How could he be the kind of seemingly weak and ignorant young man who dared to enter the ghost city alone? Few of them are good stubborns. Seeing that they are young, God knows how old he is. Only the man who added charcoal, Cheeky, sat on the side of the beautiful woman, just facing the little white face. Wang Manming is Hongqiu's concubine. In general, no one dares to tease her. Before, Guqiu just looked at her like a book reader. Once he entered the city, he was often put on small shoes by Hongqiu. Right now, this thin man is an exception, I guess. I feel that my concubine is no longer picky about eating, and he won't let this mouth go. The charcoal burst in the brazier like the sound of firecrackers, and occasionally sparks splashing on the side of the pants of the man several times, and the thin guy seems to be worried about being burned through the pants by that spark, and will always slap it a few times. Cui Dongshan bent down and twisted a piece of charcoal on the edge of the brazier, gently crushed it and smiled. It's white charcoal, it's more expensive than ordinary black charcoal. Sister Manming, can you guys, how do you have a small life? Wang Manming raised his chin, glanced at the man sitting opposite Cui Dongshan, and smiled charmingly. How do I know what white carbon black charcoal is? Chen House unique craftsmanship. No serious skills, the stove is a cook, cutting wood and burning charcoal, hoe plowing the ground, building wooden carts, are all good hands. The thin bamboo stick man originally leaned forward, lowered his head, and stretched out his hands to warm himself by the fire. By the way, he looked at the beautiful woman's embroidered shoes from the corner of his eyes, his throat moved slightly, he swallowed, and he was really greedy. Wang Manming's skin is so white that it seems to be able to squeeze the water out. Her 2 feet wearing embroidered shoes can't be exposed to the sun all year round. Isn't it more white and tender? Guqiu, who used to help her to pour foot washing water, is a real blessing. At this moment, he raised his head and rubbed his hands and smiled. Brother Cui has a good vision. It is indeed white charcoal. It is not comparable to black charcoal. It is resistant to burns, does not smoke, and does not choke people. Of course, good things cost money. Ordinary people do. Can't afford this kind of white charcoal. Cui Dongshan took off a pair of snow-soaked boots, apologized. then carried one in one hand, flipped the boots over and burned, and asked with a smile, "You can sell it for a couple of dollars over 100 caddies of charcoal in your hometown?" Xianhuan smiled and said, "My hometown backs the mountain and eats the mountain. There are several kinds of hardwoods on the mountain, which are very suitable for burning white charcoal. The reputation is quite big. As for the kiln, as for how the name came, I also talked about it. There was a Liu temple at the foot of a mountain. Later, when I was far away from my hometown, I realized that it was called Yinzi. The name was strange. I don't know what the imperial court and scholars are. I didn't change my opinion. Before I left my hometown, I remember that the incense in the Liu temple was always very good. The cold weather is freezing badly, and the price goes up for a good meal. It can be sold for 2, 4 and 5 silver. If there is some connection with the accountant and concierge of the wealthy family in the prefecture and county, the price can be doubled. Brother Chui, at first glance, he is the rich man who came out of everyone's portal, and he is also on the mountain. How can he know the market price of charcoal?" Wang Manming actually wanted to interrupt several times, only to see that the white-clothed boy listened carefully and patiently, so he waited for Qianhuan to finish a chase, and then smiled and complained, "Chui Lang is just asking you for a price, nonsense. Do more, the horse will have more saliva if you pee too much." The thin man looked sad. In fact, this quack nicknamed Qianhuan doesn't talk a lot and can't help it. He's just a 3-level martial artist who knows how to use the quack. How loud can his voice be? It's just that when I talked about the craftsmanship of charcoal and it had something to do with my hometown, I finally met someone who knew the goods. The guy couldn't help himself for a while, so he couldn't stop his mouth. Chui Dongshan smiled and said, "My husband has burned charcoal before and he is an expert. I just listened to it a few years. If my husband is here, I must have a few more conversations with you." Chui Dongshan asked casually, "How long have you been here and how much money have you earned?" Wang Manming said diddily, returning to Chui Lang's words, "I came to the city during the summer season last year. More than half a year has passed. As for how much I earn, I won't talk about it if my wealth is not exposed. A trip, compared to being for the courts of various countries, it will always have a better life and a rare good year. Is Chui Lang interested in walking the rivers and lakes with us? Hong Chou has a relationship with us." The brothers who led the army and the generals were well informed. They came over at the end of last year and said that in the past 2 or 3 years of the Great Yuan dynasty, they still couldn't take care of these ghost towns that had been drained of oil and water. The emperor was very busy. That's awesome. At the end of last winter, before they met Zhong Kuei and Gusu, they were actually full of calculations. According to Gukia's estimate, they had already made almost exactly 1 grain of rain money, which was evenly distributed, which was almost 10 snowflakes per person, just as agreed. It's not the way to calculate the vulgar rules. The real big head is the humongous man who claims to be Wufu in the 5 realms and the 6 realms in reality, and Wang Manming who claims to be the Sevuing realm but is actually the Dongfu realm. Mandarin ducks, the two are divided into almost 40%, but this team was pulled together by the two of them and no one dared to object. After all, the thick knife, even the murderous ghosts floating around, can kill. How difficult is it to kill a few living people? It is already very moral. Afterwards, they seem to have had a big luck and they actually earned another 7 or 8 small summer coins. Now the two groups of people are watching how Wang Manming and Hong Chou talked. Chui Dongshan smiled and asked, "If you come to this place to earn money, there are no dead people?" Wang Manming smiled and said, "No, it is really good luck. The first thing I did when I entered the city, I went to the Xuanhuan temple to burn incense and make a wish. Qianhuan also has craftsmanship and helped burn the paper money from 2 large dustpans." Qianhuan got a compliment, as if his whole body was lightened by a couple of tails, and he sat there grinning silly. It is really rare that the 12 people entered the city together. There is no danger, not to mention that they have made a lot of money, and everyone has a full tail and no one lacks arms or legs. My colleagues in other cities don't have this blessing. There are dozens of ghost cities in the old Great Yuan dynasty, large and small. The fierce ghost was still rampant, and then it disappeared a little when the New Year's pass was approaching. Most of them are matched like this, led by a few Yamazawa Yeshio who knows a little bit of mountain magic, swarms a group of quack takers, and stray dogs dig out food, eat some leftovers that leaked from the nails of the court officers and soldiers coldly. In the autumn and winter season of last year, there was often news that in those states, counties and cities, people died violently from time to time, even being possessed by ghosts or had nightmare, and they suddenly started to kill each other, and when the day broke they were all over the ground. The tragic condition of the corpse, it is rumored that there was a ghost city that had been fighting tragically. The yin was too heavy and there were all fairy and ghosts, gathering the surrounding atmosphere of thousands of yin soldiers. Hongqiu was worried at the time, yes. After thinking about it, those who want to withdraw from the city are worried that the golden pill ghost fairy is going south. The yin soldiers crossing the border is not a joke, but for some reason first is approaching the new year, and the ghost towns seem to be clearly demarcated. There is no such thing as a group of wild ghosts every night, as if there are signs of heroic ghosts and generals deploying troops. Waiting until the night of the New Year's 30th night, there was another riot in the middle of the night, and Guqiu did not hesitate to do so. I violated the ban, risking being held accountable by the Great Yuan Court, or even by the Confucian Academy, and for the first time put on an official robe of the Chenghuangi and sat in the Qinghuang Temple. After that, all the ghosts seemed to have disappeared. The money monkey. The children vowed to say that this is God's eye-opening, and took those lonely wild ghosts, so that they all have a place to return, paved a yellow spring road in the sun, and the ghosts walked through the Naiha Bridge and drank Mingpa Tang before they could reincarnate. What? Wang Manming is an out-and-out air trainer. What she sees and knows is not comparable to Qian Hoer's old sayings, but she is also confused. At that time she noticed the vision of heaven and earth, and hurried to Yufeng to go to the city. I just feel as if the whole world has an inexplicable weather, not the landscape vision of the heaven and earth aura that the Qi practitioner dreams of gathering. Wang Manming has made a special trip in this life, watching from a distance passing a long-admired Xianxia mountain, near the sect called Taiping Mountain. The woman had also seen similar weather, but it seemed that it was far less magnificent than that night. In the middle of the night, Wang Manming stood alone on the top of the city. When she looked at the dots of lights, she slowly gathered together and left the ghost city in large groups. It was faintly visible that there was a scribe in official robes in the team. The armored soldier, after his death, the last journey of the Yinming mountains and rivers seemed to be still maintaining order there. In the team there was a pale face but a smiling young boy, under the leadership of the elders and the helper on the top of the city. The women who gathered the corpses and built the righteous village all bent over to thank. In sincere words, righteousness of the world, forever. It's just this idea that when she gets off the city, it fades away and after dawn, it is completely gone. The woman thinks about it, it is her own way out in the future. Wang Manming looked at the young man in white who put his boots on the brazier and began to pinch his nose to roast a pair of snow-white socks. She charmingly asked, "Shui Lang, what do you do? It seems, which is the genealogy monk of the new mountain, come here. How about going down the mountain here, alone? The elders of the division will not follow to help protect the way. It doesn't look like the monks worshipping the Xian de Yuan court. They are unassuming. To put it simply, they are looking at the eyes of others. They are indeed looking at people." With this kind of vision, Wang Manming, as a casual cultivator of the expelled division, has been wandering around for half a century, which is not lacking. The boy in white squeezed his nose with one hand, shook two satin socks with the other, smiled and said, Now I am the lord of the sect." Wang Manming covered his mouth and smiled with one hand, then patted the boy's arm gently. Shui Lang really likes to talk and laugh. There was a young and strong swordsman on the brazier and said with a smile, "Sect master? Why not be the leader directly? The sect under the mountain is not called sect, and the immortal mansion on the mountain is not called religion. It has always been a rule, but relatively speaking, the restrictions on the former are much more relaxed. Big thing. If this person with the surname Chui is not joking, since he is the sect master, then it is definitely not the immortal mansion on the mountain. After all, there are only a few sects in Tonggishao now. Never thought that this little white-faced young is also a mess. Everyone is the old world. When I heard that the young man was not a fairy teacher on the mountain, the atmosphere immediately became warmer, and he was no longer so cautious. As for whether the language of the servant was a blindfold, it was a trainer pretending to be a quack, it doesn't matter, the sky falls. Next, there are Wang Manming and her concubine on their heads, unable to withstand it, and there is also Guqiu, the alternate city god, who will clean up the mess. Just say that in this state city they are still very emboldened. Cui Dongshan smiled and said, I almost became the deputy leader. Qian Hoer finally found someone better than himself and couldn't bear to laugh at him. Cui Dongshan continued, My mountain top, there are not many people for the time being, and we are in charge of the genealogical monks of less than 10,000 people. Wang Manming laughed loudly. This Cui Lang, it is a pity not to be a storyteller in a restaurant. Qian Hoer smiled, craned his neck to look at the heavy scenery on the woman's chest. Cui Lang, then do you see if your sister can go to your side and be the chief consecration? It's okay to be in charge of the ancestor or to manage the money. My sister can live a good life but she can plan carefully. Cui Dongshan rubbed his chin and said with a serious expression, that elder sister had to ask a fairyland sword repairman, a Yuanying stage sword repairman and a 9-realm swordsman. They 3 agreed not to make room for the older sister. Everyone looked at each other then burst into laughter. If it is really a genealogical monk on the mountain he would also recognize it, so the words are interesting, not many. The premise is not the kind of weird genealogy monk, small belly chicken intestines who likes to joke, but he is absolutely not allowed to make jokes, and he is still chatting and laughing at the moment, and he will turn his face and deny the person the next moment. Cui Dongshan suddenly asked, my sister just wants to make sure that I am a cultivator? Why have enmity with the gods on the mountain? Or is it the kind of hatred that both sides have to lie down when they meet? Wang Manming smiled from ear to ear, and stretched out her hand to cover the mountains that she was about to emerge. Because she likes to wear night clothes, the mountains are sharply contoured, straight and tall, and the 2 peaks are facing each other so they look particularly aggressive. She rubbed her heart and said, Cui Lang's guess is so unreasonable. Cui Lang is so suspicious but like a Shanzhua Yishio. Cui Dongshan smiled, don't be nervous, just ask casually, I must have misunderstood my sister, I always feel murderous. The beautiful woman with a slender figure bit her lip, how can my sister dare to kill? There is no help but to be bullied. Cui Dongshan smiled and put on his socks and boots again. Damn it, if it wasn't for your husband you would eat hot pot nearby to see how I am a guest host with you. One person got the news from the house and soon heard the news and rushed to the house here. He was a burly man in armor with a knife on his waist and scars on his face. In the words of Fat Gisu, he looks to ward off evil spirits and walks at night, which can scare ghosts. It is Hong Cho, a hidden martial artist in the 6 realms. In today's Tongji's How there is this martial arts realm. Xiang Gongqing, as a family guest who protects the safety of his home, is even more accessible. Hong Cho stretched out his hand to smash the handle of the knife, strode forward, stepping on the snow on the road, rustling, clear in his ears in the snowy night. Looking inside the room, Hong Cho's face was gloomy, and he walked away from the ancient hill who had cleared his relationship with them, and finally came another boy in white clothes who didn't know his roots and feet. This makes Hong Cho extremely depressed. You Andy, you really don't know whether to live or die. The genealogical monk on the mountain, you are a cultivator in the cave who can provoke it casually. Chen Hoer quickly got up and squeezed to the brazier aside. Hong Cho sat on a chair, took off his saber at his waist, squinted his eyes and asked, little brother, where is it? Cui Dongshan shook his sleeves, rubbed his palms with each other, he sighed and laughed. There is a mountain not far from here called Shindu Mountain. Now there are not many people on the mountain so I don't have to think about it. Just recruit troops and buy horses. You and my husband have already had a face-to-face meeting. Hong Cho frowned and said, which one? Cui Dongshan smiled and said, my husband, I'm in the courtyard of Xiaofeng Girl now, drinking and eating hot pot with a senior from the rivers and lakes. Wang Manming suddenly realized and Yenran smiled and said, it's the young man in the blue shirt, long coat and cloth shoes. He is refreshing and full of bookishness. At first glance he is not the same as us. The beautiful woman pointed to the ceiling, it seemed to have come from the sky at the time. You told me afterwards that this person was just looking at the young. He was a land-based who could not afford to provoke him if not a golden pill. Is the golden figure martial artist? Anyway, it must be a hard idea of one of the 2 golds. All of a sudden Hong Cho's arrogance fell. At that time, the servant appeared suddenly and Hong Cho, who was sitting on the chair, did not dare to draw his sword out of the sheath. Hong Cho frowned and asked, your sir is a pure martial artist? Cui Dongshan chuckled and said, my husband of course is a pure martial artist, but he has always regarded himself as a swordsman. Hong Cho asked tentatively, what state is it? Golden body state? I didn't expect that the other party would give an answer. Seeing the white-clothed boy stretch out his hand, Hong Cho said strangely, what does this mean? Cui Dongshan smiled and said, my husband is a martial artist so you can reward me with a few small summer coins, how about? Hong Cho laughed dumbly. It seems that God is still very fair. He gave a good skin bag and an unclear head. Cui Dongshan smiled and said, then let's change the gambling method. You can guess my husband's realm. You can guess 3 times, the first time a snowflake money, the second time Xiaoshu money, and the third time Gyu money. If you get it right I will double it to you. As long as I nod my head and agree, I immediately smashed the pot and sold iron, took out 6 gods' money, and gave it to Wang Manming for safekeeping. Hong Cho sneered and said, Did you learn this gambling technique from Xianhua? Cui Dongshan said, I can write the answer on a piece of paper in advance, and I can also give it to Wang Manming for safekeeping. Brother Hong, a business that makes a profit without losing money, do you gamble or not? Dare to make a lot of money? Hong Cho said, if you just write about one realm and two realms, can I guess the answer? Cui Dongshan shook his head. After Wang Manming has read the answers on the paper, I allow her to wink at you. One is to remind you whether or not to gamble, and the other is to imply that my answer is not reliable. Of course you have to say in advance. You two are not allowed to use your heartfelt words, or converge your voices. Well, you can change to a more favorable gambling method for Brother Hong. You can decide what fairy money to use for 3 bets. The only requirement, is to bet at the gambling table. We must bet 3 times. Forget it. If you think that betting on a grain of money is not in line with a small bet, you can only bet twice. Xianhua thinks he can bet. Golden Body Realm, Far Travel Realm, Mountain Realm, come one by one, you can always get caught once. There are only so many martial arts realms in the world of martial arts, except for the minor masters of the 6 realms, the so-called great masters of the 3 realms of refining the gods. But Hong Cho was a bit embarrassed, because he knew that there was a legendary end on the top of the mountain. The young man in the blue shirt is definitely not a 6th-level martial artist. Hong Cho is extremely sure about this. Since the other party can fall from the sky, either he is a golden martial artist who leaped from far away in the city, or he can travel far away. In the Eclosion realm, then the 3 kinds of fairy money have to bet on 4 possibilities. If there is no end, it is indeed a bet that can be made without losing money. For example, Hong Cho can spend a snowflake money first, betting that the young man is on the mountain top. Then use Xiaoxian to bet on the golden status. If you win, it's just a small gambling to make a profit, so why not do it? Because deep down in Hong Cho's heart, he felt that the young green shirt guest who looked at him at a young age, must be a great master of the far travel realm. Hong Cho smiled and said, it's a bet. Cui Dongshan took out a piece of paper from his sleeve and shook it vigorously. Xianhua, hurry up, take care of me. Brother Cui has earned money, so I will give you a piece of snowflake money. Xianhua hurriedly got up, went to the house where he was staying temporarily, got pen and ink, and said that he didn't need to use it. The white-clothed boy was surprised and said, no? That's it. By the way, remember to help dip the ink. Xianhua looked stiff, wishing to throw himself a big mouth. Cui Dongshan took out 6 immortal money from his sleeve and clenched it tightly. Sister, this is all my belongings, please take it steady. Hong Cho squinted his eyes, this fellow really has 2 grains of rain money. Wang Manming stretched out her white and tender palm. Sister is in charge of the money, so don't worry. The boy in white just let go of his hand. Wang Manming took the fairy money in his palm, slandering him, the genealogical master of Go-Ri, really rich. Alone, away from home, you can take out 2 grains of rain money at will. This can be it is Gu Yuqian, 1 piece is equivalent to a full 1,000 snowflakes money. Xianhua brought a bamboo brush dipped in ink, the kind with inscriptions. It was the least valuable in the city. It was scattered everywhere in various houses. Over the past 6 months he has gathered together hundreds of them. Too much. The young man in white turned his back, curled up, and after writing a few words he crumpled the white paper into a ball, held it in the palm of his hand, and when he handed it to Wang Manming he reminded, when I spread the paper, remember to learn. I turned around, don't be looked at by Brother Hong. After that, Wang Manming turned back as agreed and carefully spread out the paper. Seeing the content above, she was stunned, took a deep breath, then kneaded it again facing the flood. She looked weird and winked and then nodded. Signaling that Hong Cho could bet, the boy didn't write anything. The white-clothed young man suddenly snorted, his eyes were sad and he was extremely aggrieved. My dear sister, if you turn your elbow out like this, it will hurt your heart. Wang Manming's face was embarrassed, so she had to put away some small and imperceptible movements that he believed to be subtle. In case of losing the bet, if Hong Cho turns his face and refuses to admit it, she will be embarrassed. If Hong Cho sees fortune, that is almost equivalent to the ancient hill of the city of Yizhou, and the female ghost Xiaofeng, he will definitely not sit back and watch. Hong Cho is a 6th-level martial artist, and of course he does not dare to violently kill. The 6 fairy money given by Dongshan were all hacked. Not to mention Mr. Cui Dongshan, just the old man who claimed to be from Aquarius. It was not easy. So even if Hong Cho makes a big fuss, at most he is asking for 3 gods' money back? To be honest, after the night trial of the city god temple, Wang Manming, a group of desperados, really didn't dare to do things so without taboos. The white-clothed boy suddenly looked at Xianhuan and said with a smile, "You can bet twice or three times, all with snowflake money, how's it going?" Xianhuan didn't have much interest and he didn't say anything. The others were eager to try, but Hong Cho turned his head and took a cold look and they all stopped. Then Hong Cho took out a snowflake money and tossed it to Cui Dongshan. The white-clothed boy held the snowflake money in both hands, raised it above his head, and began to mutter some words, presumably begging God for blessing. Hong Cho said solemnly, "Golden body state." Cui Dongshan's face was full of horror. Hong Cho was stunned. He guessed the realm and won? Wang Manming subconsciously couldn't help but want to show something, but found that the white-clothed boy had been staring at herself, so she had to shook her head sternly, "Not in the golden body state." Hong Cho took out a small summer coin that he had treasured for many years, instead of throwing it to the teenager casually pretending to be bold and handing it over. Cui Dongshan rubbed his hands for Xiaoshuqian, laughing, "I have made a profit." Then twisted the small summer money with 2 fingers, held it up high and shook it back and forth. Tisk Tise looked back at the small summer money, happy, really happy. Xianhuan and the gang are speechless. You don't have to open your eyes and talk nonsense. Hong Cho exuded fine sweat on his forehead and said, "Eclosion realm." Cui Dongshan raised a snow-white sleeve and threw Xiao Shuqian into it. Hippie smiled and said, "In the pocket, the bag is safe." Wang Manming sighed and said, "It's not a far-flung tour." Hong Cho glared at her with a vaguely angry face. His mother, it shouldn't be this mother-in-law, would she be a partner with an outsider to cheat herself? Wang Manming didn't hit a spot and rolled his eyes. With arms around his chest, Cui Dongshan laughed and said, "Brother Hong, do you want to gamble for the 3rd time? It's a big bet. I'm a gambler with a heart to make money. If it's not fierce, it's impossible. Give it a try, a few acres of house. Change the hilltop." Hong Cho said, "I don't have Gu Yuqian with me." Cui Dongshan smiled and said, "You don't need to give it right away. I owe it first. I will check the account tomorrow morning. Brother Hong can borrow money from my sister and the others. We can make it together and convert it into a drizzle." Hong Cho was immediately caught in a dilemma. If he loses, he will be completely busy for more than half a year. But what if you win? The white-clothed boy raised Erlang's legs, stepped on the boots on the edge of the brazier, raised and lowered. "Sister, pick out those 2 rain money and they will go into Brother Hong's pocket soon." Hong Cho stood up suddenly, gave a cold snort and strode away. Xianhuan and a few people were stunned on the spot. Isn't there just a mountain top left? They didn't dare to bet on this? When Hong Cho came on the road, was his mind caught by the door panel. Everyone found that as soon as Hong Cho crossed the threshold, the white-clothed boy was sweating for a while, raised his sleeves and wiped his sweat there, explaining, "It's hot, it's a bit hot." Hong Cho stagnated a little, hesitated, and left the house in stride. Retrieving the paper ball and 6 immortal money from Wang Manming, the boy in white said earnestly, "Brothers, listen to my old brother's advice, bet big and small, win and lose, they are all the money that goes in and out of the house and cannot be held. It's good to have fun. Of course, it's a good thing if partial wealth comes into the house and is willing to send it out through the front door. The so-called good fortune is hard to give up, and those who are willing to go out with good fortune are accumulating the ancestral blessing of the family." Reported. Wang Manming couldn't hear these worthless empty truths and was very annoyed, but his face was still charming and moving. "Shui Lang is good at gambling." Cui Dongshan admired. "This Hong Cho is still a little determined." Wang Manming asked with a smile, "Saibwa touches people's hearts, so you are not afraid of Hong Cho?" Cui Dongshan said, "You are not afraid of ghosts, afraid of people doing things." Wang Manming smiled. Xianhuan ran to the door, squatted over the steps, shook his wrist and slammed the brush a few times, and then shook several ink marks in the snow, wiped it back and forth on the snow, and then pinched the tip of the pen with 2 fingers. Squeeze out the ink like washing a pen. Xianhuan went back to his room, took out the fire folder, lit an oil lamp on the table, and gently hung the cleaned brush on the pen holder. Suddenly he found that at the door the young man in white came here quietly like a ghost, leaning against the door of the house, holding his sleeves with both hands and looking at him with a smile. Xianhuan's heart tightened. Could it be that he picked up a soft persimmon and robbed his house? Cui Dongshan stretched out his sleeves, flicked it lightly, and flicked a piece of snowflake money to Xianhuan. He smiled and said, "It's not hot, take it. It's enough for you to buy a bunch of pens for washing." Xianhuan was puzzled for a while, clutching the snowflake money which was actually very hot, not knowing what to do. After accepting it, the wind was leaked and it was easy for Hong Cho to take revenge. If he didn't accept it, it seemed to be sad at the moment. Cui Dongshan walked into the house and found that there was a booklet on the table. He picked it up and looked at it and he was amused. It turned out that Xianhuan used charcoal to draw tables, chairs and stools, flower tables and beams and pillars. There are more than 100 kinds of styles. Presumably in this ghost town with an eye-opener and an insightful experience, Xianhuan was busy and created such a book. Cui Dongshan turned a few pages and said with a smile, "With this craft you can never die. Why do you think that if you are lucky to come here and you haven't touched a murderer, you will be just like you?" Xianhuan dragged some acid words. "Ma Ykao is not fat. What the book says, wealth and wealth are in danger. You can make a living by craftsmanship and you can earn a few dollars throughout the year. The money is too slow to get ahead." Cui Dongshan turned the pages of the book. "They are just making money, only you are asking for life." Xianhuan was confused. "What's the difference? Can I make a living without money in my pocket?" Cui Dongshan raised his head and smiled and said, "Xianhuan, do you want to go to my hilltop? I dare not say that I am rich. It is better than wandering around these ghost cities day and night, tying my head to my waistband to earn money, precarious too, it's hard work. Besides, I don't want to spend any money on saving money." Xianhuan didn't think much about it. After passing these words through his head, he grinned and said without hesitation, "Forget it, I've been used to wandering outside in this life. The danger is the danger, but it is more comfortable. Let me lie down in one place and enjoy the happiness, forget it." The way of living some days is something that you can't even think of. This time whether Hong Cho and Wang Manmeng parted ways and separated into two hills, or everyone just broke up, as long as he sits on the ground and divides the account, he can probably get 10 snowflakes, which is 100,000 taels of white snowflake silver. Cut it into pieces of silver with scissors and put it in a dustpan. I sit on the roof and sprinkle it to the outside to get a light snow. What's more, according to Wang Manmeng's statement, the imperial courts of all countries are in urgent need of immortal money, which is converted into real gold and silver, which is at a premium. Cui Dongshan moved an old official hat chair and sat down and raised Erlang's legs. This made Xianhuan more and more drumming. "What's this?" Cui Dongshan smiled and said, "Now my mountain is very short of manpower. If you go you will be useful. The monthly salary is a snowflake money. How about? The one just now was used as a deposit." Before the husband returned to Luapa Mountain, he had to grab a few strong men and go back, and get a familiar face on the husband's side. In the future the husband would retreat, travel far and then return to the hometown, and then come to Qingping Jianzhong. Today's newcomer. Just naturally he became a half-baked old man, and when he met his husband he would definitely be willing to talk a little more. Because Cui Dongshan knows very well that his husband is not only with Shindu Mountain, even the Luapa Mountain, which is now a closed mountain and will be lifted in the future, especially in the next 100 years, hundreds of years, one after another, and then go up to the mountain to practice in martial arts. The newcomers may not chat so often. What's more, the Xianhuan in front of him is a charcoal-burning kiln worker in his hometown, and is a kiln worker who is a master of Qingli kiln. Isn't he close to his husband? Xianhuan sneered and said, "Master Cui Xian, don't be amused. A 3-level martial artist, besides doing some miscellaneous work, what else can he do besides being a ghost for people?" Cui Dongshan smiled, "Don't worry, so you don't have to be suspicious. Anyway, when you figure it out by yourself or encounter a hurdle that you can't go through, go to a place called Shindu Mountain to find me. The archway of the mountain gate says Qingping Jianzhong, you must recognize these words. Shindu Mountain is not too far from here. Going south there is a Xinjia ferry crossing called King Shandu. You can pay more attention to Shanshui Dibao in the future." Xianhuan waited until the white-clothed boy left the house, still feeling baffled. Cui Dongshan returned to the brazier in the lobby and sat there. The few next door had gone to sleep in each room, and only Wang Manmeng was sitting there waiting. She smiled and asked, "Cui Lang, is your husband really a great master of the mountain realm?" "No." Wang Manmeng glamorously rolled his eyes, "You are still a lie. Why didn't Hong Cho dare to gamble?" Wang Manmeng felt that if he changed to himself he would definitely dare to bet the last bet. "Why don't you dare to choose one from the top of the mountain and the end of the martial arts?" Cui Dongshan smiled and said, "Actually my husband's realm is that end, but I think Brother Hong has a hard time earning money, and he is very rare in the front door money. According to his seniority he is still half of my brother-in-law. He did it in the city. With so many good things I planned to give him some money to spend, but he didn't appreciate it and insisted on sending money to my brother-in-law. What can I do?" In fact, Wang Manming didn't bother to guess the true realm of the Qingshan guest. Regardless of the realm of refining the gods, they were all celestial figures who could not reach on the ladder by themselves. Don't provoke, don't cling to it, just stay away. If it weren't for the white-clothed boy in front of him to stay away, Wang Manming would actually not stay by his side, carefully trying to figure out every word of his, even every expression and look in his eyes. Didn't Hong Chu suffer? Do you know why Hong Cho didn't dare to gamble? How to say? Because Hong Cho, just like you, doesn't believe that good people are rewarded. Wang Manming smiled bitterly. Maybe? Cui Dongshan turned around and watched the heavy snow falling in the courtyard. The snow became thicker. Maybe I believed it before, but then I didn't believe it. After a moment of silence, Cui Dongshan continued, there is no way. It seems that in this world, people who believe that good people are rewarded will always fail to live a good life. They are either bad people or poor people. It's like letting out Yangguan Avenue. I can only walk the single plank bridge by myself, save some money and give it back to life. In the end, I only saved a lot of bitterness, and I don't want to tell them to relatives, friends and juniors around me. I originally felt that the other party was standing up and talking without backache. After hearing these last words, Wang Manming stretched his brows, squeezed out a smiling face and whispered, who said it wasn't? Cui Dongshan smiled and said, the one who hates the immortal genealogist most is not necessarily Xianxia Yeshio, but is often the immortal genealogist, because the former has already figured out a way to get along, but the latter is not. Wang Manming laughed at himself. Cui Dongshan, don't try, although I don't know why you are so haunted and entangled with us ants, but to be honest, I really don't think our rootless duckweed-like waste is worthy of you. This kind of person wastes time. 2 grains of rain money, is it a lot? For us, of course a lot. More than a dozen people have been busy for more than half a year before earning so much. Like the money monkeys, they may still be in this life. I saw Gu Yuqian for the first time, but to you, 2 or even 20 Gu Yuqian, what are they? A few money monkeys. It's not possible. It's the first time I saw Gu Yuqian because they were different from you and Hong Cho. They saw Gu Yuqian. The first impression is that it's not strange why I can take out Gu Yuqian. But doubt, guessing over there whether the third kind of fairy money is true. Cui Dongshan bowed his head, spread his palms and approached the charcoal fire. How did you say people like you just now? Why do you think I am not the same person as you? Wang Manming said, I can't tell the specific reason, that's what I think. Cui Dongshan asked, then what do you think of my husband, are you the same person as you? Wang Manming said helplessly, is it possible? Cui Dongshan remained silent, the charcoal fire shining brightly on his handsome face, and he flipped his palm over the fire gently, palm facing up. Wang Manming asked, how did you know that I once had a genealogical identity? Cui Dongshan smiled and said, because you are like a half-hanged ghost, you can't untie the rope around your neck, you can't touch the beams of the house, you can't step on the ground with your hands, you can't die and you can't survive. Pitiful. Wang Manming smiled and said, why is it pitiful? Why do I not feel pitiful myself? Cui Dongshan rubbed his hands and said, the pitiful who has no energy to complain about themselves is pitiful, helpless, nothing, what else, that's it. Wang Manming silently followed that white-clothed boy, bowed his head and approached the brazier, rubbing his hands to keep warm. Some books are too bitter to read. Wang Manming was born in a small country in the north of Tonghizhou. The suzerain was the giant Yu dynasty. It was once a well-deserved power in the north of Tonghizhou. Now Zhou is restored. Although it hurts his vitality, he is still a lean camel bigger than a horse. Her mentor was an inexperienced mountain sect in Tonghizhou. The other side sects weren't counted as bad ones. They said they were crooked sections. They didn't feel wronged at all. They were just wearing a glamorous coat in the vassal territory of the Yu dynasty. It can also be a domineering blessing, and many seniors and sisters of the same generation are the wives and concubines of the ministers of a country. In addition to being an old in the Dragon Gate realm, there is also an old Jindan ancestor who has been in retreat for many years sitting on the mountain gate, so when she first went up the mountain she was looking forward to it and she was full of pride. But most of her sect was female cultivators, taught by senior teachers except for magic tricks. There are not many serious books, but there are a lot of pictures. Many girls who obviously don't have the qualifications to practice cultivation will accept them as long as they have good looks and are the embryos of beautiful women. It is said that the real backer of his family is the Xuanhuan sect, who is the leader of the immortal family on the mountain in the Yu dynasty. One of the people who manages money is a woman named Miaoyu. It is also said that she is the high head of the Xuanhuan sect. Half a Taoist couple, there is no status. Miaoyu holds the financial power, not worse than the household book of the Yu dynasty. Some people, after going through ups and downs, can always turn back and forth. However, some lives are like a boat stranded, and the outline of the waterway is like a line. It seems that if you do too many mistakes you can only break the jar. Just like what the white-clothed boy said in front of him, it was nothing more than just like this. She once stood side by side with a few fellow seniors and sisters, and a group of female cultivators from other immortal residences, standing side by side in a celestial mansion at the fairy crossing of the immortal family. The children of the patriarchal clan pointed at them. It was the fairy who slept, the female nun on the mountain. She was already numb to this. As long as you are in the cave realm, you can escape from the sea of suffering. But until the earth-shattering change that caused a continent to sink into the land, Wang Manmeng never entered the cave realm. She was different from those Sherman ancestors who were in a panic like a bereaved dog. She felt nothing and even a little bit relaxed. If he didn't want to follow his fellow students to hide in the Qingzhou school asylum, he found an opportunity and left. Wherever she can be taken care of, they are all busy giving honor to the dignitaries of the Yu dynasty, climbing onto the bed of the wealthy patriarch and the children of the family. On that escape road, the reputation of the martial art can be regarded as a complete rotten street anyway until the catastrophe. At the moment, Wang Manmeng realized that there was actually no golden core patriarch in his own school. In Wang Manmeng's view, as a woman, the real way to live is probably a woman like Huang Ting of Taiping Mountain. There is also Yao Jingji, the female emperor of the Daquan dynasty, who is not bad, can usurp the throne and become emperor herself. Cui Dongshan looked at her and smiled. Do you want to see Huang Ting and Yao Jingji with your own eyes in the future, and take a closer look at how they live? Wang Manmeng returned to his senses and was shocked, his face pale and trembling. How do you know what I think? Obviously, it evoked the biggest haze in the woman's heart. These profound family-learned genealogical monks played with people's hearts and abused people's methods, which really made her feel lingering. Furthermore, a monk who can listen to the hearts of others must be the legendary earth fairy who has started. Cui Dongshan said, You actually also know that the genealogical monks on the mountain are not all malicious and wolf-hearted people. They're just the same as Hongqiu. If you lose your bet twice, you won't dare to bet the third time. Your first time is small. Gambling is to bet on your own preacher. You will not die and lose the gambling. The second time is to bet on your own mind, means, and status as a female cultivator. Temporarily bet on compromises, endure humiliation, and live your life. I believe there will always be something to improve the situation. One day the result was still lost and there was no hope of hope, so I had to confess my fate. Cui Dongshan moved his sleeves with both hands. There are some things on the husband's side, I absolutely dare not say anything on your side, there is no taboo. Cui Dongshan pointed to the heavy snow outside. Since ancient times, it has been snowy in the middle of winter and half a rich man will not die from freezing, but the catastrophe of the emperor, generals, dignitaries and genealogists in the past few years is not the same. Good people. The bad guys, the rich and the poor, have all suffered, but at least they have frozen to death many people who deserved to die a long time ago, but in our opinion the wicked do not pay back for the day does not accept. That's right, there are still many people. In the eyes of Sanshio Wang Manmeng, they died after enjoying their blessings. They have committed sins in the sun in this life. Even if they die, no matter how they die, they don't seem to suffer. So you still I feel a little bit aggrieved and not happy enough. Don't worry too much. When you get to the bottom they will be unsatisfied every day. Repaying debts has always been unhappy. Wang Manmeng pursed his lips. A person who puts indifferent on his face every day may be the one who really matters. Just like Wang Manmeng admired the Taiping Mountain sincerely, so he traveled there, and he didn't dare to go to the gate of the Taiping Mountain. She seemed to have glanced at the 3 words Taiping Shan on the archway of the mountain gate, which was a kind of blasphemy against the Taiping Mountain. Cui Dongshan smiled and said, I am not familiar with Taiping Mountain, but my husband and the new mountain owner Huang Ting are very good friends. Of course, don't get me wrong. It's not the kind of relationship between men and women you think. Alas, you really have to change in the future. Don't put the world on men's and women's affairs. Now my husband is still dedicated to the Taiping Mountain, so if you are willing to go to the Taiping Mountain for practice, I can ask your husband to introduce him to Huang Ting. Don't worry, I'm my husband's proud student. And my gentleman, as long as he nodded and agreed, there was nothing he couldn't do. Wang Manmeng was almost driven mad by this white-clothed boy, his face was exhausted and he felt powerless. Cui Dongshan, what are you thinking and how are you thinking? She doesn't think that the other party is coveting beauty and wants to sleep with her. As far as the appearance of this boy is concerned, it's hard to tell who sleeps. Chui Dongshan flipped his palm again and laughed at himself. I really have been thinking about why and how we think. These two questions have puzzled us for many years. Once at the Yang's shop, Chui Yang had an open and honest conversation with the old man who was once called Grandpa Yang by his husband. Old man Yang asked what was going on with the incident, and it happened to be the question Wang Manmeng asked by mistake tonight. At the beginning, Chui Yang's spirit and soul were separated, and he was divided into two. Chui Yang watched Chui Dongshan's thoughts. One within the sky there are at least 2 thoughts and at most 70,000. In contrast, Chui Dongshan looked at Chui Yang, with at least 3 thoughts and a maximum of 80,000. Two people have their own advantages and disadvantages. It is important to know that this kind of mindfulness is not what Taoists call leaving the country to sit and forget, nor is it the Buddhist meditation practice. Otherwise, it will not be difficult to practice the retreat of the Qi practitioner, the mind will be immersed, and the concentration of the mind will not be difficult. As for ordinary masters, if you mistakenly think that you are sleeping, you can lose your thoughts, which is totally absurd. Chui Dongshan smiled and said, sleep is to sleep, and sleep is the body of the body. This kind of rest is a kind of rest of the 7 souls of the 3 souls and 7 souls. It's just that many people remember many vague dreams after waking up, and some people mistakenly think that they are dreamless. Just like many people have the feeling of falling off a cliff in their dreams, it is actually a kind of slight assimilation. The fundamental reason for being the head of all spirits lies in the fact that there is a dream. Compared with the monks of the monster race, this is a kind of innate enlightenment that is dreamed of. Tough real bodies are not only their support for survival on the earth, but also not a kind of solid cage. Chui Dongshan has plans. In the future, 9 direct disciples such as the level of the porcelain, thank you, Hu Chuling and Jiang for them. Chui Dongshan will be divided into different categories, teach students in accordance with their aptitude, teach them all, carefully cultivate them and be extremely patient. Chui Dongshan will collect 9 more disciples who are only nominally direct disciples. This kind of disciples is very casual. It only depends on the relationship and mood. Of course it can be Qianhu or the 80-year-old in front of him. It is Wang Manmeng of the Dongfu realm cultivation base, or even the 6th realm martial artist Hong Cho who is nearly half 100 years old. Relatively speaking, Hong Cho's martial arts qualifications are not too bad, but he has not met the master's guidance, otherwise he will not be ranked among the 7 realms. Difficult, after all, any golden martial artist in the world, regardless of whether it is paper or bamboo sticks, can be involved with martial arts. Wang Manmeng couldn't understand what the other party was saying. She suddenly asked a weird question that seemed to be off topic. So many dead people, can you really manage it? Chui Dongshan smiled and said, it can be managed and there is almost nothing wrong with it. Wang Manmeng shook his head, obviously not convinced. Is there hundreds of thousands, millions of people, subordinates and ghosts? Just like the city god temple within a country, from the capital city to the 3-level city gods of prefectures, counties and counties together, how many are there? Chui Dongshan smiled and said, the main function of the temples in various cities is to receive the main purpose. It is only the first trial. It is more to record the merits and demerits, similar to the households of the Yangjian Yamen in charge of the scales. As for the capital, there are all kinds of ghosts. The amount of difference, even if some temporary official positions are added, is a bit similar to the walking of Xinka Jinshi in various ministries in the Yangjian court. The total number is indeed quite large, but it is far from the exaggeration of a few million, and it is really not necessary to do so. Many. As for how it works, it's simple to say. One yamen is equivalent to the life of the Yangjian people, 1 year after another. It is complicated and very complicated. If you look carefully, the rules here are complicated and meticulous, roughly speaking. So, it is to use those fundamental, low-level, unshakable rules to support thousands of fine-defined rules. The former allows the latter to have a small swing. In this way, thanks to the main body and the clear context. Clear, so for thousands of years, there has always been orderly, rewards and punishments are distinct. Of course, there are some merits and demerits that really belong to the conclusion of the coffin. In the eyes of Yangjian people, there are still many things that are incomprehensible. Wang Manmeng, if you are really interested in these things, you can ask Guqiu. He is now a candidate for the Zhou Qinghuang, and maybe in the future, Guqiu still hopes to enter the capital city Qinghuang temple of the new Great Yuan dynasty. Wang Manmeng was skeptical and asked, how do you know these inside stories? From which unremarkable book on mystery? Chui Dongshan smiled and said, because I have been to Fengdu. Fuxian City God, Zhou City God, Capital City God Temple, all levels of city gods, civil and military judges, various gods, plus the Nyoma General, Day and Night Tour God, and the Shackle General. These are the permanent official positions of the city temple, just like the Qinglu official in the Yang court. Body, the rest are all subordinates and ghosts. The size of a Xuanhuan temple mainly depends on the number of governmental offices, with only 3 divisions and 6 divisions, and as many as the prefecture city temple, as many as 12 divisions. The city temples in the capitals of various countries are either 24 divisions, such as the Daquan dynasty and the Yu dynasty, and there are even 36 divisions in the capital city temples. In the Middle-earth Shenzhou Ganaderma dynasty, there is the world's first city's temple with as many as 62 divisions. The of the city, whose rank is the same as that of the 5 sacred mountains of the Middle Earth and the king of the 4 seas, has the surname Zhou, the name Fangyu, Zhou Zhengzizhao, and the square corner of the 4 corners. Responsible for sitting in the divine continent of China, to protect the peace and tranquility of a continent. The 4 gods under his command were named Gan, Lu, Fan and Xia. Wang Man can't help but laugh. Cui Lang speaks big words again. Cui Dongshan laughed off. If you say the same words, who doesn't believe it? Sure enough, you can't be too Aliang. Cui Dongshan said abruptly, Hong Cho shouldn't have taken away a grain of rain money from here. Wang Manmeng tremblingly asked, what about me? Cui Dongshan smiled and said, it's okay for you. Wang Manmeng sighed faintly, would you like to remind Hong Cho tomorrow? Forget it, this immortal money, not surprisingly, will be the foundation of his future in the new Great Yuan dynasty and the stepping stone to advancement in the officialdom. If she really spoke, she would probably only be scolded by Hong Cho. She wondered if she had a little white face. Maybe she was already in the opposite house right now, sulking, wondering if it was right. She and Cui Dongshan set up a partnership to defraud him of money. Cui Dongshan glanced at Wang Manmeng and smiled. By the way, what I call takeaway is very different from what you think. Wang Manmeng covered his mouth and smiled, cast a charming white eye, and glanced back at Cui Dongshan. Cui Dongshan smiled and scolded, damn, what do you want? If you meet our old cook and brother Dafeng, if you meet some chat, there must be a lot of chat. Wang Manmeng stretched his arms over his head with interlaced fingers. It's hard to be a good person. I have seen a bad person and want to learn how to behave, but it turns out that the bad is not going to be bad. This is a dilemma. Cui Dongshan had said the truth and then joked, good sister, less frowning and frowning are more, and a person is prone to suffering, so laugh more every day. Since Qingben is beautiful, why is the crest haggard? It doesn't make sense. Wang Manmeng said, Cui Lang is very knowledgeable, but he is really not suitable for comforting people. Cui Dongshan nodded and said, indeed. Cui Dongshan blinked, Wang Manmeng, why don't we play a game? Wang Manmeng's heart tightened, his mouth was not forgiving. Are the gods fighting? Cui Dongshan rolled his eyes and said, it's boring to talk like this. If you dare to talk to my husband like this, you are truly brave. Immediately, Cui Dongshan smiled and twisted out a small summer coin from his sleeve. He just won from Hong Cho's hand. If you have money, at least one small summer coin is a free gift to your sister. The rules of the game are very simple. You don't need anything. In other words, I just think about the people in the past and go through them in my mind. Don't care about the identity of the other person. I've seen a few times. As long as I can think of it, it doesn't matter no matter how vague my memory is. Hundreds of people can take away this little summer money. If there are more than 500 people, I will give you another one. After 1,000 people, it will be another little summer money. How about? Is it a good business without capital and profit? If there are more than 3,000 people, not counting the previous ones, I can still give my sister a grain of rain money. As he spoke, Cui Dongshan twisted his wrist, and 2 more blank chess pots appeared. After retracting his hand, he hovered in the air, showing with his eyes that Wang Manmeng could start work and earn money. Wang Manmeng looked hesitantly on his face, was silent for a moment and said, it's that simple? Cui Dongshan turned a deaf ear and was too lazy to talk. He just put his fingers together like a twist, and quickly condensed several snow-white chess pieces on his fingertips, and threw them into a chess pot one by one. Obviously, when Wang Manmeng was silent, she couldn't help but think of a few old people, and then they were picked by Cui Dongshan and turned into chess pieces. There is an old who once had a guess that the Huawei Tianma inspired by Tianwei can not only be transformed into billions, but also be the only one. So Cui Yang assumed that the source of the thoughts of all spiritual beings in the world is located in the same pool. All thoughts are just sparks jumping out of the water. Wang Mang pondered for a moment, and he didn't feel that his own random thoughts could affect the current situation. He could not really make 3 small sums of money in vain. After that, there were more and more white pieces in the chess pot, but black pieces began to appear one after another, and Cui Dongshan was thrown into another chess pot. Wang Manming no longer cares about how shocked, it doesn't matter. Today I have seen too many weird things on Cui Dongshan's side. No wonder, just get used to it. Because whenever she intermittently remembered an ambiguous figure, the chess piece condensed at the fingertips of the white-clothed boy would be a black one. In the lobby, there is only the brazier at the feet of both parties, and occasionally there is the sound of cracking charcoal. The snow outside the house is getting heavier and heavier, and the snow in the courtyard must be no more than an ankle. Cui Dongshan sat cross-legged in a chair. Wang Manmeng began to think hard about those passengers on the road of life. There are several fate. There are those who pass by but accidentally remember the face because of a certain distinctive feature. There are years the elders in their hometown when they were young, maybe shaking a puff fan to enjoy the cold, maybe a rice picker with a thick cotton cloth stitched on their shoulders, or a young person of the same age who had not climbed the mountain. They often secretly looked at her. There are more and more black and white chess pieces piled up in the 2 chess pots. As Wang Manming's thoughts became more and more stagnant, Cui Dongshan leaned on the handle of the chair, rested his cheek with one hand, and stretched out one hand and kept hanging in the air. Wang Manming stretched out his hand and rubbed his eyebrows and asked, "How many are there?" Cui Dongshan smiled and said, 3 small summer coins are already in hand, that is, the extra guyu money. It is a bit difficult to earn and the amount difference is not small. Why don't you think about it? Wang Manming said helplessly, "I can't think of more people." Cui Dongshan smiled and said, "Hanging portraits and characters in books are also included." Wang Manming seemed to be resuscitated, and he came up with hundreds of portraits. Cui Dongshan glanced at the chess pot and said, "You can add the names you have heard, the emperor generals, the monk's road number, it is all possible. Of course don't make up random names, just think of a name to fool me, otherwise you will it's time to lose a pawn." Wang Manming began to rack his brains again to think about those who had heard of it. The mountain monks in the world, the sages of the Confucian temple, the ancestors of the great sect of Tongis Hao, and the ancestors of the great sect of Tongis Hao, the noble officials of the various countries under the mountain, the pure martial arts who are famous in all directions, and even the great monsters of the wild world. Cui Dongshan smiled and shook his wrist quickly, throwing chess pieces into the chess pot. This kind of gambling, you can't bet with your husband, you can't bet with the big sister, especially the big sister. It is estimated that he, the little brother, can cry directly. Wang Manming was already sweating. A cave mansion monk was actually a little dizzy, and asked with a trembling voice, "Is it enough?" Cui Dongshan smiled and said, "Enough, already enough." Wang Manming was dumbfounded. Cui Dongshan took out 1 guyu qian and 4 xianxia, and threw them to Wang Manming together and said with a smile, "The extra xianxia will be given to my sister." Wang Manming leaned back in his chair really exhausted. Cui Dongshan smiled and said, "Or else count the names of Dadu, Mountain, and Xinfu sects. As long as you make up a total of 8,000 chess pieces, I will give my sister another guyu qian." Wang Manming's face was pale and he shook his head, "I can't think about it." Cui Dongshan smiled and said, "A lot more tired than fighting with gods?" Wang Manming wiped the sweat on his forehead, weakened, and barely squeezed out a smiling face, already unwilling to speak. Cui Dongshan waved his sleeves, and both pots of chess pieces disappeared out of thin air. Wang Manming earns a lot of money and Cui Dongshan may not earn less. The content carried by these chess pieces will be useful in the future. Speaking of sneaking into the hearts and minds of others and carefully examining the memories of others, of course Cui Dongshan came here at his fingertips and was familiar with the road, but he was not as active as Wang Manming. Cui Dongshan moved his sleeves with both hands. "Wang Manming, I have to read more in the future. It may be converted into real money when it is uncertain." Wang Manming opened her palms and stared at the 5 immortal coins. She raised her head and asked in a hoarse voice, "Cui Dongshan, you are a cultivator of genealogy, right?" Cui Dongshan nodded and said, "I said it a long time ago, I am the lord of a sect." In fact, the little summer money Cui Dongshan gave more was just because Wang Manming accidentally mentioned his husband, who was a student, so happy and very happy. Wang Manming clenched his hand and asked, "You want to go back?" Cui Dongshan gasped, "Good question." Cui Dongshan wouldn't mind taking it all back if it wasn't for her husband to be nearby. Cui Dongshan waved his hand, "Quickly put it away, I regret it." Wang Manming murmured, tonight is like a dream. Cui Dongshan turned around and leaned on the handle of the chair, looking at the heavy snow outside the house and said softly, "A person, if you don't even dare to dream, it will be so bitter. The flowers in the past are like snow, and the snow is like flowers now, and the beautiful scenery is not empty." How to settle the infinite mind. Maybe we all have the love-like embarrassment with this world, the anger at each other like the enemies, the deaf and the blind like talking to themselves, the person with nothing to say and the person who cannot be said looking at each other speechless. Wang Manming was silent when he heard this. Cui Dongshan was silent for a moment, turned his head and complained, "Hey, I don't know how to cheer or applaud. Even if you nod your head, you don't want to cheer at all." Just as Wang Manming wanted to say something to his heart, Cui Dongshan had already craned his neck and looked out. He said, "The crowd is full of talents. Is it so lively?" Standing up quickly, Cui Dongshan snapped his snow-white sleeves and said, "Sister, let's go call Xianhuan and copy the guys together. Do your job, block the way and rob." Wang Manming had to swallow the words from the bottom of his heart, and said helplessly, "It's Xianhuan who has never done such an activity. I haven't done it before, what does it matter?" Cui Dongshan shook his sleeves, "I will follow Dongshan and eat 9 meals a day." Wang Manming stood up and suddenly said, "Cui Dongshan, I think of a poem." Cui Dongshan smiled and said, "Is it Mr. Qing Zhai's favorite Dongshan Sunny After Snow?" Wang Manming looked helpless. On his side, she seemed to be wearing no clothes. Cui Dongshan hugged the back of his head with his hands and walked slowly outside the house. Good poetry, I love Dongshan clear snow and Dongshan loves clear snow." Wang Manming followed behind the boy in white. Cui Dongshan jumped out of the house with his feet close together, and asked casually, "Wang Manming, is there such a custom in your hometown? Get up in the morning and comb your hair 100 or 200 times. Wang Manming shook his head and said, "No." Cui Dongshan tut and said, "Thank you." Suddenly he shouted, "Xianhuan, don't look at those pictures that you turned over. What's the point?" Xianhuan quickly ran out of his house and said with a face, "Where is there? There is nothing." Cui Dongshan lifted his chin towards the inside of the house. Xianhuan was stunned for a moment. He quickly understood, grinned, and went to the brazier to pull the charcoal ash to cover the charcoal fire. Wang Manming turned his head and looked at the skinny monkey man squatting by the brazier. For some reason he suddenly felt that he was pitiful and respectable. She shook her head and laughed, just a little ugly. Cui Dongshan stretched out his hand to pick up the snowflakes, and then let Wang Manming call the others in the house. The famous name was that there were so many people and he could be bold. Wang Manming walked in the snow, Xianhuan squatted by the brazier. Cui Dongshan stood on the steps. Just now, Cui Dongshan seemed to have gotten another key to open the door, and he remembered some of the past that he had been banned which had something to do with him or that bastard. "It's still in the tall building by the lake." Cui Yang asked him. "Can he be like Qi Jingchun if he is to study and cultivate himself? Is it possible to establish a religion and become an ancestor? Sword practice within 100 years, the speed of breaking through the border, the high level of swordsmanship. Can you learn it? How long will it take him to practice martial arts and boxing before he can barely catch up with Jun Qian?" Cui Dongshan was lying on the ground and Cui Yang gave the answer. Not surprisingly, everyone looked like a little bit, and the result was a 4 different look when it was dead. "I just want him to completely fail Qi Jingchun and die early." Cui Dongshan asked him, "Is this the only way to go?" Cui Yang didn't even bother to answer this question. In fact, Cui Dongshan knew very well that otherwise, it would be too late. Under the protection of the old talent and fellow seniors in Wensheng's line, Mr. Li could travel the world slowly as a Haoran Confucian student. He had no time to meet the magnificent mountains and rivers of the ages, and the strange people, and gradually perfect the many truths in his heart. The Strawshoe youth grows up slowly. With a golden guts, a book of sages, a book of truth, to refine the natal character with 2 flying swords in the first 15th day of the 15th year, great refining is the destiny, both swordsmanship and martial arts. Cultivation step by step, ascend gradually, consolidate the golden pill, land gods, go to the 5 realms, ascend realms, prove the way. So Cui Dongshan at the time asked the last question. "Are you afraid that he will become the second Yudo?" Cui Yang was silent for the first time without giving an answer. Probably judging from the situation at the time, it may be too early to say yes or no, and whether yes or no is good or bad. Because of Yudo's rampage with 4 close friends in the past, 2 of them happened to be killed by Yudo. That is to say, Yudo once walked through a questioning situation like Shi Jianghu, and only needed to walk once then walk again and countless times afterwards, the result was actually the same. Among the 10 candidates selected by Qingming Tianxia, there is an ascending woman sword immortal, Baolin. She is most famous for moving the world, not realm, not pure sword repair status, but she has asked Jian by Yujing several times. The second head teacher, the Yu Do, who is called True Invincible. The reason why Baolin and Yu Do asked Jian was well known in the world because she was one of the 4 at the time, and her Taoist companion was killed by Yu Do himself. Therefore, for the first time Baolin asked Yu Do to ask the sword. The reason was that in the entire world, anyone could kill him but only Yu Do couldn't do it. Therefore, even Sun Daochang of Shendu Temple, when talking about Yu Do's selfishness, has to admit that Yu Do is selfless. In this matter there is no doubt that he can't criticize him. In the Qingming world, all those who are prohibited, regardless of their status, state, or cause, who can kill or not, will die without exception. And the number of Taoist officials, monks and ordinary people who died in this way for thousands of years, in the 14 states of the Qingming world, how many tens of thousands? Still hundreds of thousands? Is there a million or even millions? No one goes to specific statistics. Because in the face of Yu Do, all this is meaningless and useless. This is not a question of right or wrong, it is just a question of people's minds. Those who died, all the living people around them, how they once thought and felt in the eyes of history, they are not all question marks, they are all full periods. In the history books that cherish words like gold, there is no text content. The dead and the living people around the dead at the time, they are like those blank spaces between words. All the flippers in the world, who will you pay attention to the white space on the top of the page? So Cui Yang is betting. Bet Qin Pingon will not be the second Yu Do. Cui Dongshan stretched out a palm, chanting something as if he was slapped in the face, repeatedly chanting an old bastard. Protecting the road is the best way to protect the road, embroidering tigers, and having the ability to live a few more years, go to the Qingming world to be majestic and prestigious. Suddenly, Cui Dongshan slapped a spirit, quickly closed his hand, and quickly reached out to put his hand to the center of his eyebrows, because there was no reason to think. In fact, it's just a word, Changgang. Cui Dongshan frowned, hands in his sleeves, hesitated for a moment, but still didn't make an inference. Changgang? The name of the stars is very clear to anyone who has read a few books. Since ancient times there has been a saying that East has Qiming and West has Changgang. There is a saying in Book of the Heavenly Officials, that the ancient star Changgang is like a horse covering the sky. Seeing this star will lead you up. If it is a world, Changgang is always bright. 300 years, 500 years of mourning in the world? Cui Dongshan stretched out his hand and scratched his face while learning from millet grains. The previous husband returned to Shindu Mountain from the town demon building, saying that he had thought of a pseudonym that would go to Qingming Tianxia in the future, called Qinjiu. But the husband also said that there seemed to be a better pseudonym, but he had forgotten it. Sword of Coming Chapter 968. On a snowy night, a group of 5 people walked towards the city gate in the wind and snow. The mountains and rivers of the continent are mostly such dilapidated ghost towns, like dead bone corpses that have not decayed. The wind swept across the city like a bone flute. A thin boy with extremely long eyebrows and a stern appearance, with a knife under his arm. There was a very firm snowball in the young man's hand. The old man is tall and steady, but coughs constantly as if he is intolerant to wind and cold. A middle-aged man in a cotton robe, saber. There were also 2 other people who were closer. A strong man as described in ancient appearance, leaning against the parcel. The woman is tall, her appearance is not brilliant, but she is full of vigor, with a black sheath long knife hanging from her waist and a poplar wooden handle. The young man asked in a voice, "That person really is in this ghost town? Mr. Zheng, do you think he has discovered our whereabouts long ago?" A man in a thick cyan cotton robe nodded and smiled, "I knew it a long time ago." The old man coughed a few times and there was a lot of snow falling between the sky and the earth, but the snowflakes would melt by themselves around the old man, and the white mist was vast and steaming. The Taoist person who goes up the mountain to practice is taking advantage. You can look at the breath from a distance, or look at the mountains and rivers with your palms, and rely on the ripples of the heavens and the earth's spiritual energy, and even judge the whereabouts of others through fortune-telling. Pure Takeo, even if the old man is a master of the end in this matter, it really does not have an advantage. The Pei Cup of Zhongtu Shenzhou, Han Guanghu of Jinjiazu, Wu Tan of Tonggishao, and Pei Axiang of Iazhao are all unsurprising leaders of the warriors of the continent. In short, they are the first person to play the first place. Two people, the latter did not have the strength to fight back. The other continents are not counted. For example, on the Aquarius Island, there are now two ending wufus, both from the Dali dynasty, but Song Changjing has never fought with the young hermit. As for Beiju Luzhou, it is said that there was a Lion Peak Li heir who did not know where he came from, and he had a questioning boxing with the old man Wang Fulua in private. It is said that Wang Fulua was fishing in Yuanyangzu. In the middle, he disapproved of Li heir's fist. And this old man who seems to be suffering from illness is the top spot in Jin Jiazi's martial arts, nicknamed Han Wanzhan, and has assisted and abolished 6 emperor monarchs for more than 100 years. Zhang and the great sword immortal Su Hao joined forces to stop Wanyan Laojing. So it fell. Invited by the Confucian Temple, but did not participate in the Confucian Temple discussion. This is in stark contrast to the many gods on the mountain who went to the Confucian Temple to show their faces on the pole. The old man felt that there was nothing to talk about. Anyway, there were few acquaintances, and he knew Zhang Qiaoxia, who often went fishing in Jinjiazu, but the two sides weren't a good match. Zhang Qiaoxia was too wild. Throughout the year, Han Guanghu has been in the clouds and mist, but the most important reason is that the old man is unwilling to meet Song Changjing from Aquarius. If there is no fall, he can ask a punch. In the field, when he fell, he was a dwarf and he didn't speak hard and would only feel uncomfortable. This group of 5 people met first at the Qingzhou sect of the Yu dynasty, then went to the Daquan dynasty and then traveled northward. They went all the way in a hurry, more like traveling in mountains and rivers. In addition to Han Guanghu, there is also Jian Ming, Mr. Zheng. Luoyang Myuk, with the road name Pin Resin, is a baggage fast. Qin is not a doubt from the family of Chua County in Zhongtu. Jian Ming was born in Shihao country of Aquarius Island. I gave myself a Dao name, Yu Rin Song. The boy once picked up a piece of jade from a luxuriously clothed headless corpse in a windy and snowy day. On both sides, the seal engraved the 3 characters Yunxia Mountain and a poetry-like fairy tale. The young man was once again photographed by Mr. Zheng, and he embarked on a path of spiritual practice. Qin Bugui smiled and said, "This snow in Tonghishao is weird." The dull man with the name Pine Resin nodded, "I have a lot of spiritual energy and snow is equal to money." Mr. Zheng said, "It is probably due to the previous huge night journey, the distraction of people's hearts reunited a bit, and there was such a falling snow that was sensible by nature and humans." Qin Busu said, "There is no one before. Could it be the handwriting of a certain leader of the Confucian Temple? Inspired by the saints of rites, followed by the Confucian Temple? It's a pity that she had no contact with the sages of the Confucian Temple and the Confucian Academy." Mr. Zheng hummed softly and said, "Mostly it's a matter of no one to come. My generation is fortunate to coincide with the meeting. It is not easy." A white-clothed young man holding a green bamboo stick, leading a group of heroes and monastic gods, stopped in the middle of the street. Cui Dongshan poked the ground with a green bamboo stick and said loudly, "I opened this door and I planted this tree. If you want to pass this time, you can leave it to buy road money." Before on the night ship, the wealthy Mr. Wu, the old-fashioned Mr. Wu, gave out 2 parting gifts with a wave of his hand and without blinking his eyes. Among them, the chief Zhou received a scabbard, which he could use to warm up a piece of willow. Cui Dongshan got a green bamboo stick with Chi-Chi inscription. But soon it won't belong to him, because Cui Dongshan intends to give Chai Wu as a gift for breaking the border. From the Lujin realm, which is the 3rd realm of the Qi trainer, stepped across multiple realms and directly into the 5 realms. Since Lu Qi initiated this move for thousands of years, he has looked at several worlds and made this feat of monks. It can be counted. Lu Qi is the first one, Zhoumi may be the second, the most recent one is Lu Qi's direct disciple in the Qingming world poetry Yufudi. In between, there may be several monks who are extremely hidden. But it doesn't show the mountains without dew. Wang Manmeng and Chen Hoer, who were forcibly pulled over to block the road and rob them, were reluctant and felt quite embarrassing right now. Jianming laughed. "These people are so daring. They cut the path to their own heads. They are like little demon in the temple and there are too many people in shallow water?" Cui Dongshan saw the man with the slung bag. Cui Dongshan's eyes brightened. Yes, very good," and delivered a pillow. "Not long ago, I was discussing with my husband how to invite Master Baozhai to settle down in King Shandu, and this came a Luoyang Mu guest who was born in the same line as Master Baozhai. Luoyang Myuk is a collective term that belongs to a group of reclusive wild people hiding in the mountains. There is an ancient rule that has been passed down from generation to generation. You can't touch money with your hands and occasionally go down the mountain to see people and like to barter. The old ancestor who started Howran Baozhai was born in Luoyang Muk, but because he broke the ancestral precept, he was expelled from the ancestral hall. The two sides are in the same vein and different currents. I just don't know how Lu Yen and the dull man in front of him are considered to be in the seniority of the mountain above the ancestral hall. As for the woman with the saber, it also has a very origin. Anbai is also a hometown, considered the same age in the mountains. Bai also wrote a popular praise poem for her. One of the 10 young candidates in the world, the young girl from Zhuhai Dongtian is pure and innocent. The girl's martial arts skills have been learned from Qin Busu. Qin Bugui and Song Ji both followed Qin Rong, who was born in the Qin family in Nanpasuazhou, to Huaihuan County. In Qilong Alley there, it was Jiao Lao Xinxian and Qin Lingjun who were in charge of serving guests at Luopa Mountain. Cui Dongshan said solemnly, Sister Manmeng Qian Hoer, you all retreat first, the idea is very hard and get hands together. I wonder if the opponent is strong and strong we can only outsmart, not the enemy. Let me test the depth of each other. If you don't agree with me just stand up, don't care if I'm being bullied, hurry up to find my husband, and quickly move the rescuers to rescue me. Say it in advance. Don't worry, there is no place in the world that my husband can't find. Concise, dumbfounded and still want to outsmart? Mr. Zeng reminded with his heart. Concise, if I didn't have something to discuss this time, I would definitely not want to provoke him. When I met, I would just take a detour. Concisely puzzled, is it the kind of stranger who seems to be cynical and likes to play in the world? As soon as Mr. Zeng was about to speak, he heard Concise continue to say, it must be my ancestor, how young and promising is the Yushu Lin phone. Mr. Zeng's face changed slightly, he stretched out his hand in an instant, held down his Concise shoulders, bent his fingers, tapped the young man's neck several times, and finally put his thumb against the back of Concise head, stared at the boy in white and said with his heartfelt voice, Sect Master Cui, do you lose your status in doing so? Conciseness is just wondering why Mr. Zeng's series of actions. The young monk didn't feel that there was anything wrong with his words. Because he was in an unconsciously mysterious state, he was still distracted and didn't return to his mind. Cui Dongshan looked blank. I don't admit it, what can you do with me? Come hit me if you have the ability, come to ask a punch. After the 3 punches, Lao Tzu is rolling all over the floor, you have to beg me not to die. The result was a slap on the back of the head. Cui Dongshan immediately put away this little trick. Qin Pingan stood beside Cui Dongshan. Cui Dongshan hurriedly made up for his work and turned the subject away with his heartfelt voice and said, Sir, this guy, in addition to the identity of the knife man, may also be the historical woodman. Qin Pingan was slightly surprised and asked, in the illusion of migrant wood Li Xin, who is an unknown person? Of course there are 2 people who move wood, one is the person who moved to Li Xin, and the other is the person who carries the long wood literally. The name of the former goes down in history, who cares about the latter? Cui Dongshan nodded and said, it's almost impossible to leave. Qin Pingan asked, is it an ascended realm cultivator or a ghost? Cui Dongshan smiled and said, it's the latter. Cui Dongshan put his sleeves in his sleeves and raised his chin towards the woman, and this Qin Buyu is an innocent boxing master in Zhuhai Cave. The assassin who sneaked into Luojing and cut off the head of Emperor Yu, yes, the master of Funan who has made Qingtao is also Qin Bai's sister. It's just that this group of people, whose whereabouts are uncertain, are hidden and tucked away like to claim to be victims of justice, is a very loose mountain, and they don't meet each other often, neither if you are willing to stay on the mountain and be a god, you like to run down the mountain, and your style is similar to that of the Mahis school, just similar. While Qin Pingan and Cui Dongshan were looking at the group of 5 people, the other side was also looking at the 2 young men and 1 white, 2 martial artists and 1 monk. The 3 of them happened to be old, young and juvenile. Qin Pingan clasped his fists and smiled. Mr. Zeng, he hasn't seen him for many years, his style remains the same. Mr. Zeng clasped his fists in return. It's nothing more than a rotten wood. You can't afford the word elegance. Qin Shanju has a good memory. The young man with a knife under his arm hesitated and boldly asked, are you Qin Pingan? The green shirt in front of him is different from the young hidden official in the concise imagination. During this journey, Mr. Zeng occasionally talks about the deeds of the Jianxi Great Wall. Mr. Zeng also sold it off, saying only that he owed this person a debt and that he would have a chance to pay it back in the future. However, Mr. Zeng did not elaborate on how he owed it. However, Jianming was quite happy when he learned that the young hidden official was from Ao Pingzhou, and was able to have something to do with Chen Ping'an. Even if it was to pay off the debt, Jian Ming didn't think anything. Chen Ping'an nodded and smiled. Is the little brother Mr. Zeng's disciple? He grinned concisely, didn't speak, walked around the rivers and lakes and talked shallowly. There is still some truth to this. Jiaming and Mr. Zeng next to him, although they have the status of mentor and apprentice, the young man still calls him Mr. Zeng according to the agreement. Before, concisely and secretly went to the Mirage city of the Daquan dynasty, and successfully stole this treasured sword named Mingquan from a woman who was not good at martial arts. According to Mr. Zeng's statement, this act of self-reporting is not a theft, but a return. Because it was Oizumi's Li who owed him, since he was destined to be unable to repay the interest, he had to get the principal back. Chen Ping'an smiled and said, listen to the accent, you are a member of the Shurhao country from Aquarius? Concise was stunned, frowning slightly. He just said a few words with a crappy Tongyi's Hao Yayan. Can he guess his hometown? With a smile on his face, Mr. Zeng broke the secret for the young man. I used to be escorted by Fei Jin in the wind and snow. Chui Dongshan whispered, Sir, this Mr. Zeng is very good at talking. Han Guang, who took a step forward in the snow on the ground, first looked at Song Yushao, who was standing next to the young hermit, and both sides nodded in greeting. The old Wu Fu then shifted his eyes, looked at the young man who was famous all over the world and asked with a smile, Are you Jing Chen's master? Chen Ping'an nodded and said, I am Pei Chen's master, senior? It's such an opening. The old man is an enduring martial artist, definitely Jin Jiazhou Han Guanghu. However, it seems that in the northern battlefield of Jinjiazu, together with the sword fairy Su Hao to stop Wanyan Laojing, the old man was seriously injured, obviously injuring the internal organs, and a series of sequelae caused by the fall has never been properly resolved. Chen Ping'an glanced at the young-looking air trainer again. The knife held under his arm seemed to be the famous fountain Yao Lingji threw. In this way, the young man's theft was mostly at the instigation of Mr. Zeng, the credit knife man. I just don't know if this debt has been settled. If Daquan Li did not repay the debt, would it be recorded on the head of Daquan Yao? The old man's self-registration number. The old man's surname is Han Guanghu from Jinjiazu. Chen Ping'an clasped his fists together. Luopashen Chen Ping'an has met Master Han. After Han Guanghu still had his hands down, he opened the door and said, I'm not busy talking politely. I'm going out on this trip. In addition to looking for Zheng Chen to drink and reminisce about the old days, I also want to talk to her master boxing master and Chen Zongshi for advice and exchanges. Learn from each other. Back then, on the shadow wall of the knife room of the upside-down mountain master, there was a list of various Zhangbang rewards posted, including a reward from the hand of the sign Jin Jiazhou Han Wanzhan. The reward was as high as 500 grain rain money. Buying a question box. As long as you win the Wufu Song Changjing of Aquarius Island, you can receive the reward. In fact, with that Song Changjing, the two parties have no grievances and no grudges. Sneered at little Bea Pingzu, and even more dismissive of Song Changjing, the king of the Dali domain who had just entered the end of the world, is a place worthy of having an end-of-life martial artist who sits in the mountains and rivers? This is also the origin of the old man's claim that he was slapped several times in the face of Aquarius in the Qingzhou school. On the mountain top of that little sect before, Han Guanghu had said that he wanted to find an opportunity to weigh Chen Ping'an's fists. The first dynasty of Tongyi's Hao today is the Yao family of Daquan. Han Guanghu Tong Yes's trip was to pay off his debts. There is no way, as long as you have a relationship with the person on credit, you can't escape this matter. This fascinating Mr. Zeng, when Qin Buyu and the man named Pine Resin came to Tongyi's Hao, he finally no longer hid and concealed himself. He and Han Guanghu told him that he wanted the latter to go to the Daquan dynasty. The first assistant, assisting the female emperor Yao Jingji, helped the Yao family stabilize the family business, and created a long-lasting national career on the map of Tongyi's Hao. There is still a big stall in his hometown, waiting for Han Guanghu to deal with it, not to mention giving a shot to a little girl. Han Guanghu really doesn't think he can adapt. At that time Mr. Zeng saw Han Guanghu's embarrassment and he just said with a smile, It's a matter of course to pay off debts. An extra interest. Neither a threat nor a joke, this Mr. Zeng is just stating a fact. Han Guanghu couldn't decide for a while, so he said to go to Daquan dynasty first, so the group went to Tawadu and Mirage City to see some of the customs of Daquan dynasty with their own eyes. Chen Ping'an declined. The younger generation can't be called a master. As for the questioning box, it's fine. If the older generation doesn't mind, we can cook wine on a snowy night. Han Guanghu is not too difficult for a strong person. The other party is unwilling to take a punch. He can't insist on fighting with his head. Wufu discusses it. Since ancient times, it has not been a trivial matter. Besides, I still want to let her learn boxing from my teacher, but I don't know if Zhongshu Qin is reluctant to part with her love. Can she agree to this? Qin Pingan smiled and said, Senior said and laughed. Cui Dongshan tutade, Han Guanghu Han Wanzhan Senior Han Master Han. You don't know what realm my master sister is now, it's over. Since the same realm, master sister and senior apprentice, what kind of boxing can you learn? Cui Dongshan turned his head and began to complain, Sir. I can't bear it, absolutely can't bear it. The apprentice has been robbed at the door of the house, and I will be swearing first if I put it away. Qin Pingan said, Learn from Zhou Junqin. Cui Dongshan immediately stretched out his fingers together, wiped it on the side of his mouth and sewed it on. Han Guanghu completely ignored the yin and yang of the white-clothed boy, just staring at the famous young man. Of course his peer Chao Ci was also very outstanding, but he was not as famous as Qin Pingan as a hermit in the wild world, the old man. He smiled and said, I have a few hand-pressed boxing techniques. It's not tacky. I believe it will be no problem to teach anyone. Besides, Zheng Qian used to chat with me often in Jinjiazu. The little girl said that her master didn't teach much boxing. I was surprised when I heard it. There is such a man in the world who is willing to put such a good seedling and does not cultivate it with great care. In the end, it is the reason why I am not good at boxing. I have no boxing to teach or I am too far-sighted. Gao, I feel that a disciple with such qualifications as Zheng Qian is not worthy of teaching boxing with his heart. In fact, what Pei Qin meant at that time was that the master didn't teach many punches, so my realm was not high, and the punches were not enough. If you made a joke, you laughed at me, and it has nothing to do with the master. It's just that Han Guanghu doesn't care about these things. In order to collect Zheng money as a closed disciple, an old face is not necessary. Cui Dongshan listened silly and happy, and he couldn't wait to quickly take out an account book. Just thinking about it again, it seems that if I keep my own account, I will be accounted by the master sister? Cui Dongshan rubbed his chin. Why didn't he think this deal was not a good deal? Qin Pingan glanced at Cui Dongshan. Coincidentally, there is another digger. Are you embarrassed to shoot fire on my side? Cui Dongshan immediately watched his nose and heart, looking up and admiring the snow very carefully. Han Guanghu raised his hand, squeezed his fist, covering his mouth, coughing slightly. Cui Dongshan cared, Senior Han, I have a cough medicine, do you want it? Han Guanghu choked for a while. This young man in white clothes is really cheap. From beginning to end it's hard to speak well. How Qin Pingan taught such an unreliable disciple is very different from that little girl who is knowledgeable and considerate. Han Guanghu turned a deaf ear to the boy in white and said directly, Zheng Qian approves of my apprenticeship. Since Zhongshu Qin is reluctant, then I will talk to Zheng Qian by myself. If Zheng Qian is persuaded, she is willing to change her mind. I also hope that Master Qian will not block this matter. Cui Dongshan hugged the trekking stick, coughed a few times, moved his head to the husband and said in a low voice, Mr. Sir, if the master sister is really like Senior Han said, come back and change your mind, what should I do? Qin Pingan pushed Cui Dongshan's head away, looked at Han Guanghu and said with a smile, It's just a point-to-point discussion, it's not a problem, it's just opening the door to sweep the snow. I haven't seen me as a master. You go to Pei Qian and run into a wall again. It's nothing. But now that I saw Qin Pingan, and digging into the wall so openly, I feel a little bit unethical. Qin Busis' eyes were shining brightly. Is the young hidden official finally about to punch? Cui Dongshan's face was strained hard, looking like he was gnashing his teeth, and finally did not let himself laugh. On Luapa Mountain, Pei Qian, Millet Grain, Xuanhuan, the three of them, even if they lend Cui Dongshan some courage, they absolutely dare not dig the foot of the wall. How did Huang Yiyun return to the real level at the sweeping stage at Zhangxianfeng? It was shot out by her husband Lian Xianxiu. Han Guanghu twisted his wrist lightly, looked around, and after retracting his gaze he asked, How many levels are you at the end? Return to the truth? If you hadn't made it into the real world, it would be impossible to have a fight with Chao Ci. Qin Pingan said, Like the predecessors, they have all come to the limit and returned to the truth, and have fallen a little, returning to their vigor. The implication is that since both sides are at the same level of end, no one will bully anyone. Han Guanghu laughed and said, The old man's return to the real level was touched to the threshold. Now even if he falls, he has a good foundation. If he hears a few coughs, he feels that the old man is a sick man. Be careful. Suffer. Because according to that list, Qin Pingan was still a martial artist at the top of the mountain when he was alone on the Great Wall of Sword Qi. Doesn't it mean that within a few years of returning to Howran, this 40-year-old young man broke the border twice? Good guy, it's no wonder that you can fight Chao Ci back and forth on the Gongda side of the Confucian temple. I heard that in the blue-white controversy, the young master in front of him was so hard that he used endless methods to smash Chao Ci's face? Song Yuxiao said softly, "Don't take it lightly and don't look too high." It seems to be a saying, but in fact it has two meanings. You can't take it seriously. Respecting others means respecting one's own punches. It also reminds Qin Ping not to punch too lightly in the next punch. Qin Pingan nodded and said, "Yes. Cui Dongshan is a little envious. There are not many people who can teach her husband to do things. It stands to reason that the martial arts realm of Senior Song and his husband are actually a bit far apart, but the seniors didn't feel any awkwardness, and the husband didn't think it was wrong. Probably this is Mr. S. arena. There are many heroes in the snow. There are many things in the ancient and modern worlds, and there are 3 changes of fishermen and sings outside the city." Gu Qiu took the maid Xiaofang and silently appeared on the corner of a street. Gu Qiu's expression was solemn, and his realm was extremely high. Even the young Qi trainer with a knife under his arm, who looks like a young man, is a golden core immortal. His true age is only in his 30s. As for the other 4 people around the boy, Gu Qiu couldn't see the depth of Taoism at all. Since it can't be seen, it can already explain the problem. Xiaofang's expression was pale, and he quickly moved to hide behind Gu Qiu. The tall old man, with strong fist and strong young energy, fell in the eyes of a ghost like her, like a round of scorching sun tearing through the night. The upper part is burning. It seems that she will burn her eyes just by looking at it a few more times. Because of his identity, Gu Qiu was not afraid of the pure Wu Fu's masculine intent, so when he noticed the strangeness of the boat, Gu Qiu could roughly determine that the old man was at least a great master of the mountain realm. Could it be Wu Tan, who was called Wu Sheng by Tong Yezhou? Wang Manmeng raised his fist and shook it lightly to cheer for the personable young master Qin. It's really been a long time with Cui Dongshan, and I started to feel that the gentle King Shanjin brother is more amiable and lovely. It is both lovely in winter and like a spring breeze. Cui Dongshan stomped and said, "What's wrong with you? One by one, wishful thinking, all want to be my teacher?" Wang Manmeng covered his mouth and smiled. Just as Qin Pingan wanted to say that this account should be recorded by Pei Qian, he suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. Qin Busis' expression moved slightly, and this person actually perceives the vision outside the city earlier than himself. Then there was a bright sword light bursting through the air, and a series of deafening thunders sounded in the night. I saw that sword fairy dressed in white over the city head, with the sword hanging in the air, feminine and handsome with picturesque eyebrows, which made people sigh that it was not only women who are called beautiful. The opponent is just Yujian on the road, stopping here, it makes concise Dao heart tremble, and you must hold your breath to suppress the ripples of the heart lake. Cui Dongshan jumped and scolded, "Chief Mi, you are extremely presumptuous, aren't you afraid to overwhelm my husband?" Qin Pingan smiled. "Go back and pack up this proud student." Mi Yu immediately fell to the ground from the head of the city and stretched out his hand, took the long sword that was drawn in an arc, and gently put it in its sheath, pressing the hilt with the palm of his hand and moving forward in the snow. Cui Dongshan was full of disgust and said, "Chief Mi, there is nothing wrong with you here, there must be a sword fairy sitting on the side of Shindu Mountain. Go back and go back quickly. It's really not a joke, the master sister is not in Qingping Jianzong now, the long-lived Taoist is in a realm, and the fight is not helpful, there must be someone who can fight over there to frighten the little ones." Miyu nodded and smiled, "Okay." With a little tiptoe, Miyu swept back towards the city gate, and the long sword was out of its sheath again. Miyu turned around and stepped on the sword. The sword light dragged out a white rainbow and returned to Shindu Mountain. Coming and going in a hurry, in that concise view, it was simply inexplicable and a few words were dismissed. There is still a sword fairy like this in the world. Guqiu was a candidate for this city, so when the sword fairy in white broke through the sky, he felt that a golden body, together with the entire city, began to shake. It's because of deliberately restraining the sword energy. Qin Daoda can be sure that this Miyu from the Great Wall of Sword Qi is now undoubtedly a sword repairman in the fairyland. The rumors about the Great Wall of Jianxi because of the Xishan sword immortal among their group of victims, the news about the Great Wall of Jianxi has always been more concerned. Just like this trip to Tangyi's house, it was her senior brother Lu Taoji who wanted Qin Buyu to come forward and invite the young hermit to serve as the guest of the sword immortal of Xishan line. If there is a chance, Qin Pingan might be promoted directly to the long-awaited grand guest. They have a small number of people and a very high threshold. They are roughly divided into 3 veins, each accepting disciples to pass on the incense, and they almost never contact each other. Therefore, many of the victims may not know each other for many years. Because almost all the local sword repairs of the Great Wall of Sword Qi went to wuxialover, Miyu, Nailan Xuanhuan and others who stayed in Haoran world became the focus of Xishan Jiangxian's lineage. As for Qi Tingji, no. This city had engraved the old sword fairy, which can't be climbed high. Luji. Her temperament is too withdrawn, and she has no good feelings about Haoran, so she may be hungry, and she may not be pleased when she comes to the door carelessly. Cui Dongshan asked tentatively, "Sir, do you want me to take my subordinates and my favorite generals to retreat together?" Qin Pingan said, "No." Cui Dongshan sighed, "It's a pity that junior sister is not here, and the handyman in Qilong Lane is not here either, otherwise the momentum will definitely rise right now." Qin Ping placed it on deaf ears, moved forward slowly and handed it out with one palm. "I would like to ask Senior to give a punch." The old man smiled and said, "Since you and I are in the same realm, according to the rules of the rivers and lakes, the younger ones can hand fists first." Cui Dongshan raised his arms and shouted, "Let's do 3 tricks." Sword of Coming Chapter 969. Sorry, the update is late. Snow is like snow in white clothes and the snowman is one thing. Qin Busu always felt that this person was a bit familiar, but she carefully searched through the memories of her heart lake, but no one could match the number. Cui Dongshan and Nachin Budu squeezed out big and brilliant smiles, then lowered their voices, begging Senior Song to move and follow him to watch the battle a little further, lest the 2 boundless martial artists can't use their hands and feet on this mountain summit. Then he took Wang Manmeng and the others away from the city gate. Cui Dongshan planned to choose the roof of a high-door mansion as the viewing venue. However, in today's windy and snowy night, the snow and wind were flying around and the sight was blocked. Qin Hao's vision was too high. Lo, it is destined to not be able to see the punches of both sides. In the previous conversation between Mr. and Han Wanzhan, Cui Dongshan moved a little bit, but Wang Manmeng could not hear it clearly. "When I know the identity of the 2 parties tonight, I regret. Die them." Both sides of the question box confronted each other in the street, and they were not in a hurry to make a move. Han Guanghu stood on the spot, just lifted his boots, and when he landed again, the whole street covered with snow was more than a foot thick, like being washed by hot water. The fog rose and waited until the old Wufu slowed down. Standing still, if a ground dragon is paved, the road is abnormally dry, and the falling snow does not wait for it to fall on the ground and melts on its own. In the end, only the area around Qin Pingan's feet is still left with snow. Song Yushao followed Cui Dongshan out of the street and glanced back at the vision from the corner. The old man smiled. "Who said my generation of martial arts is not a fairy?" Cui Dongshan knows very well why the husband needs the punch. Of course, it has something to do with that Han Wanzhan is not doing things idiomatically, but besides that, he has a selfish mind. Want to reassure Senior Song. How to rest assured. It's very simple. The old man only needs to see with his own eyes the current boxing technique of the young man who carried the sword in the past, and he can truly feel relieved. Song Yushao hesitated for a while, gathered the sound, and asked with the white-clothed youth next to him, "Sect Master Cui, can your husband win? Before eating hot pot, I heard Qin Pingan talk about several student disciples. Cui Dongshan is now the first suzerain of Qingping Sword Sect." The old man and Qin Pingan were alone, and they had never spoken enough to call him by name, but on Cui Dongshan's side, Song Yushao changed his name. A junior who has achieved academic success, can write a few couplets, can say a few sage doctrines or titles, glorious lintels, the elderly will definitely be pleased, but may not be completely relieved. Intrigue. The same reason walking in the arena, people are sinister, especially those with strong boxing have nothing to do with good and evil, and I have to admit that the more young people who abide by the morals of the rivers and lakes, the easier it is to suffer. Song Yushao is not fake but not pedantic and rigid. Therefore, looking at the jianghu road under Qin Pingan's feet, the old man is even more embarrassed. He hopes that Qin Pingan Avenue will go straight and the climb will go smoothly. He also hopes that this young man who has high hopes will not injured by believing in morality and following the rules. Probably this kind of ambivalence can only be found in the elders of the younger generation. Senior Song can call me Dongshan. Cui Dongshan was so prudent and dared to talk nonsense on Han Wanzhan's side. He didn't poke the disgusting person secretly, but provoke him brightly, but he didn't dare to make a hippie smile on Song Ye's side. Mr. won't lose. Even if I asked Chao Ci for boxing, on the surface he has indeed lost 4 games in a row, but my husband has his own idea. For outsiders, Chao Ci can understand it, and of course Senior Song must know it in his heart. Song Yuxiao said, I'm worried about this sudden competition. Not only does your husband want to win the boxing grandiosely, but also needs to master the scale and temperament. It's harder and harder and you suffer too much. The layman looks at the excitement and the expert looks at the doorway. Song Yushu's martial arts realm is not high, but in this life he has been accustomed to the world, dealing with the 3 religions and 9 currents, and is familiar with the world. Cui Dongshan lowered his head and rubbed his hands and smiled. It's okay, Senior Song, don't you know that, before we banished Shindu Mountain in Shindu Mountain, the husband used to teach a boxing for Tongyi's Xuanhuan? It broke the bottleneck of the 10th realm of vitality. It is only because the gentleman made his punches very well. Not only did he not hurt his harmony, but now Pushun Yunkatang is an ally on the mountain who has formally signed an alliance with Qingping Jianzhou. Let's have another one. For 100 or 2 years, the 2 family genealogy children have frequent interactions with each other, probably even if it is the friendship of the world friendship. Back then, Song Yu burned the golden basin to wash his hands, and chose to quit the rivers and lakes. The green bamboo sword fairy Su Lang, who became famous in Songshi country, refused to follow the rules of the country and broke the rules of the rivers and lakes. He insisted on competing with Song Yuxiao and just entered with a golden figure. He eagerly visited Jianshui Villa, intending to step on the shoulders of the sword sage of the country of Susui, and sit on the top spot of the country swordsmanship in the middle of Aquarius Island. As a result, a genuine young sword fairy forced Su Lang to retreat and beat him back to the town. Later, in order to retrieve the bamboo yellow scabbard, Qin Pingan found Ma Juxian while discussing matters in the Confucian temple. He even fought hard. He didn't hesitate to fight against the female Valkyrie Pei Cup and the Duduan dynasty of China. It's a pity that Qin Pingan is a kid. The old man has never seen it in person after 2 shots. The old man believed that he looked at people in his own eyes. When he first met with the sword-backed boy in his hometown, he had long affirmed that Qin Ping's future road of martial arts would not be slow, let alone bad. But Song Yuxiao didn't expect that this day would come so soon, so early, and so, the first thing to do. On the street, Qin Pingan looked around, an empty city with few visitors. In the old days at the Great Wall of Jianxi, it was still very lively when the second shopkeeper asked people to ask the boxing. Han Guanghu reminded, the old man still means that, don't hide your privates when you do it, otherwise Zhongshi Chen will just hit people in face again in this questioning. Qin Pingan smiled and said, after finishing this fight earlier, the younger generation will invite the seniors to drink. Han Guanghu laughed blankly, but the young man would speak kind words. Qin Busu and his party went to the city with the wind, and concisely drew the famous spring from the Daquan dynasty sword from under the armpit, moved the snow on the side of the city wall, grinned, there is no grievance and no enmity. It's not a narrow encounter, just meet each other, will we start fighting? Could it be that all pure martial arts who have reached the realm are martial idiots who like to meet and fight with each other? Conciseness will inevitably be a little worried, Han Lauer will be fine, people in the world say boxing is afraid of being young, and punching the teacher to death indiscriminately. Moreover, Han Lauer is now in a state of falling and has the root cause of the disease. He coughs every day. The bottle comes from the panacea on the mountain. It always treats the symptoms but not the root cause. If it weren't for Mr. Zheng to remind Jian Ming not to be willful, Jian Ming would like to steal a few Yuhua pills from Qingjing Shanqinghu Palace. On the other hand, the young hidden official, young and strong, rose extremely fast and has seen a big scene, but now it is at the peak of the scene, the weather, the state, the physique and the aura. Old man Han really picks his opponent, how to fight. Song Ji said, don't worry, the 2 sides are not murderous, they will stop at the end. When they meet, the opportunity is rare. The master of martial arts is no better than the battle of the immortal master. The latter is difficult to find and fill the gap. Wufu asked the box. Hands, not a single mind, rush to life and death, even if injured in the long run, the benefits are not small. There are only a few masters of the end in the territory of a continent. Like the Aizhou where the martial arts is thin, only Peixiang from Leigong Temple is the 10th realm of martial arts. If Peixiang wants to learn fist skills, he has to travel across continents. Beiju Luzhou will definitely not go. Wang Fuiying, the old man with a very smelly mouth, was the first martial arts person in Xiazhou and a woman. In addition, Pei Xiang himself did not travel far and liked quietness, so after reaching the end he made few punches. As a result, Pei Xiang has not been able to make it to the real level. Mr. Zheng smiled and said, "This is because neither of them has the intent to kill. As for the murderous intent in them, it is because their fists are too strong. In the eyes of the layman, it becomes killing intent. There is no killing intent. There is no doubt about this. Whether it is Han Wanzhan of Jinjiazhou or the young hermit of the Summer Palace, broadly speaking they can be regarded as comrades standing side by side. Maybe the two sides felt a little bit of sympathy deep in their hearts, but Han Lauer was thin-skinned and couldn't say it. After all, if it were not for the army of the Wild Demon clan, the Great Wall of Jiangxi had been blocked for many years, especially compared with the earliest expected result. The time that the Wild Demon clan was blocked outside the Great Wall of Jiangxi would be at least 2 to 3 years longer. This is equivalent to 2 or 3 years of preparation for the Zhongtu Confucian Temple and Jinjiazu Mountain to go down the mountain. Otherwise the casualties of Jinjiazu will only be more severe, and tens of millions of people will be killed at every turn. However, the two stop questioning boxing is not a trifling matter. As long as one side wants to tell a clear victory or defeat, any accident can happen. Besides, the punches of Han Lauer that pressed the bottom of the box with his hands were indeed not lightly weighted. Qin Buyu explained patiently, concisely, a martial artist is practicing boxing and tempering his physique. The reason why he has to keep asking people about boxing is that his mountain stones can attack jade, his body is small, his muscles and bones are like mountains and dragons, and his blood is like a river. A good questioning fist is like moving mountains and rivers, breaking and then standing, opening up a smooth path, which can make a mouthful of pure real air flow faster. In the history of Howren, it is said that there have been several great masters with profound martial arts, except in addition to his own boxing techniques, teaching people to fist and feed them is even more impressive. Not only can it help the younger generation but it can even help people heal their injuries. Of course it is only a rumor. Mr. Zheng said, "I'm lucky enough to meet 2 of you, the so-called expert Qin Daoyu." Concisely asked curiously, "Which 2?" Mr. Zheng said slowly, "Zhang Qiaoxia in the Middle Earth. Aquarius Chui Qing." Concisely said, "Of course I have heard of Zhang Qiaoxia, the world's first martial artist before Pei Cup, which one does not know, but this Chui Qing is sacred? It is actually a native martial artist in Aquarius, why not well known?" Mr. Zheng said, "Take Fuyamashita is not a monk on the mountain. He has a limited lifespan. The deadhead is not the wording of a monk who deliberately belittles the man. Therefore, after 100 years, people and deeds are old people who can be called anecdotes. In addition, this person has always regarded himself as a scholar. Later there was a family change and the family ancestral hall was removed from the name. Now you young people in Aquarius have never heard of this name. It's not surprising." Qin Buyu said suddenly, "Senior brother Zhang once came across a foreign Confucian scholar who traveled to the divine continent of China. At that time the old man appeared to be desperate. He just called himself Chui and was unwilling to reveal his real name. He was sometimes sober, sometimes crazy and seemed to be a bit distracted. Signs of enchantment, a peaceful meeting because the senior did not want to explore the identity of the other party, but only made a special trip to this person for a long journey. Whenever this person is sober he talks well and is well learned. In a word, Brother Zhang still remembers him still fresh. This man once said that a man must be true to his life, his words must be true, he must be honest with others, he must stand upright, his academic studies must be rigorous, and his punching must be reasonable." Mr. Zheng smiled and nodded and said, "Chui Cheng's lifelong desire is actually simple to say, but it's a way of doing it." Qin Budu glanced at a man in a blue cotton-padded jacket. Could it be that this person's situation is rough, and it is also the work of the person who credits the knife? The 3 lines of washing the victims have different levels of layout in Howren 8 continents. Only in Beipingzu, it seems that the Jianin line of Shishan has hit the wall and suffered a lot and soon all of them withdrew. Qin undoubtedly, that brother, it is said that the reason why he was able to leave Aquarius Island alive with a few direct disciples was because someone missed the old love and let them go. Mr. Zheng said with a heartfelt smile, "No matter how courageous I am, I will not dare to trade with Chui Cheng on credit, otherwise I will be tired and crooked, and I am destined to be unable to leave Aquarius." There were 2 groups of spectators. Qin did not doubt that they were on the side of the city, and Chui Dongshan had chosen a relatively wide-view high-rise roof. When the 2 people on the street were about to punch, Qin Pingan suddenly raised his head, looked towards the city and waved his hand. Han Guanghu went in without knowing it, neither punching nor closing his punches, nor could he turn his head and look stupidly. If Chen Ping took this opportunity to suddenly shoot, wouldn't it be the end of being knocked down by a few punches? Chen Pinggan's reputation for questioning is now widely circulated among a handful of martial artists at the top of Haoran Mountain, but it is not very good. Cui Dongshan sighed faintly and immediately followed her husband's sight, and saw a tall woman standing on the top of the city, silently appearing, standing alone in the wind and snow, squinting and smiling. As long as she doesn't want people to know, it is Cui Dongshan who thinks he can hit two immortals at will with one hand, and she is unaware. She is as good as ever to her husband. But how did she return to the world from the outside world? Song Yushao also saw the figure of the woman and said in doubt, "This one is." Cui Dongshan cautiously said, "Is it Mr. Sword Servant?" Song Yushao smiled and said, "As long as it's not that kind of relationship, it's fine." Cui Dongshan seemed to be frozen into a quail, absolutely afraid to talk. Qin Busu subconsciously held down the hilt of the knife, as if approaching an enemy, turned his head and looked at the unexpected guest. He didn't have the appearance of Miyu before the great sword, but it made Qin Busu think that this female cultivator was heaven and earth itself. Rezin turned around and wanted to move forward, trying to protect everyone, but was shocked to find that he felt as if he was stuck in the mud. It was difficult to lift his feet. Suddenly this Luoyang Mu guest found that he had condensed Dao heart, his aura was frozen, and pine resin was a complex magical power, just like temporarily returning all of it to a who came to collect debts? Mr. Zeng still maintained the original posture of looking at the street, motionless, not turning or moving, even forcibly making himself unable to read. The white-clothed woman didn't question Qin Budu about them either, but fell from the top of the city on the street, and then passed by Han Guanghu, who was about to punch. It's not to test each other's depth or to follow a female cultivator who doesn't know how serious it is, but the old man has an illusion that there is no reason to say that he can't get the punch, regrets it for a lifetime and wants to be serious again in the future. Going back to the true level is just idiotic dreams. In addition, the elderly Wufu still has an inexplicable sense of victory over the great road in the dark. The fatal enemy and natural enemy are here, and you should give this fist for the world Wufu. Qin Pinggan shook his head slightly, imperceptibly, and then smiled and asked, "Why are you here?" She smiled and said, "It's a bit boring to wait." It seems that when the two sides talked about the past, the entire Blizzard world resumed its normal operation. When she passed by Han Guanghu, she deliberately slowed down and turned to look at the old martial artist who wanted to punch. She didn't speak, but Han Guanghu's heart lake had already stirred up stormy seas, and the old man could clearly hear her cold voice, with a slight sarcasm. "It's still a bit capable. At a young age, you can understand the broken edict at the apex of the martial arts. Unfortunately, limited by the mediocre aptitude in numerology, you are destined to not reach the top, and the earthly vulgar will not see the true God. You are?" Mao Zujin said everything, and I will tell you the answer. Han Guanghu couldn't say one more word unexpectedly. Qin Pinggan smiled and introduced Han Guanghu. "Master Han, she is the elder in my family." She turned around, walked backwards, stopped by Qin Pinggan and stared at the old martial artist. With a gentle smile, she corrected herself. Wrong, this one next to me is my master." She smiled and said, "That Luchin, it's a bit hard to kill, but you just need to be cruel, it's not impossible to kill." For thousands of years, there have actually been several unknown watersheds in the vast river of time. To her they were fairy crossings. There are only a handful of Taoists who have the strength to appear at these ancient fairy crossings. Of course, there are only a handful of cultivators who can show up at the fairy crossing. If there are not enough hands, then they can stop the sword light, of course. Only less. Of course, she is not willing to take advantage of this innate advantage and bully the young monks like Lu Qin or Yu Do. Besides, once she acts like this, she is too involved, and it is easy for the long river of time to appear one or two tributaries out of thin air. The future is unpredictable. It is really unnecessary. Back then, Qi Jingchen went upstream twice during his lifetime. With two-time ferry crossings, once as a bystander he witnessed the scene of, the world's Taoist officials and blue cranes are in groups, and they are cut together. The battle of one continent and land sinks of the outer demon. Once in the present moment of all the people of the world, it was only 200 years ago between him and Dao Zhu, that Qi Jingchen and Dao Zhu had a special question in the Taoist temple of the Little Lotus Cave. Qin Pinggan shook his head. She nodded. Indeed, Jiazi time, even 300 to 500 years, is indeed dispensable for her, and safety is negligible. It is boring to stay outside, just wait patiently. As a sword bearer, at the peak of the heavens in the past years, once a sword was slashed for 300 years, causing the entire long river of time to appear a truncated flow, all turned into nothingness. 10,000 years ago, the 5 highest in the ancient heavenly court, with the exception of that one, the other 4 gods went their own way, otherwise there would not be the battle between water and fire. She smiled and said, "Young man, talk to my master in the future, be polite." Han Guanghu was extremely awkward, neither speaking nor nodding. If you can't beat it, you still have to have the strength of character. She stretched her waist. In back, the master remembers to go to the outer sky earlier to practice swords. It should be sooner rather than later, and there should be no delay. Without waiting for what Qin Pingan said, the next moment, the city's time flow reversed. Except for the 2 people on the street who were the mainstays and were not disturbed by the running water, only the roof Cui Dongshan and Cheng Tuzeng were also the exceptions. The rest of the people, it's like never seen the woman in white from beginning to end. She has returned to the outside world, coming and going in a hurry without a trace. Qin Pingan looked embarrassed and said, "Master Han, shall we continue?" Han Guanghu shook his sleeves and said out of anger, "I'm still hitting a fart." The old man was repeatedly claimed by a lady to call a young man, but the key is still not daring to talk back. What kind of a fight with you? Her master, his mother, has never been so embarrassed in this life. After a daze, Qin Pingan saw that Han Guanghu became dull, and then gave himself a thumbs up, and said something that made Qin Pingan puzzled. "I misunderstood you. Wait for each of us. Go back to the truth and ask for a good punch. Let's have a drink today and Lord Qinshan has a treat." Cui Dongshan stood up, but it was a pity that he had prepared some golden sentences for Han Wanzhan. What a good one to use his face to receive a punch. He will win if he doesn't punch. It's useless. Song Yushao frowned and asked, "What's the matter?" Cui Dongshan ridiculed a lame reason that he didn't believe it. "Han Wanzhan and my husband seemed to be standing still, but in fact there was a literary fight and old Han was willing to go down." Of course Song Yushao didn't believe it, he just laughed it off and didn't break the casserole to ask the end. Cui Dongshan took the lead and came to the house where Wang Manming was staying. Then he called Qianhauer, moved 2 tables, prepared drinks, and did not forget to let Qianhauer perform well, and went to the stove to fry some good dishes. Jian Ming asked in his heart when he came on the road, "Old Han, why didn't you fight?" The old man looked helpless and said, "Temporarily turned over the almanac, it is not suitable to ask for boxing today, it is only suitable to drink and eat vegetables." Concisely asked, "What about tomorrow?" The old man stared and said, "Go to the almanac by yourself. Jiaming won't keep joking, don't fight well Han Lauer, you have old arms and legs. What kind of prestige fight and fight? If you are in the old world of age, you lose a fight, and you may build the reputation that you have accumulated for a lifetime. Go in." Qin Budu was worried about everything and pine resin was even more puzzling. Only Mr. Zeng smiled as usual. Cui Dongshan clapped his hands and laughed. Outside the house in the heavy snow, all high-profile guests sit on. "Good, good, if you don't know each other you will be friends in the future, eating big pieces of meat, big bowls of drinking." Han Guanghu sullen his face as he poured himself a bowl of wine. Qin Pingan held the bowl in both hands and respected everyone. Concisely put down the wine bowl and couldn't help asking, "Qin Pingan, the sword fairy of the Great Wall of Sword Qi, are there really so many rumors from the outside world?" Concise, don't call Qin Shanju by his name. Mr. Zeng smiled and reminded his apprentice and then asked Qin Pingan, "Does Mr. Qin now have a character, his own name and his Dao name?" Qin Pingan didn't care, shook his head and smiled, "There are no such things. There are only a few aliases that walk the rivers and lakes. It doesn't matter if you don't mention it, it's okay. Just call them by name. In my hometown when I was young, it seemed that it was not easy to be called a name. After staying in a foreign country for the longest time, it gradually became the Great Wall of Jianghu in half of his hometown. In addition to the Summer Palace, in fact, he was often called by his name directly at the wine shop. It has always been the case for general drinkers and the gambling wine holders, either directly calling Qin Pingan, or jokingly with the second shopkeeper. Cui Dongshan said solemnly, "On the Great Wall of Sword Qi, when it comes to the number of sword repairers in the 5 realms, it is actually not as exaggerated as external rumors say, but if according to the rules of Haoran, the 2 realms of Jindan and Yuanying are also, it's quite a lot to be considered a sword immortal. However, if the Great Wall of Sword Qi is regarded as a sect of swordsmanship, standing for thousands of years, if every one of the 5 realms of sword repairs can hang statues in the Ancestral Hall, then the Ancestral Hall has to be very big, with huge walls and tall houses. Qin Pingan nodded gently. Cui Dongshan's statement is actually not the slightest exaggeration. Concisely said, be sure to visit Feixingcheng in wuxialover in the future. Qin Pingan smiled and said, practice well if you have a chance. Jianming couldn't help saying, Qin Pingan, if I remember correctly, we are about the same age. How can you speak like my elders? Qin Pingan joked, it seems that this habit of being a good teacher is not very good, but it needs to be changed. Concisely grinned, I heard that you have a good relationship with Empress Daquan? Last time I sneaked into the Mirage City, Zhang Yi stole the famous spring, but it was a pity that I couldn't see the emperor who was all over the country. Qin Pingan said helplessly, those gossips that are rumored to be ruined, forget it if you have heard it. Cui Dongshan's little chicken pecked at the rice and said, whoever takes it seriously is a fool. Qin Busu asked bluntly, Mr. Qin, have you ever heard of Shishan Jianin among the 3 lines of the victims? Qin Pingan smiled and said, ashamed, I just heard the students talk about it, I haven't heard of it before. Looking at this gentleman in a green shirt, Qin Busu couldn't imagine that he was the one before, and he beat Chao Ci out of the Confucian temple with a swollen nose and bruises. Qin Pingan from Beipingzu has always been an unknown official, but the last hermit of the Great Wall of Jiangxi is famous for moving the world. It's not that the fragrance is blooming outside the wall, but the fragrance is blooming outside the wall. Therefore, the relationship between Luopishan and Qin Pingan, and the Aquarius dynasty, has been unclear to the interested outsiders over the years, as if looking at flowers in a mist. Qin Busu is still a quick talk without concealing his fine roots and feet, and said directly, my brother Lu Taoji is a fairyland sword repairman like me in pine resin, and is also a ghost and fairy. He hopes that Mr. Qin I can serve as the chief guest officer of Shishan Jianyin's line. If Mr. Qin is willing to serve as the chief guest officer of the main hall, of course it is better. I will try my best to facilitate this with Brother Lu. The 3 meridians of the cleansing of grievances are Sanshio, military commander, and swordsman. The number is not large, they are all over the vast 9 continents, and there are dead soldiers in the rest of the world. Mr. Zheng turned his head and glanced at the heavy snow outside the house, and said with a soft smile, snow injustice. Cui Dongshan held back for a long time, and when the man on the credit card interjected, he finally had the opportunity to speak, according to the situation. Qin Pingan asked, Senior knows who cut off the head of the emperor of the Yu dynasty? Qin Busu said indifferently, my junior sister did it. Cui Dongshan raised his arm high and was about to slap on the table with a slap. You are endless, Han Wanzhan is here to dig the foot of my sister's wall, Miss Qin please dig my husband directly? Cui Dongshan just noticed her husband's sight, and Cui Dongshan acted aggressively. He just wiped the table lightly and said, Master Qin, don't persuade, my husband will not agree. There are so many things. This kind of thing is purely a foreign object. Don't worry about the imaginary title. Qin Bugui smiled and said, Mr. Qin can consider it slowly. Don't worry, Brother Zhang and I will wait for the news slowly. Cui Dongshan started to interrupt again, turning his head to look at the dull-gored man. Taoist Resin, are you familiar with that guy whose real name is Xianxia? Resin shook his head, unfamiliar. Xianxia went down the mountain early. In his early years, he had only met face-to-face in the mountains and he did not remember him deeply. How to calculate the ancestral grade in the ancestral hall? He called my uncle. Cui Dongshan nodded and said suddenly, a villager who has a relationship with relatives, and the poor have a high level of seniority. Resin nodded and said, it's almost the same reason. Friends Taoist Resin, are you planning to leave the mountain? The pine resin was also refreshed. It actually revealed the plan of Luoyang Muker's lineage. Before the old master retreats I changed my mind and said that it is not reasonable to always hide in the mountains. Let us go down to find 3 places to stay. Point, except that the location of Zhongtu Shenzhou has been determined, the other 2 continents are to be determined and need to be on site. I am responsible for finding suitable sites in Aquarius and Tongya. The city is a good choice. On the Tongyi's house side, the Tawadu outside Daquan Mirage City, the southernmost Kashandu, and the Qingjing Mountain to the north are all candidates in my mind. The rest of the 6 continents are abundance. There are also 6 groups of Luoyang Mukers traveling. This is also an internal competition for us. Whoever wins is equivalent to starting the mountain. Cui Dongshan smiled and asked, who persuaded your old patriarch, the traitor Xianxia, that he is so courageous? Is it because of his wealth and wealth? Resin shook his head and said, Xianxia didn't dare to go back to the mountain. It was Mr. Fan's suggestion. Cui Dongshan was not surprised either. This old businessman has a great future. The current monks in the world have not realized one thing. In the previous discussions of the Confucian Temple, according to the instructions of the Saint of Rites, once the ban was opened, the patriarchs of the patriarchs of the patriarchs of the philosophers and the patriarchs had no more worries and taboos. Cui Dongshan asked, "Brother Pine Resin, what do you think of us, King Shandu?" Resin still said bluntly, "Not so. I've seen Shindu Mountain a few times before. The site is too small and the foundation is too thin. The main reason is to look at the Qingping sword sect, which is not like a sect who is willing to make the sect noisy and chaotic. Swordsmanship in the world has always been this way. Besides, Jianxia is the head of the 4 most difficult ghosts on the mountain who wants to be close. As long as there is a conflict, it is obvious that you will suffer. When dealing with money, refreshing is the top priority, and you are afraid of encountering unreasonable goods when doing business." Cui Dongshan hurriedly lifted both palms and shook them. "Brother Pine Resin, take a long-term view and open your mind. This is the grace to open the door to welcome customers and do business." Songji said straightforwardly, "Even if you say you are going to break the sky, I will not choose King Shandu. We have rules on the mountain and the other 2 sites are selected. No matter which continent they are on, they are not allowed to be close to the top immortal palaces, especially the swordsman sect." Cui Dongshan tentatively said, "In Tonggishao, there is a fairy house on the mountain with a long history, a large number of talents and a simple folk customs. It is called Lingbai Mountain. Yundu, do you think it's a coincidence? Is it a fate? It's a mountain and a wild mountain guest and wild people, and you are not just the staring at the mung bean, and you will catch each other's eyes at once?" Resin frowned and said, "Lingbai Mountain and Yundu? Where is it?" Without waiting for Cui Dongshan to continue to swindle and abduct, Qin Pingan has already spoken. "Don't choose this place for Taoist Pine Resin. The limitations are too big. Even if you are willing to spend money to expand the ferry, it will be very difficult to dock a transcontinental ferry." Resin nodded, lifted the wine bowl and drank it all in one fell swoop. The site must be able to dock at least 3 intercontinental ferries at the same time. Cui Dongshan said, "What about the Rin River?" Pine Resin thought for a while. "It's barely possible on the Xinghe River. The boundaries on both sides of the river are vast, but it's still not as good as the Tayedu of the Daquan dynasty and the Kishandu of the south." Cui Dongshan said with a smile, "Then don't worry, just wait and see." Qin Pingan picked up the wine bowl, shook it gently and was stunned. He said in his heart, "I know." The next moment, Qin Pingan sat on the railing of a long golden bridge, still holding the bowl of wine in his hand. The woman in white smiled and said, "Is it boring?" Qin Pingan looked around. "Isn't it true?" She shook her head and said, "The situation tens of thousands of years ago is just what I think in my heart. It's probably just like what the world books of later generations say, the wind and snow are old and familiar, and the bright moon is always reunited, so it is difficult for people to meet again. By the way, don't want to see Jing Dafeng and Fan Junmeo's predecessors? It's okay to have a few words with them. It's hard to tell whether it's true or false." Qin Pingan shook his head, thought for a while and asked curiously, "Are the 2 flying platforms far from here?" She smiled and said, "The term distance is given by later generations. The direction of the heart is the direction of the sword." Qin Pingan finished drinking, lifted the white bowl in his hand, leaned forward and asked, "If I drop the wine bowl, if there is no obstacle in the way when the white bowl touches the ground, it will be a few years later?" She smiled and said, "Then try it." Qin Pingan gently threw the wine bowl out of the bridge in his hand and smiled and said, "The broken pieces will be safe for 10,000 years, and the 10,000 years will be safe." She stretched out her hand and rubbed Qin Pingan's head. "I hope the master will always be young." Withdrawing her hand, she supported the railing with both hands. "It is different after all." Qin Pingan hugged the back of his head with both hands, gently shook his legs outside the bridge rail and laughed softly. "It's not easy." After a moment of silence, Qin Pingan asked the biggest question in his heart, "Why did the world's magic spells fall like rain in the first place? If it were not for this heavy rain of swordsmanship and supernatural powers, and it fell on the earth and earth, there might not have been the rise of later human races." She looked into the distance, and there used to be one who looked after the eternal stars alone. Year after year, she blinked with Qin Pingan next to her and said, "Question and answer by yourself." You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.